Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Let Us Head Fanfics, back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Was Fed Up and Became Villain. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. All Might Izuku growled as he looked on the poster hanging in his room. He had the great luck of meeting his now former idol earlier that day, but he left the encounter empty. No, without power, I don't think it is possible to become a hero. That single line played on repeat in Izuku's mind. It was the answer he had gotten from the number one hero when he asked if he could become a hero, even without a quirk. It was Izuku's dream of becoming a hero ever since he was little, but life was cruel, unlike 80% of the world's population. He wasn't blessed with the power known as quirks, but even so Izuku kept trying, becoming an outcast in the progress. Society shunned him, and his childhood friend became his number one bully. And now the man who used to be his idol, the number one hero and symbol of peace, had crushed the last embers of his dreams. In a fit of rage, Izuku ripped the poster of All Might off his bedroom wall. So that is how it is. You're just like the rest of them. Just another gear in the machine made to suppress everyone who doesn't fit. Everyone who is too different and too weak to defend themselves, Izuku grumbled to himself. It's not fair, he snapped. There must be some way, a better way. A system where the weak aren't suppressed. One that doesn't need titles such as heroes and villains. Villains are only the result of the system, forced into crime because the government only cares about their precious heroes. Izuku rambled quite loudly. He wasn't worried about his mother hearing him. She had been called into work in a different city and would probably not be back before the next day. Izuku started walking around his room, tearing down all the posters and throwing away his action figures. You taught me one important thing, All Might, Izuku said, as he ripped off the umpteenth All Might poster. If you want to change things, you need people to listen. And if you want people to listen, you need power. So, if I want to change the entire system, I need a lot of power, Izuku concluded. Once Izuku had taken away all the merchandise, he sat down on the computer. And if I want power, I need help, he muttered and began researching, looking for means to transfer or give oneself a quirk. The most promising result he found was one article mentioning someone gaining a quirk late due to extreme trauma. No way, I'm putting myself through that. The only other thing could be transferring the code for a quirk in the DNA. But all experiments on that has yielded no results. But if you would be able to force the entire body to adapt to the new DNA, then maybe. But then you would have to isolate the quirk from someone else's DNA and insert it into your own. CRISPR should be able to do that, Izuku muttered and began making calculations to check if his idea would be possible. That's it, Izuku exclaimed after hours of calculating. It's possible, and no wonder why nobody ever tried it. Just a single experiment would go against several human rights. But progress is never achieved without sacrifice. I need someone who could support me in my required experiments. Someone who I could benefit working for, Izuku muttered and began another round of research. Eventually found someone who probably could help him. The League of Villains. They had managed to gather a huge amount of followers without having done anything, meaning that someone powerful must be behind it. Izuku then noticed how late it was and went to bed. Izuku spent most of the next day preparing for meeting Tamura Shigaraki, the apparent leader of the League of Villains. That was until he overheard a news report later that day. A restaurant had been attacked by a villain and the guests were held hostage. Izuku didn't pay much attention until he realized something. That restaurant was one his mother would often go to after work. Shit, Izuku exclaimed and ran faster than he ever had before towards the restaurant. Once Izuku arrived, his worst fears were confirmed. Through the windows of the restaurant he could see his mom looking at the villain in fear. Izuku was furious at the villain. He almost started running into the restaurant to kill the villain himself when something happened. Worry not, citizens. Why? The iconic voice said. Because I am here, All Might exclaimed as he came crashing through the window and punched the villain, seemingly knocking him out. At that moment Izuku dropped the anger he felt as he was relieved that his mother had survived. Inko came walking out of the doors and quickly saw her son. Meanwhile, All Might was surrounded by fans and was signing autographs. In that moment, Izuku didn't care as his mom came running towards him while crying out his name in relief. However, Izuku's smile dropped as he saw something in the corner of his eye. The villain wasn't unconscious and was now lifting a gun straight at Inko and fired. Once the shot was fired, All Might knocked out the villain properly, but it was too late. The bullet went straight through Inko's skull and she dropped dead right in front of Izuku. Izuku could do nothing else than stare at his mom's dead body as blood leaked out of the hole in her skull. He knew he should be sad, but instead he felt empty, like someone had taken out all of his emotions and pulled him out. Young Midoriya, All Might weakly called out behind him. Now he started to feel something. Slowly he was filled with an emotion he had never felt to this extent. Rage. I'm sorry, All Might said carefully. Izuku slowly turned around and looked at his former idol as frowns started appearing on his face. Sorry for what exactly? He asked. Crushing my dreams or killing my mother? Izuku asked with venom in his voice. I'm sorry for not saving her, All Might replied. Izuku looked curiously at All Might for a while before his face twisted in fury and he snapped at the hero. If you hadn't been so busy with your stupid fans and taking in all that undeserved praise, you would have noticed it in time. Izuku yelled as tears were streaming down his face. You would see that the villain wasn't taken care of. You would have seen the gun. You could have. Mom wouldn't be. Izuku continued as his voice hitched and fell to his knees. Cry. Then, while crying, he started chuckling, then slowly evolving into a maniacal laughter. Wasn't it enough, Izuku shouted through the laughter, to crush my dreams? Or did you have to kill my mother? The only one who cared about me, just to show me how useless I am? Izuku asked as All Might looked on in shock as the teenager broke down in front of him. You're no better than the rest. The entire system is rotten. Izuku yelled as he slowly got up. I'll destroy it all. I'll burn it all down and make a better world. He continued and slowly turned around. He then got quiet and looked at All Might with an insane smile. I will kill you, he said in low and threatening voice before he started running away, laughing. I will kill you, All Might. I'm tired of waiting, sensei. When can we kill All Might? Shigaraki asked in annoyance. All in due time, Tamura, came the reply from a monitor only showing static. We must wait for the right, the voice continued, but suddenly stopped. Someone is coming, he said in a low voice just before the door into the bar opened. From the door came a boy, no older than 14 and with green hair. The boy walked straight in and took a seat by the bar counter. A glass of water, please, he said like he owned the place. Kurogiri didn't say anything and gave the kid his water. Meanwhile, Shigaraki was getting annoyed over the unknown boy. He just felt there was something not quite right. Which one of you is Shigaraki? The boy suddenly asked after a few sips. What do you want? Shigaraki asked in a hostile manner. It's regarding this so-called League of Villains. And from what I have gathered, you're the one I should talk to, the kid answered. We don't use minors to attack All Might. You're too young to be useful, so get out, Shigaraki retorted. He was really starting to get annoyed with the kid's attitude. I have no plans of joining the rest of the cannon fodder, nor do I plan to join your league. Instead, I will offer you my assistance in other ways, and in return I simply want a place to live, and a place and the subjects needed to conduct my experiments, which will help you further, the boy explained in the same assertive tone. And we don't need whatever research you plan to do. So go now before I get truly fed up with you, Shigaraki threatened. The threat didn't faze the mysterious boy at all, and he simply finished his drink as Shigaraki grew more annoyed. After a few tense seconds, the kid finished his glass and put it down. He then looked straight at Shigaraki with a small smirk. But you aren't really the one in charge, are you? You're just the face of this organization. And if I'm not wrong, I think your boss is listening right now. Isn't that right? The boy said and turned towards the monitor. All for one. What followed was a long period of silence as every person in the room looked at the monitor in anticipation. I must say that I am interested in this research you talk about. I would like if you could elaborate some more, came the response from the screen, breaking the tension that had been built up. Of course, the unknown boy replied. I intend for two different things with my research. One you will benefit from greatly and one which is for my personal goals, both of which will require research and experimentation into quirks and the idea of quirk transfer. For this I will of course need subjects with a great variation of quirks as well as the right equipment, but in the end I will be able to transfer or copy quirks from one person to another. And for you I will be able to offer mindless, obedient soldiers that can in theory take on All Might, the kid explained. We don't need your help, Shigaraki grumbled. Not so fast, Tamura. This could greatly aid our cause. Not only that, but I look forward to see the results of this research into quirks, All for one said. What is your name? He asked. Call me Deku, Deku replied. Okay, Deku, you will be given what you ask for. However, you will have 1 year to produce the results you have promised. If you fail to reach this goal, well, then I will allow Tamura to do whatever he wants with you. Do we have an agreement? All for one said. I think we do, Deku replied. Good, Kurogiri. I think there should be room available for our guest downstairs. If you could show Deku the way there, All for one requested. Of course, Master, Kurogiri replied. This way, Deku, he said, and started showing Deku the way downstairs. Once Kurogiri and Deku had left the room, Shigaraki let out his bottled-up anger. Why should we let him work with us? He complained and turned a glass into dust. He didn't tell us what he means by personal goals. He didn't even tell us his real name. There's no way his name is Deku, Shigaraki continued. Calm down, Tamura, All for one ordered. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. We are taking a risk with this Deku, but if he can deliver what he promises, then we will have a greater chance of killing All Might. If he fails, we simply get rid of him. And if goes against us, then it is simple for me to deal with that as well. Not to mention that I am very interested in what he means by researching quirk transfer. There have been many who has tried transferring quirks using science, but all have failed. I want to see his approach. Keep an eye on him for me, All for one said. Yes, Sensei, Shigaraki replied before the monitor was turned off. Just then Kurogiri came back without Deku. I gave him one of our labs in a combined bedroom and bathroom that was beside each other, Kurogiri explained, and went back to cleaning glasses in the bar. What is he doing now? Shigaraki asked. Organizing the equipment and writing in a book, Kurogiri answered. Shigaraki just huffed in response. Phoenix Journal, Number 1. Introduction. This journal and the entries within it are for me and my eyes only. This is why I am writing this in encrypted code, to ensure that no one except me will understand what is written here. If anyone were to ever find out what is written here, Operation Phoenix will be in grave danger, and that person must be killed immediately. If someone else are able to acquire this journal or following journals, retrieving said journal will become number 1 priority. If that is not achievable, destruction of journal is preferred over potential enemies decrypting its content. None other than me can know the secrets of my research. Entry 1. I have gotten settled in with the League. Shigaraki hates me. Kurogiri is polite, and all for one is still a mystery. The important thing, however, is that I got my lab and a place to sleep. Subjects to experiment on should arrive within a few days. Quirkless people, people with quirks, all of them different. Luckily, I can begin applying my theory to the samples I have already brought with me. It wasn't difficult getting samples from Kaken. His beating did have a positive effect after all. Several bits of hair left in my clothes for me to research on. I hope he will get the chance to see me use his own quirk against him once I have copied it. I still think that is months away. Entry 6. Kurogiri is surprisingly nice. He offered me some tea when I was about to explode with stress. It really calmed my nerves. If only my experiments could work as well. First, the subjects died because of the forced replication of the new DNA. Then they survive for a short while without a quirk before dying. Then they decide they can make the equivalent of a firecracker. A fucking firecracker. Then they die after 2 or 3 hours, of course. And now they have the proper quirk. Big explosions and all, but they still die after a day. I still have a few kinks to work out. Maybe adding a nutrition boost into the serum to help the evolution process will help. Entry 7. The subject has survived for a week. Experiment is now considered a success. Will inject myself with explosion quirk tomorrow. Kurogiri was cleaning glasses like usual when the door from the floor under literally blew open. Kurogiri, give me your best drink. Deku exclaimed with a little giggle and sat down by the counter. Be quiet. I'm focusing, Shigaraki complained from a corner where he was playing a game. Kurogiri then made a glass of soda and gave it to Deku. You're still a minor, the bartender said before Deku could protest. So why so happy all of a sudden? Kurogiri asked. This Izuku replied and released a series of explosions from his right palm. I finally managed to copy a quirk and give it to myself. Now I can begin on Project Nomu, he explained. Project Nomu? Kurogiri asked. Nomu is the name I will give to the mindless soldiers I promised. They will have multiple quirks, only basic intelligence and complete obedience to their masters. I just need to find a way of combining at least 4 quirks and make the subject obedient. But I should be able to do so in time, Deku explained. Can't you give multiple quirks the same way you transfer one? Kurogiri wondered. Unfortunately, no. I have tried a few times already and the results aren't pretty. If you want to keep your sanity, a beating heart, and you don't want your lungs and stomach switching places and a liver that produces poison, then 1 quirk is the limit. Don't worry, I'll figure it out, Izuku said and went back to his lab. Entry 8. Injection of explosion quirk was successful, and I had a nice talk with Kurogiri. Also remember to add painkillers to next self-injection. It hurt like hell. No wonder the others were screaming. Finally, Deku muttered as he looked over his creation. You're finished. My first Nomu. The weapon that will take down All Might, he said in awe. He then began letting out a slow and sinister laughter. This will be the beginning of the end for you, All Might, and the rest of society with you, Deku said while laughing, before calming down. Come Nomu, let's show the others that they didn't wait in vain, he ordered and began walking up to the bar. I have great news for you, Deku exclaimed and kicked the door to the bar open before entering. What? Don't tell me it's another useless quirk you have given yourself, Shigaraki said in a disinterested tone. No, you will like this, Deku replied, before summoning his creation Nomu. On command, the big bird-like creature with an exposed brain entered the bar, surprising both Kurogiri and Shigaraki. Is that it? Kurogiri carefully asked. Yes, this is what I have promised you, Deku answered. How do you know it can take on All Might? Shigaraki asked. Well, I can't guarantee that this Nomu will be able to kill All Might by himself. All Might's full strength is difficult to calculate, but I'm confident that this Nomu, along with some help, will get the job done. He has shock absorption, hyper regeneration, super speed, super strength, and a few amplifying quirks. And as I promised, he has no free will and will follow any orders given by its masters, Deku explained. But please don't go and lose it right away. It would take me 2 or 3 months to make a new one, he quickly added. I am impressed, Deku. With a month and a half to spare, you managed to deliver what you promised, came the voice of All for One from the monitor. I wonder, What do you plan on doing forwards? He asked. I will continue producing nomas according to your needs, of course. Beyond that, well, I will continue my research into quirks so that I can improve myself further and work on my own more personal projects, Deku replied. Oh, and bring along the end of All Might in society, he quickly added. Interesting. I will follow your progress with great interest, Deku all for one said before the screen turned off. Well, I need to go now, Deku said and headed for the exit and picked up a black hoodie. Where do you think you're going? Shigaraki asked. I'm going out. I need some fresh air, Deku replied and walked out. Once Deku was out, he pulled the hood over his hair to make sure nobody would recognize him. His green hair was recognizable from anywhere, and even if there were few who would recognize him, he didn't want to take chances. So, he kept walking with one destination in mind. Eventually, Deku arrived at his location, an almost empty park with only a few people walking around late at night. Deku sat down at an empty park bench and waited. A few minutes later, a tall and slim man, with black, spiky hair and a face with several patches of burnt skin. The man sat down right beside Deku. You're late, Todoroki, Deku commented. What have I told you about using that name? Or do you want me to start using Midoriya? The man said in annoyance. Just kidding, Dabi. Must be allowed to have some fun every now and again, Deku said with small grin. Dabi just let out a sigh. Get on with it. What did you want to tell me? He asked. I want you to join the league, Deku replied. Why would I join those idiots? I will need someone I can trust within the league in the future. Not now, of course. It would raise suspicion. First, they will have to execute their attack against All Might. Sometime after that, UA will have their sports festival, meaning more heroes and less villains. After that, I will try to set up an incident that will give attention to the league. That's when I want you to join them, Deku explained. Then, Dabi inquired. We help the league so far we can. Exploit the fame and power they will gather, and when the time is right, well, we kill them and take their place at the top. Once we're there, we can destroy society as we know it and begin to build a better one, Deku replied and got up. I have to go now. I don't know if we'll get the chance to talk like this again for a while, he said and began walking away. Oh, I almost forgot. Try to find another ally. Someone who would agree with us, Deku quickly added before he disappeared. Soon it'll begin, Dabi quietly chuckled to himself. The end of the fake heroes. I can't wait to see the expression on Father's face. After having talked with Dabi, Deku went somewhere else, a place he hadn't been to in a long time. It didn't take him long before he stood in front of an apartment door. He opened the door and walked into what used to be his old home. Still the same, Deku mumbled as he looked around the apartment. He walked by a door that still had an All Might-themed nameplate on it and stopped. Right, I forgot this one, he said to himself and picked the nameplate off the door. Better late than never, he said, blew it up with an explosion. Deku then walked into what used to be his bedroom and looked at the empty walls. All of that for nothing, he muttered, and was about to leave when he saw something. Or maybe not, he said, and picked up one of his journals and looked at a random page. Backdraft, he said, and began muttering through what he wrote on the hero until he found what he was interested in. Despite his quirk's several uses, he severely lacks in the power behind his water. Someone strong enough, even without a quirk, could probably stand against his water attacks without losing footing. Backdraft also seems to have a limit for how much water he can produce and control at any given moment, meaning he would be unable to attack or defend himself against multiple villains at the same time. It is also safe to assume he lacks skills in hand-to-hand combat, considering his quirk works at mid-range. Once Deku finished reading, he let out a chuckle. Who knew that notes made to become a hero could be used by a villain, he said, and put the journals in a black backpack and left the bedroom. Deku continued to walk around the apartment, reminiscing about the past, all the times he would play with his mother, all the great food she made, and his younger self jumping in excitement as he watched the latest hero news. If only it had stayed that way, Deku said in a saddened tone. He then walked into the last room of the apartment building, his mother's bedroom. It was a simple room, only containing a double bed with a nightstand on each side. On the left one was an unfinished book, an alarm clock, and a lamp. On the other nightstand, there was only a picture of Inko and a man Deku had no memory of, other than that photo. Deku looked around for a while with a sad look before pulling out a plastic bag from his pocket. Just need one DNA sample, he mumbled, and began collecting samples, finding a few strands of dark green hair. I'll make you proud, Mom, Deku whispered and started heading towards the exit. He then suddenly stopped as he heard someone opening the door. Deku listened carefully as he heard someone walk into the apartment. It was just one person. He then heard the unknown person drop a bag in the kitchen. Deku was filled with curiosity and walked out of his mother's bedroom to face the stranger. Who's there? Deku yelled and faced the intruder. He could see that the stranger was a man with black hair, who jumped in surprise when he saw Deku, and a small fire escaped high mouth. The man calmed down and looked at Deku with disbelief. Son, the man asked. Hasashi, Deku replied as he realized who the stranger was. Why would you come back now? He asked without any emotion. Well, I was busy being a hero across the sea in the States when I heard about Inko. Since I haven't been here for most of your life, I decided to come back and take care of you. But you weren't here, so I have been looking everywhere for you ever since I came here, Hisashi explained. You're a hero? Deku asked. Yes, son, didn't your mother tell you? Hisashi replied. Why? Why did you become a hero and leave us? Deku continued. It's a well-paying job, especially in the US. I guess the fame is a nice bonus to Hisashi answered. You're a fake like the rest of them, Deku grumbled and turned around to leave. You have no idea what you are talking about, son. You should, Hisashi said in a threatening manner before Deku interrupted him. Don't call me your son. You left me and mom for years. You don't deserve to call me your son. He yelled. All right, I see. Hisashi said. Deku looked at his father in disbelief. You forgot, he said quietly. Well, it's been a long time. Why don't you just give your old man a little reminder, Hisashi chuckled nervously. Deku just looked at Hisashi without any emotion. Come on, say something, Hisashi said, uncomfortable with the silence. Then, Deku lunged forwards with an explosion and blew Hisashi into the wall. He grabbed a knife that was nearby and stabbed it into his father. Hisashi looked at Deku in complete shock, unable to process what just happened. Deku then pulled out the knife before plunging it back in. You're not my father, he said, and repeated the process. You're just another fake in a corrupt society. Another stab wound. You never deserved my mother. Hisashi received another stab wound. You don't deserve to live, Deku said and stared Hisashi straight in the eye before slicing the knife across his throat. You don't deserve to know my name. You've had the chance once and you threw it away, Deku said and crouched down. You will only know me as the villain that killed you. Deku, he said, and got back up as his father drew his last breath. You ruined this place with your presence, Deku whispered and looked through the kitchen. There is nothing left, so why not burn it down and give room for something new? He questioned, as he found a couple bottles with alcohol. Deku opened the bottle and started pouring the content on the furniture. Goodbye, Deku said and used an explosion to light up the now very flammable furniture. The fire quickly spread and engulfed the dead body of Hisashi. Deku was quick to leave the building, and as he walked back to the League's bar, he could see a raging fire in the distance. When Deku came back to the bar, he wasn't in the best of moods. How was your trip out, Deku? Kurogiri asked. Not great, not terrible. I'd rather get some rest now. Have something I need to work on tomorrow. Good night, Deku replied tiredly. Understandable. Have a good night, Kurogiri said before Deku went downstairs. I wonder what happened. I haven't seen him like this before, Kurogiri wondered. I don't care. All I care about is if he keeps making Nomus or not, Shigaraki said. You should care more, Tamura. Deku isn't a member of the League. Only an ally. You should keep close attention towards him. You never know when your allies will betray you, all for one said. Bakugo was sitting on his desk thinking about Deku for some reason. He didn't like admitting it, even to himself, but something had changed when Deku disappeared. It had been hard for him to hear the news of Inko's death, but when Deku disappeared, it somehow got worse. Afterwards, Hisashi came and moved into Inko's apartment, seemingly untouched by the fact that his son was missing. Then, just a few weeks ago, the entire apartment complex burnt down and Hisashi was found dead in the wreckage. The thing that kept nagging in the back of Bakugo's head, however, was the fact that Hisashi had received several stab wounds and his throat had been cut just moments before the fire began. How could that have happened? The man was a pro hero and someone had killed him in his own home. It didn't make sense. Bakugo's thoughts were interrupted when Aizawa told them to head towards the bus that would take them to USJ. Meanwhile, Deku was making his final preparations for their attack on the USJ. They knew All Might would be there according to the schedule Shigaraki had gotten his hands on a few days ago. What was even better was that All Might had done quite a lot of hero work earlier this day, meaning he was nearing his limit. Is the Nomu ready, Deku? Shigaraki asked. Yes, it is. It will follow your and Kurogiri's orders, unless it is in conflict with one of my own orders. In that case, it will do what I say, Deku explained. He then walked to his lab to get his villain costume. It was quite simple. Black pants, a white shirt, and a white lab coat. Under the coat, Deku had a brown leatherback harness with several pouches containing his equipment. He also had a utility belt lined up with darts containing several drugs and substances, along with another pouch. Once Deku had gotten everything he needed, he walked back up to the bar. I'm ready, let's go, he said. Kurogiri then made a warp gate and they walked through it. When Deku emerged out of the warp gate, he took a look around the facility. It was massive, just like you would expect from UA. Right ahead of him was a massive staircase, and on the top stood Class 1A. Deku looked through the students for one person. It didn't take long until he saw the shocked face of his old childhood friend. Deku then noticed that their teacher, Eraserhead, had jumped down the staircase and was fighting the petty villains. I hate it when pros live up to their reputation, Shigaraki commented and scratched his neck. They're only fodder anyways. All Might isn't here though. Maybe he reached his limit. Deku replied. Kurogiri, go and spread out the students and remember who I wanted to have a little chat with, he ordered, and Kurogiri disappeared. Not long after, a portal opened up for Deku. Don't screw this up, he told Shigaraki and walked through the portal. After walking through the portal, Deku found himself at the landslide zone. It didn't take long before he saw his target, a boy with red and white hair who was currently interrogating two villains he had frozen. Todoroki, the boy with 2 quirks and son of the number 2 hero, Endeavor. I can't wait to see what I could learn from you, Deku said to himself. He walked up behind Todoroki. How do you plan to kill All Might? Todoroki asked one of the frozen villains. Suddenly, Deku took out a dart and stabbed into Todoroki's neck. I can answer that for you, he said in a cheerful voice as the other boy fell on the ground. Deku walked over to the paralyzed student and pulled out a syringe and a pair of scissors. Sorry for the inconvenience, but people can be so reluctant. It's easier to just paralyze them, Deku said and cut off some of Todoroki's hair with his scissors. Todoroki tried to say something, but all that came out was small grunts. Don't worry, I just need some samples of your DNA and I'll be on my way, Deku said and put the syringe into one of Todoroki's veins and started pulling out the blood. Maybe you should use your fire some more, Deku commented. When the syringe was half full, Deku was interrupted by someone punching him in the back of his head. Who did that? He yelled and pulled out the syringe. He tried looking for the attacker, but couldn't see anyone. Toru Hagakure, Deku called out. He saw some dirt being kicked up, as if someone flinched when he said the name. I would recommend you to not to get in the way of my research, especially considering there isn't much I could learn from keeping you alive, he threatened. Although, I think I already have what Deku began saying, but was interrupted when he saw ice being shot towards him. Damn it, forgot about the time limit of the drug, Deku cursed to himself. He didn't have time to dodge it, so he destroyed it with an explosion. Todoroki was shocked when he saw a villain have the same quirk as Bakugo. Are you surprised, Todoroki? Does it seem familiar? Deku teased and showed off his quirk. Then, one of Kirigiri's portals appeared. Looks like our meeting is over. I have to see an old friend and thank him for this power, Deku said and walked into the portal. Bakugo was walking through the ruins zone with Kirishima when a portal appeared in front of them. When Bakugo clearly saw the person coming through, he froze. Oh, someone else. I don't like being interrupted, Deku said and threw a dart at Kirishima before he could harden his skin. After a few seconds, Kirishima fell unconscious. Deku, what are you doing with the villains? Bakugo asked. Oh, I'm just changing the world for the better. What's with that face? Surprised to see me? Kaken, Deku replied, dragging out the last part. Why did you join them? Didn't you want to become a hero? Bakugo exclaimed. Me, a hero? Who was the one who always said that I could never become a hero? Who was the one who said I was useless? Deku yelled. Bakugo didn't respond. Seems like you were right in one thing. I will never become a hero. Although, I'm no longer useless or quirkless, Deku said. Bakugo looked at Deku with a confused look before he continued. I really should thank you for that. After all, it is your quirk I replicated, Deku said and showed Bakugo the explosion he could make. Bakugo's expression turned from one of confusion to one of shock. How did you? He asked before suddenly becoming angry. That's my quirk, you bastard. Bakugo yelled and charged at Deku. I don't have time for this, Deku lazily said and blew Bakugo back with a massive explosion. What would your mother think of you? Bakugo asked as he slowly got up. Don't you dare mention her. Deku exploded. She died because of All Might. She would be happy to see that I'm bringing the cause of her death to justice. Deku yelled and released another massive explosion towards Bakugo. Deku clutched his arm as he felt the pain of going over his limit. Damn it, I lost control, he muttered angrily as his breath became staggered and tears started to form in his eyes. He looked back towards his childhood friend and found him knocked out on the ground. He walked away and into a portal without another word. When Deku came out on the other side of the portal, he could see the Nomu holding the head of a bloodied Eraserhead. Has All Might shown up yet? Deku asked Shigaraki. No, and it's pissing me off. Shigaraki replied and violently scratched his neck. He must have reached his limit earlier today and decided to not meet up for the lesson. Maybe he planned on showing up towards the end of the class, Deku stated and began walking towards Eraserhead. Nomu, hold him still, Deku ordered and crouched down next to the bloodied hero. Shout at Aizawa, he said, getting Aizawa's attention. Still conscious, that's good. Now tell me, will All Might appear later, or has he reached his full limit? Deku asked. How did you know? Aizawa replied. Don't be so surprised. Even if he hadn't told me himself, it really shouldn't require a genius to figure out that he has a limited time to do hero work. I just hope he can come by later. There is a few things I would like to discuss with him before he is killed by my creation, Deku said and began giggling and pulled out a syringe. Now, erasure. It's such a useful quirk. And when I figure out how to give myself multiple quirks without turning into a Nomu myself, I think it will be quite useful. I just need a sample of your DNA, he explained before inserting the syringe into Aizawa's neck and began taking some blood. Just as Deku finished filling up the syringe, the doors of the USJ was slammed open. He looked at the hero who had just entered. All Might, he said with a crazy glee. Before he could react, he was knocked back by a blur he barely could see. All Might knocked out the rest of the weaker villains and picked up Aizawa along with a couple students and took them away to a safe distance. Nomu, kill Shigaraki ordered, and the Nomu lunged towards All Might. When All Might punched the Nomu, it had no effect. Do you like my creation, All Might? It was made to kill you, Deku teased. All Might looked at Deku and looked in shock as he remembered who it was. So, you remember me, I'm flattered. I didn't think you would bother remembering a quirkless nobody. Nomu, kill him, Deku said, and All Might and Nomu started exchanging blows again. All Might tried suplexing the Nomu, but it went through a portal and back up under All Might and grabbed him. He tried to get loose, but the Nomu held him in place and blood started to show where his injury was. Now this is too good to be true, Deku said and walked over to All Might. The symbol of peace trapped by the creation of a quirkless loser. A quirkless loser whose dreams he crushed, Deku teased as he looked down on All Might. And whose mother he killed, Deku hissed. I'll be taking this by the way, he said and leaned down and cut off a piece of All Might's hair. Thank you, Toshinori Yagi, Deku whispered and stood back up, pulling out a syringe. I didn't tell you my name, All Might said while still trying to get loose. No, you didn't, Deku replied and readied the syringe. But you showed me your true form. From that I found camera footage of you, ran a face recognition software, and voila, the secret identity of the #1 hero. Relax, I haven't told my colleagues of your name yet, your true form and weaknesses. Now that's another story, Deku explained before inserting the syringe where All Might's injury was and began filling it up. There's so much I want to tell you before you die. I haven't even showed you my new quirk, Deku said and showed off his explosions. All Might looked in an almost fearful expression. Isn't this fantastic? Deku exclaimed and put away the now full syringe. Think about all the things I could achieve with the power to transfer and copy quirks. This is only the first quirk of many. You should recognize it. You do teach Kaken's class after all, Deku said and walked back a couple steps. I'm sorry, All Might said with a hint of sadness. What? Deku whispered. I failed you. I shouldn't have doubted your dreams or your abilities, All Might said sincerely. You're not sorry for what you did. You're just sorry for what I became, Deku replied. If I hadn't become a villain, how long would it take for you to forget me? Have you even thought about me since that day? Deku asked. All Might didn't answer. That's what I thought, Deku scoffed. I'm sorry I couldn't save your mother, All Might said. Deku looked at All Might in anger and snarled. You don't even deserve to mention her, Deku growled. She was the only light in my life, he exclaimed. She was the only reason I could live day after day in a society that meant I was just a waste of space. Why? Deku yelled as he started crying. Just because I'm normal, born without a quirk, he asked. Then you came along and shattered the little hope I had of improving my life. And when you had the chance to save my mother, when you had the chance to do the right thing, you threw it away and decided that your fame and fans were more important than being a hero, Deku said as he calmed down. You killed her. Her blood is on your hands and I will avenge her by killing you, he said and started grinning. And how I will love to see you ripped apart into, Deku chuckled, but was interrupted when a stream of ice came and froze the Nomu. Todoroki, Deku grumbled. Kurogiri, make a portal back to my lab, he ordered. No you don't, Bakugo said and held Kurogiri down to the ground by his metal collar. Then, All Might broke free from the frozen Nomu's grasp. Deku quickly backed away, knowing he didn't stand a chance against the symbol of peace. All Might, however, focused on getting his students and Aizawa safe, giving Nomu time to regenerate. Nomu, kill Shigaraki ordered. The Nomu charged towards Bakugo, but All Might intercepted the creature and began fighting it again with renewed power. The two opponents slowly increased the speed of their blows until you could only see blurs moving between them. Everyone else ended up being pushed back by the powerful winds generated from the fight. Give up, All Might, Deku said as he tried to hold his ground. I made this Nomu to handle you at full strength. He can absorb all your attacks, he taunted. So, he has shock absorption, not nullification. That means there must be a limit, All Might said as he started pushing the Nomu backwards. So, what if he can handle me at full strength? I will just have to defeat him from beyond that, he said and delivered a blow that made the Nomu fly into some nearby trees. When the Nomu came charging back, they both jumped up into the air to face each other. All Might grabbed the Nomu and threw him into the ground before landing himself. Villain, have you ever heard these words? He said, pulled back his arm. Plus ultra. All Might shouted and punched the Nomu out of the USJ. Kurogiri, Deku called out. Yes, Kurogiri replied. Send me back. There's no way we're winning without a Nomu or someone powerful enough. I miscalculated, Deku said, as Kurogiri began, but was cut off by Shigaraki. No, we're not leaving. Look, All Might is just standing there. He is bluffing. I can kill him, he said and started running towards All Might. But just before his hand reached the hero, a bullet went through it, making Shigaraki reel back in pain. Deku looked towards where the shot came from and saw that the heroes had arrived. Kurogiri, now, Deku ordered. Kurogiri tried being quick, but before he could make the portals, more shots were fired. One hit Izuku in his left leg and 2 others hit each of Shigaraki's legs. As Deku collapsed due to his injury, he looked at All Might with an expression filled with rage. "I will kill you, All Might," he said as Kurogiri's portal enveloped both him and Shigaraki. "You filthy liar," Shigaraki hissed as lay on the ground with several bullet wounds. "You said All Might was weak. You said that your Nomu would kill him." "Well, sorry if everything didn't go to plan," Deku replied as he managed to sit down in one of the bar stools. "I made sure that the Nomu could have handled All Might based on what I have seen him do in the past. I didn't think that fate could muster even more strength than that," he complained and injected himself with one of his darts. He hissed at the pain he felt, but after a few seconds, his wounds started healing. "Can you do that to me?" Shigaraki asked. "No, this is the healing quirk the Nomu had. I swapped it with explosion so that I don't need to recover. If you want me to do the same to you, it would take me the same amount of time it would take you to heal naturally. Since I would need to analyze your DNA, make a backup of your original quirk, and then make a version with the healing quirk, it could take me a few weeks. And that is time I would rather use on other things," Deku explained. "Now, if you will excuse me, I did actually get something out of this, and I would like to get back to my research," he said and headed for his lab. Phoenix Journal, Number 1, Entry 78. "I'll be honest with myself. The attack against All Might didn't go completely according to plan. Shigaraki is pissed at me right now. Luckily, All for One and Kurogiri seems to have talked him out of killing me, for now. Sure, I miscalculated All Might's strength, but a lot of things could have gone better if they had planned it better. It wasn't like I had the time to look over Shigaraki's childish plan. 2 days was all the notice I got. 2 fucking days. 2 days for me to analyze the plan, do research on all the students of Class 1A, their teachers, and more. No wonder everything went wrong. Instead of looking into the students' quirks, they thought they could win by numbers alone. Kurogiri put a girl with a frog quirk in the flooding zone, for crying out loud. But that is in the past. For now, I'll have to deal with what I got. And what I got can help me greatly in the future. A sample from Eraserhead, whose quirk can be useful. Imagine if I could change it, so that I can erase multiple quirks at once in the future. Or even better, permanently erasing a quirk, without having to go through the entire changing DNA process. Then, I have a sample from Todoroki, the son of the number 2 hero. His quirk isn't the special part, it is the fact that he has 2 quirks. This could be the breakthrough I need when it comes to giving myself multiple quirks. And finally, a sample from All Might himself. What I could do with such power. I can't wait to see what makes him so strong. Entry 81. There is something wrong with All Might's quirk. It just doesn't fit right. It's like it has been forced in. Much like how my own DNA looks with Kaken's quirk, maybe not as rough but still forced in. What is weirder is what else is there. I have studied enough samples from quirkless people to know how their unused quirk factor is built up. And in All Might's quirk factor, there are segments which I have only found with quirkless people. It doesn't make sense. Either his quirk is transferable or was given to him by someone who has quirk that can transfer quirks, or there is a secret government project where they already have done the research I am doing now. I will have to look further into that. Maybe All for One knows something. Todoroki's quirk, on the other hand, is disappointing. It isn't 2 quirks. It's just 1 quirk with 2 properties that are tied to different parts of the body. I might be able to merge 2 quirks into a single quirk in such a way, given enough time, but I don't think I could do the same with more than 2 quirks. Although, I could use this to speed up the Nomu process, by not having to balance the quirks together in just the right way to make them mindless, but not dead, and instead merge multiple quirks into 1 quirk. Maybe I'll make a Nomu with Todoroki's quirk just to taunt him. Toshinori Yagi was currently sitting in the teacher's lounge, going through what had recently happened when he heard someone knock. "Come in," he said. The door opened to reveal his longtime friend and detective, Tsuikuchi. "We have some more information regarding the USJ incident," the detective said as he sat down. "First of all, one of your students knew one of the villains," he said. "It's Bakugo, isn't it? He knows the villain with the green hair, Izuku Midoriya, right?" Toshinori asked. "Yes," Tsukachi confirmed. "You knew. Midoriya was capable of using young Bakugo's quirk, so I assumed they had a connection. As for how I know about young Midoriya, well," Toshinori explained as a saddened expression grew on his face. "This won't be good, will it?" Tsukachi asked. "No, it isn't," Toshinori confirmed. "I met Midoriya almost a year ago. I saved him from that sludge villain before young Bakugo was taken hostage. Midoriya was a proper fanboy and latched onto me just as I was about to jump away. When I landed, I had reached my limit and had to tell him about my injury. But before that, he asked me a question. He wondered if he could become a hero without a quirk," Toshinori explained. "You told him no, didn't you?" Tsukachi stated. "Yes, there is no way he could have survived as a hero. He would have been ripped to bits. It's sad, but power is necessary to become a hero. Although, I could have been nicer about it and I wish I was. Unfortunately, things just got worse. More or less the next day, there was a hostage situation at a local restaurant. I came in and knocked out the villain before he could do any damage. Or so I thought. Young Midoriya's mother was at that restaurant, and while she ran towards her son, and while I was busy with fans and the press, the villain shot her. I failed as a hero. I didn't. I should have. Toshinori recounted as his voice started to hitch and tears started flowing. I won't say you did the right thing, but I understand. You go through a lot every day. Something like this was bound to happen, Tsukachi said. Thank you, but it won't change what happened. After his mother died, Midoriya broke. He started crying at first, but then he began laughing. Slowly at first, but eventually he was laughing like a madman. He began ranting about the unfairness of society and swore to kill me and bring society down with me, before running away, laughing. It still haunts me. So much pain, so much conflict, and so much rage. I think he went mad. And now he is a villain who somehow has one of my students' quirks and made that monster, Toshinori said. All for One must be behind this. He is the only one we know who could have made such a creature and give someone a quirk, Tsukachi theorized. If he survived I wouldn't be surprised. But even so, I don't think he gave Midoriya his quirk. While Midoriya talked about the quirk he had gained in the Nomu, he talked like he had done it all himself. He called the Nomu his creation and gave no hint of someone giving him a quirk. He sounded more like he had copied it from Bakugo himself, Toshinori said. If he can give himself quirks and make creatures like that Nomu just from someone's DNA, then he could be a serious threat, Tsukachi stated. Suddenly his eyes shot open as he realized something. Toshinori, didn't he take some of your hair and blood? Tsukachi asked. Toshinori suddenly got a look of horror. Yes, and if he can take one for all, we are all in grave danger. Deku quietly walked into the dark bar. He didn't want to wake Kurogiri or Shigaraki. He wanted to talk with All for One alone. I understand that one can get caught up in their research, but I would recommend getting some sleep, All for One said. But the voice didn't come from the usual screen. You decided to visit, Deku replied in surprise. I like to meet the ones I work with, All for One explained and stepped out of a dark corner of the bar, wearing a mask shaped like a skull with industrial pipes attached. Now, what did you want to discuss, Deku? He asked. Just some things I would like to know, Deku replied. Was it you who fought All Might 6 years ago? He asked. And how did you figure that out? All for One chuckled in a cold voice. I know All Might fought a strong villain 6 years ago. He told me so himself. And while it's hard to find information about you, it's not impossible. 7 years ago, you seemed to be very active and powerful. You had more or less direct control over several government officials. Then, 6 years ago, you seemingly disappeared around the same time All Might did. A few months later, you're back, but weaker and less active. I would also assume that mask you wear isn't just for aesthetic purposes, Deku explained. You are very clever for your age, Deku All for One said after a short moment of silence. He then took off the top of his mask, revealing a face covered in scar tissue. Yes, me and All Might had a little scuffle 6 years ago. A fight that left me like this, weak and disfigured. But at the same time, limited his capability as the symbol of peace, he explained. Good to know. Now, what do you know about quirks that either are transferable or that can transfer other quirks? Deku asked. And what makes you think that? All for One asked. When I examined All Might's quirk, I saw something interesting. It isn't natural. It is forced in, like it took the place of something else before it, much like how my own DNA looks like after I gave myself a quirk, Deku replied. Now, what do you know about it? He asked in a harsher tone. There are quirks which possesses the qualities you are interested in. Only 2 in fact, both very different in nature but still connected, sharing a similar name that symbolizes their nature. And they are both the 2 most powerful quirks in existence, locked in an eternal struggle until one wins over the other. I'll leave the rest for you to figure out, All for One explained. Sadly, that is all the time I have. I look forward to what you will do in the future, Deku, he said before disappearing into the shadows. Once All for One disappeared, Deku pulled out a small device from one of his pouches. He activated and waited for a while as the device gave of a low humming. After what felt like minutes, the device gave of a pling, signaling that it was finished. Deku began letting out a dark chuckle and started heading down to the lab. Once he arrived, he attached the device to one of several machines and ran over to the computer and turned it on. Deku pulled out the results from the machine he just used and looked at them. A sinister grin spread across his face as he saw a DNA string appear on the screen. Oh, All for One, you should be more careful when you meet an expert at collecting DNA in person, he chuckled. Deku was then interrupted by someone calling him. He quickly checked the caller ID before answering. This better be important. I'm in the middle of something, Deku said. So, you found someone? He asked as the other person talked. A stain fan, you say? I can fix that. Goodbye, Dabi, Deku said and hung up. The pieces just keep falling into place, he said to himself as he took another look at the results. All for One, just like the 3 Musketeers. So, if All for One isn't only his name but also his quirk, then the adversary must be one for all. All for one and one for all. All quirks for one and one quirk for all. The two most powerful quirks. If a quirk can take quirks and potentially use them then and give the away, All for One would be a very fitting name. But what would a quirk named One for All do? Deku muttered to himself. I need to run more experiments, he concluded. But first, some sleep, he said, and went over to his bedroom. Phoenix Journal, Number 1. Entry 87. The UA Sports Festival just passed. A perfect opportunity to take notes on future heroes, especially the first years. I have the feeling the league will go after them again. There was only one thing that annoyed me somewhat, beside the fact it was a hero festival. Todoroki didn't use the fire aspect of his quirk while fighting. He only used it a few times after a fight to melt the massive glaciers he made. So, I did some research and asked Dabi a few questions. In the end I figured out that Todoroki's father Endeavor isn't a nice father. He is abusive and violent. His only goal is to get Todoroki, his perfect creation, to beat All Might. And Todoroki's scar comes from an incident relating to his mother, which led her to being put in a mental hospital. I guess she suffered too much under her husband. No wonder Todoroki tries to block out his father by ignoring his own fire. Still, it's just childish. But I could also use this to my advantage. Someone who has suffered under a society filled with lies, corruption, and fake heroes could be persuaded to join my cause. Either way, I need to get working on what is to come. And right now that is finding a way of getting Dabi into the league along with that other person he talked about. I also need to do more research on All for One and One for All. Entry 90. I was right about my All for One and One for All theory. Whenever I look deeper into the results, I just get more and more confirmation for my theory. All for One's DNA segment responsible for the quirk factor is unnaturally long, hundreds of times longer in fact. And when I look closer, I can see all the different quirks. But how does it work? The quirks seem to just be attached directly to each other in a long line. I have tried this before. It was the first thing I tried, and I ended up with nothing but a pile of dead test subjects. So how can All for One survive? It shouldn't be possible, unless there is something I still need to find. After all, I'm still not done looking through the data. All Might's quirk, on the other hand, is relatively much more straightforward. From what I can gather, it's some sort of stockpiling quirk that can be passed down. There even exists remnants of other people's DNA and quirks hidden within One for All itself. 7 people to be exact. The problem is that whenever I try to copy the quirk, the accumulated power doesn't follow. I can give it to my test subjects, and they will start showing signs of the stockpiling quirk, and with some persuasion, have been able to give the quirk to other subjects by giving them their DNA. Sadly, the power increase doesn't come from passing down the quirk, but rather the time it is given to accumulate energy. And according to my calculations, the first One for All user must have come from the first generation of quirk users for the quirk to be so powerful now. Meaning, unless All Might gives it to me personally, it will be useless. Or maybe I can energize the quirk myself. Deku was sitting alone in the bar going over his research when Shigaraki and Kurogiri came back from somewhere he didn't know. He didn't pay any attention to them until he heard a new voice. "Why is there a kid here?" the raspy voice said. Deku turned around to face the man, and was pleasantly surprised. "Stain, nice to meet you. I am a fan of your work," Deku said in a pleasant tone. "And who are you exactly, are you?" Stain asked. "I am Deku," Deku replied. "Well, I won't keep you occupied any longer. Get on with whatever you three have planned," he said, and went back to his notes. Deku's attention was taken again when he heard someone being slammed into the floor. He looked over and saw Stain holding Shigaraki down on the floor with a knife in his shoulder. "So, you want me to join you?" Stain asked. "No matter what you stand for, you need conviction. Without it, you're just weak and will be purged. This is why this happened," he continued. "That's harsh," Shigaraki said. "Kurogiri, get this guy out," he ordered. "I can't move." "It must be Stain's quirk," Kurogiri replied. "Deku," Shigaraki called out. Deku closed his journal and casually walked over to Shigaraki and looked down. "I'm sorry, but you got yourself into this mess. Plus, I'm a fan of the hero killer myself. Someone else who can see that hero society is rotten to its core and want to change that. Even if we have 2 different ways about achieving our goals, I admire him. So no, get yourself out of this," Deku explained and walked back to where he was sitting. Stain looked at Deku for a short while, trying to figure him out, before turning his attention back to Shigaraki. "Maybe not all of you are so bad. But still, criminals who use their power without conviction should be disposed of," the vigilante said and moved his knife to cut Shigaraki's throat. But Shigaraki grabbed the blade first. "You sure do talk a lot. Conviction. I don't need that," he said as the knife turned to dust. "I just want to crush a society where trash like All Might is worshipped," he explained and tried grabbing Stain. But he jumped away. "And my last injury was about to heal," Shigaraki complained as he got up. "What will you do about that?" he asked. "So that is the kind of person you are. All our goals oppose each other, except for one. We both want to disturb the current order," he continued. "And behind all your childish ambition there is a hint of conviction. So, I'll let you live for now," Stain said. "Now take me back to Hasu." I have business to attend to, Stain ordered. Kurogiri just opened a portal and Stain left without another word. Deku, how many Nomus can you give us? Shigaraki asked. Depends, when do you want them? Deku asked. Tonight, Shigaraki replied. Tonight, Deku exclaimed. Are you serious? One Nomu can take a couple weeks and the higher quality ones can take over a month. He complained. Don't you have any ready? Shigaraki asked. I do, Deku replied as he calmed down 3 of them, to be exact. But they're nowhere near the quality of the one used at the USJ. Next time you want a good Nomu for a job, tell me about it in advance of whatever you're planning, he explained and began walking down to his lab. Tell me when you're leaving. I have some things I would like to do in Hasu as well, Deku said. Is it about Stain? Kurogiri asked. Maybe, Deku replied and left the bar. Where is he? Deku grumbled as he walked through dark alleyways, away from the commotion Shigaraki had made. He tends to reside in back alleys, away from people. So, where is he? Deku continued as he walked around another corner. He's got to be, Deku began, but stopped when he heard someone approaching. He quickly hid behind a corner and waited as the person came closer. Is that engines? Deku thought as he could hear the sound better. Not long after, Ada came sprinting right past Deku, not noticing the villain. Seems like someone wants to avenge their big brother. I think my luck just turned, Deku thought, and followed Ada from a safe distance. After a while of following Ada and almost losing him, Deku finally found Stain. He could hear the vigilante preach about true heroes and so forth to who he presumed to be Ada. Deku walked around the corner, revealing himself. Stain, you're a hard man to find, he greeted. What do you want? Did Shigaraki send you? Stain asked. I'm here on my own accord. I don't work for Shigaraki. I'm an independent villain who would like to make an offer to you. But I can see that you're busy with these fakes, Deku replied. Stain just huffed and raised his blade, ready to kill Ida under him. Wait, Deku said. What? Stain asked. Let him see his own failure before he dies, Deku said as he walked towards the second paralyzed hero, Native. Let him see that in his anger. He prioritized avenging his brother rather than saving this hero, Deku explained and placed his palm over Native's head. This is your failure, hero, Deku said and released a massive explosion. That blew up Native's skull, leaving only pieces of bones lying around the alley. You sick villain, I will take you as well. Ada shouted. How? You're paralyzed and about to die. I'm the one doing the world a favor by removing the fakes, and Deku said. But stopped when Stain tabbed his sword through Ida's heart. Hey, I was talking, Deku complained. You were taking too long, and I'd rather not spend too much time here. Now, what is this offer you talk about? I thought I made it clear that I didn't want to work with the League, Stain said and cleaned off the blood on his blade. You think I am a part of the League? Please, I'm simply enjoying a mutually beneficial partnership with them. Once I no longer need them, I'm out, Deku explained. What I want to talk about, however, he continued, is that we work together, he offered. Why would I work with you? Stain huffed. We both have the same goal and the same reasoning. We both think that the current way society works, and especially the hero society, is wrong. And we both want to change it for the better, Deku said. Yes, Stain agreed. Of course, we both have different means of achieving our goal. You run a crusade against the fake heroes, hoping that society will start making true heroes. Me, on the other hand, thinks that there is nothing good left to salvage from society. Not even All Might, Deku explained. What do you mean? All Might is the only true hero, Stain said. No, he isn't, Deku exclaimed. Then enlighten me. Because you better have a good reason, Stain snarled. Let me tell you a story of a quirkless boy, Deku began as he collected himself. Once, there was a defenseless, quirkless, little boy who wanted nothing else than to become a hero like his idol All Might. But nobody supported him. His former friends became bullies and tormentors and he became an outcast. Even so, he kept trying, always trying, hoping someone would believe in him. And one day, after a decade of torture, he got that hope. He met his idol and was finally able to ask him that one question. Can someone like me ever hope to become a hero, even without a quirk? Deku told. And do you know what All Might said? Deku continued as his anger grew. He shot him down, crushed the little boy's dreams without thinking twice, he grumbled. But that not the end, no. Because the very next day, the boy's mother was a hostage during a villain's incident. The little boy ran as fast as he could, hoping his mother was safe. When he arrived, All Might came flying in to save the day. He released the hostages and seemingly knocked out the villain. Once the hostages were free, All Might turned to his fans and the press to bask in his own fame and glory. Because of this, he didn't notice that the villain wasn't taken care of and was now pointing a gun at the boy's mother. The villains fired and the mother dropped dead, right in front of the little boy. That little boy was me. Do you now see that All Might is just like the rest of them? Deku finished. Stain slumped down next to Wall and let out a sigh. All Might is a fake, he said. Now you see. This is why the only way to save society is by destroying it. Let it burn down in the fires of revolution and out of the ashes. A new and better future will rise, Deku said. So, will you work with me? He asked and extended a hand. Stain stood back up. Yes, he said and shook Deku's hand. So, what do you have planned? Stain asked. If you just keep doing what you have done for the past few months. There is only one more thing I need right now, and that is for you to let the media run wild with theories about you working with the League, Deku replied. Fine. Anything else? Stain asked. Just one. Meet me at this park 3 nights from now at midnight, Deku said and handed Stain a note with an address. I need to introduce you to 2 people who also work with me. One of them is even a fan of you, Deku explained. I'll be there, Stain said. Now I need to go. Bye, he said and left. Goodbye, Stain, Deku smirked and walked away in the opposite direction and out of the alley. A few seconds later, a flying Nomu came and picked him up, carrying him back to Kurogiri and Shigaraki. This will be great, Deku said with glee. In the middle of the night, while Izuku was trying to get some sleep, he was awoken from an alarm sounding. He quickly woke up and stormed into his lab. Shit, not now, he complained as he reached a big glass tube going from the floor to the ceiling, filled with a white liquid. I won't lose you again, Izuku said and began pressing buttons on a nearby control panel. The tubes and wires connected to the tube began making low humming noises as they were filled with various substances. The alarm quickly stopped and Izuku let out a sigh of relief. This time, it will work, he said and placed his hand on the smooth glass surface. Everything will be all right, Mom, Izuku whispered as a few strands of green hair briefly came into view. I'll bring you back. Where is he? Deku muttered and looked at his watch. It has been 15 minutes, he complained. I was busy, said a man behind Deku. Deku quickly turned around and faced the man. I would prefer if you could meet on time in the future, Stain, Deku said, slightly annoyed. I'll see what I can do, Stain replied. Now, where are these followers of yours? He asked. Just follow me, Deku said and began walking into the park. After walking deeper into the park, Stain and Deku approached 2 other people. It's Stain, one of them exclaimed and began running towards the vigilante. I want to help you kill all the fakes, so we may one day, he began yelling, but was cut short when Deku grabbed his throat as he ran by. I know you're a fan of Stain, Spinner, Deku said, but if you truly want to follow his ideology, then take this seriously, he hissed and pushed Spinner back. Got it, boss, Spinner apologized. Oh, where are my manners? Deku jokingly asked. Dabi, Spinner, this is Stain, he said and gestured towards Stain. Stain, the fanboy, is Spinner. And the calm one is Dabi, he said and gestured at the 2. So now I have met them. What else? I have something I need to do in Shizuoka, Stain asked. Well, I need to share some insight into what will happen next. You see, the media associating you and the League of Villains is the perfect opportunity for them to take new members on board, 2 of which will be Dabi and Spinner, who will serve as undercover agents. In fact, Jiren has already contacted them. So, if you see them with the League, please don't kill them, Deku explained. Anything more I should know? Stain asked. Nothing more of importance, really. Just one more thing, Deku replied and pulled out 2 simple phones from one of his pouches. We can contact each other with these, if we need to. They can only call each other once. So, don't contact me unless you need to, he explained. Stain grabbed one and tucked it away. Good, I'll be leaving now. There's always more heroes to kill, he said and left. A few moments later, Spinner's eyes shot open. I didn't get an autograph, he exclaimed. Stain, wait, he yelled and ran where Stain had gone. You sure about this guy? Deku asked. I'm sure in his beliefs. I can work on his skills. It'll be fine, Dabi replied. I hope so. If Shigaraki, or worse, All For One finds out about this, well, I think we would be safer with the heroes in that case, Deku said. You're right. By the way, want to move forward with the plan you have for my little brother? Dabi asked. Yes, actually. We could have great use for him if he joins us. Just a matter of finding the right moment, Deku replied. Phoenix Journal, number 2. Entry 4. Things are lining up perfectly. All the new members of the League have joined, including Dabi and Spinner. Not only that, but the new members have become the League's Vanguard Action Squad and Dabi is the squad leader, meaning I can influence the League's special task force to achieve my own goals. They haven't done anything yet, of course, and there isn't anything planned if Dabi and Spinner are right. But when Shigaraki decides to do something, it will be great. Speaking of Shigaraki, he has no clue that there are 2 spies within his ranks, and I don't think he will ever know. Not until it's too late, of course. I just hope he does something soon, instead of complaining about Stain's attention. Entry 6. I have achieved a breakthrough. A breakthrough into a gold mine of potential. By using similar measures to what I do when merging quirks for Nomus, I can modify quirks. I could make them stronger, remove drawbacks, increase their capabilities, and modify how they work. There is just one flaw with this. Just like with Nomus, I need a lot of samples from a subject to make it work. A few vials of blood won't cut it. I need the subject themselves. Transferring the quirk to another isn't an option either. There seems to something stopping me from doing that. There is something special about the original quirk user that allows for this procedure. So, no altering of Eraserhead's quirk, I'm afraid. I have also achieved great progress with All For One the quirk. I finally found its greatest secret, the secret to holding countless quirks, the secret that could give me unlimited power. It simply makes the body think it is one quirk with countless properties. I may not have enough DNA to copy the quirk, but recreating that trick by modifying a quirk, that I could do. Just a matter of figuring out the progress, which has proven to be a bigger challenge than I expected. Entry 14. An opportunity just revealed itself. Shigaraki actually told me about his plan in advance. Somehow, he has gotten information on where UA plans to have a training camp for its first-year student. For some reason, he wants to capture Kaken and make him a villain. I don't doubt they will capture Kaken, but making him willingly become a villain? No way. He is way too stubborn. But I will let him run with it. After all, Dabi will lead the attack. This is the perfect chance to capture Todoroki. And unlike Kaken, Todoroki has the foundation of a villain. An abusive father who has made his life a living hell without repercussion, simply because he is a hero. I can't wait. Let's see if this works, Deku muttered as he pressed a few buttons on a machine. He opened a notebook and wrote down something. 57th time is the charm, he said as he wrote before activating the machine. Pre-charge, check. Substance, stable. Liquefiers, at standby. Deku muttered as he looked over several dials. Begin energizing, he said, and flipped a lever. In an instant, a bright light came shining out of a window into the machine. Deku put on a pair of welding goggles to block out the bright light and looked at a single dial as it began rising. 5%, 7%, 10%, he muttered as the dial kept rising. Meanwhile, the light became brighter and brighter, making it hard to see even with the welding goggles. Come on, work, Deku said as the dial reached 60% and the machine began shaking. Yes, it works, Deku exclaimed as the dial reached 95%. He was then immediately followed by an explosion that blew him out of the lab and filled it with smoke. He got up and began heading towards the bar as he began coughing from all the smoke. Deku managed to get into the bar and quickly closed the door behind him so the smoke wouldn't enter the bar. Again, really, I'm tired of you filling the basement with smoke all the time, Shigaraki complained. Deku ignored Shigaraki's comments and grabbed a glass of water Kurogiri had prepared. That was better, Deku sighed when he finished drinking. If you plan to keep blowing up the lab we gave you should maybe tell us what you're blowing up, Shigaraki said. Nothing much really. I'm just trying to power up a quirk by energizing it. If I can do it right, it would help me greatly. If not, the quirk would be worthless, Deku explained. He then walked back towards the basement. The vent should have taken care of the smoke by now, he said, and opened the door. What do you mean, could help you greatly? Shigaraki asked. Imagine the Nomu at the USJ, just much more powerful. Then imagine what you could do with that power, Deku answered and walked down into the basement. Dabi was sitting on top of a hill, looking over the area where UA currently were having a training camp, waiting for someone. Then a dark green mist appeared beside him and out of it came Deku. What quirk was that? Dabi asked as Deku sat down beside him. Kurogiri's actually. I have managed to catch some of the mist after all the times I've used his portals, Deku explained. So, this is the place? He asked. Yes, right now they seem to try strengthening their quirks. We'll attack tomorrow night. They'll be exhausted after 2 days of intense training, Dabi said. Deku smirked. That will work well with what I have in mind, he said. And what do you have in mind? Dabi asked. You'll see. Just make sure Todoroki isn't hurt during the attack, Deku replied. Oh, I see, Dabi said with knowing smirk. Deku sat in the middle of the woods, relaxing as time went by. He quickly checked the time and got up. They should all be asleep now, he muttered. He raised his arms and concentrated as his hands turned into a green mist. A green portal appeared above the ground in front of him and mattress with a person on came falling through. It landed with a thump, waking the person sleeping. Time to wake up, Todoroki, Deku greeted. Todoroki's eyes immediately shot open when he recognized the voice and he launched an attack towards Deku. Unfortunately, Todoroki hadn't fully woken yet and Deku easily dodged the attack and threw a dart at Todoroki. The dart reached its target and injected something into Todoroki. What did you just inject into me? He asked. Just something that will block of your quirk for some time. Don't worry, I just want to talk, Deku replied. Talk? Todoroki scoffed. What would you want to talk about? Don't you just want to kill us all like Ada? He accused. For the record, Stain was the one to kill Ada. But this has nothing to do with that. I want your help, Deku responded. I will never help a villain, Todoroki stated. Villain, hero, vigilante. Call me what you like. Does it really matter? No, what matters is why we fight. What our ideals are and what our end goal is, Deku spoke. You and your league just want to kill All Might and destroy society, Todoroki accused. Don't lump me in with that child. I'm not a part of the league. They are simply the means to an end, Deku retorted. My vision is so much greater. I don't want to destroy society just because I want to. I will burn it down along with all its evils so that a great new world can rise out of the ashes, he explained. What's so wrong about this world then? Todoroki asked. You out of all people should know what I'm talking about, Deku replied. The glorification and worshipping of heroes. That leads to all suffering being hidden and swept under the rug. Amongst other things, Deku explained. You're wrong, Todoroki stated. Oh, am I now? Deku replied, why not use an example? Maybe you, he suggested. Your father, using his influence and wealth, forced your mother into an abusive marriage. He forced her to have 4 children just so he could force his offspring into beating All Might. Deku began. Stop it, Todoroki said through gritted teeth. But that's not the end, is it? Deku continued, ignoring Todoroki. When he got his perfect creation, a son, you, who could control ice and fire, he trained him. Every day Endeavor would punch and kick you until you threw up on the floor and could no longer stand. And to top it all off, you weren't even allowed to be around your siblings. And still the worst is to come, Deku narrated. Shut up, Todoroki yelled. Once again Deku ignored him and increased his intensity. Your mother was driven to madness because of what your father did to her. Your mother, who loved you and tried her best to protect you, could no longer handle the pressure and snapped. In a moment of madness, she poured boiling water over your face, scarring you for life, Deku said. You know nothing, Todoroki said as he was crying over the memories. But I do, Todoroki. I know exactly what it is like. We have gone through so much of the same hardship. I was bullied, punched, kicked, burnt and cast aside like a pebble. None of my bullies were punished. All because I didn't have a quirk and still tried to be a hero. Meanwhile, they had quirks and were never discouraged. The worst was Kaken, or as you know him, Bakugo. He was my childhood friend and he turned on me in an instant, becoming my #1 bully. And the teachers kept praising him because he had a powerful quirk and should become a hero. I went through 10 years of hell just to have my dreams shattered by All Might himself. And the next day, my mother, the only one who has ever loved me, was killed because All Might was too busy with his fans and basking in his glory to notice one thing. That a villain was aiming a gun at my mother. The villain fired the shot and she dropped dead right in front of me. And the one common theme in my life. It has always been turned into a living hell because of the mindless following of heroes and prejudice. Nothing is considered wrong if it could help heroes, Deku explained. Now, ask yourself this one question. Why did no one, not a single person, do something about all the hardships you faced? Why did your father get away with absolutely everything, despite the abuse being common knowledge among heroes? Why didn't the media say anything, despite having access to the necessary records? He asked. I need time to think, Todoroki replied. Fine, you have until tomorrow night. I'll be there, Deku said and opened a portal. Take your mattress and go back to sleeping. I have a feeling tomorrow will be a long day, he said and motioned towards the portal. Todoroki didn't say anything and walked through the portal with his mattress. You know how to convince people, Dabi said as he approached from behind a tree. We still have to see if he is convinced. Remember, don't hurt him tomorrow, Deku said. I'll do my best. But some of the members doesn't like to follow orders, Dabi replied. That's not my problem. Just try to make sure he is hurt as little as possible. If we hurt him in the attack, he might refuse to join us, Deku said. I'll head back to the lab. Shigaraki would get suspicious if I don't blow something up soon, he said and opened a portal. See ya, he said and entered the portal. See ya, Dabi said back and walked away. Todoroki didn't know what to think. What Deku said made him start to question everything he thought he knew. Are heroes really good? Is there a better way? Is Deku right? Those questions circled around his head, planting doubt in his mind. And as the day went on, he found himself getting angry at Bakugo whenever he saw him. The same anger that Todoroki would feel against his father. Then, the villains attacked and Bakugo was kidnapped. Todoroki knew he should feel some level of loss, but he couldn't help to feel that Bakugo deserved it. And again, Deku's offer swirled around in his mind, telling him to give in and betray his friends, more tempting than ever. A grim group of UA students walked through the forest. They had just failed at saving their classmate and watched as he was taken from them. None of them knew what to say as they walked the long way back to the camp. That was until a figure appeared in the distance, a teenager with unmistakable green hair. That made them very cautious. Why the long face? Did they actually capture Kaken? Deku jokingly asked. If it provides any comfort, then know that Shigaraki wants him alive, he added. What do you want? Takoyami asked, as he and the rest got ready for another fight. Nothing really. I just want to get an answer to an offer I gave to one of you yesterday, Deku replied. The group of a student immediately began looking at each other with suspicious looks, with one exception. Come on now. Once I get my answer, I'll leave right now, with or without you. But if you don't want to answer, well, let's just say you won't like what happens next, Deku threatened. After a few tense moments, Todoroki stepped forwards and began walking towards Deku. Todoroki, Uraka called out in disbelief, making him stop halfway. Don't tell me you'll join him, she asked. I'm sorry, but he's right, Todoroki said. He's a villain. They killed Ada, she yelled. Why does that matter? Heroes aren't any better. At least he wants to change that, Todoroki shouted. What are you talking about? Tsuyu almost whispered in disbelief. Why can't you see it? Bakugo deserved to be taken. He is a monster just like my father. And no one tries to do something about that except Deku, Todoroki hissed. Why do you have to make it so difficult? He exclaimed. Come on, Todoroki, do the right thing. Maintain the status quo, or Deku said and extended his hand. Join me and make a new and better world, he finished. Todoroki took one last glance at his classmates before making his decision. He turned away from them and walked to Deku, refusing to look back at them. Good, Deku said and opened a green portal that they walked through together. Deku and Todoroki exited from the portal into a lab different from the one at the League of Villains hideout. I betrayed my friends. They trusted me, Todoroki whispered. Deku looked at him with a sympathetic look and placed a hand on Todoroki's shoulder and looked him straight in the eyes. I know that this is hard, but remember this. You didn't fail them, they failed you. They refused to see things from your point of view, building their own image of who you should be instead of who you want to be. Who you are meant to be. It will be difficult for a while, but you will get over it. And together, we will achieve great things, Deku said and let go. Take the time you need to get yourself together. Progress can wait a bit, he added. And when you are ready, I will help you become stronger than ever. Phoenix Journal, Number 2. Entry 23. 2 days has passed since Todoroki joined me. He is still going through what happened in the room I provided. Not that I blame him, it is a lot to process. I just hope he will get over it soon. I would like to move on with my plan as quickly as possible. In the meantime, I have to work on energizing One for All and unlocking the secrets of having multiple quirks. I'm so tantalizingly close, but it still won't work quite right. I blew up another machine in my umpteenth attempt at energizing One for All, and the last subject I tested 3 quirks on went insane and blew up his own head. I know I can do it, just a little bit further and I'm there. Meanwhile, Shigaraki has no clue about my spies, Todoroki joining me, my secret facility, none of it. Dabi has been quite helpful in that regard, feeding misleading facts to Shigaraki and in the process moving his suspicions away from me. Not that Shigaraki would care much right now, since he actually thinks he can convince Kaken to join him. It's somewhat amusing to see him try. Although, it won't last for that much longer, a few days at most. UA just lost 2 students in one attack. And despite UA still keeping the truth about Todoroki hidden, the media is hanging over them like vultures. The police force and heroes are probably jobbing around the clock to find both Kaken and Todoroki. Within the next few days, the heroes will attack the League's hideout. By then I would have fully moved into my own facility, of course. I just wonder what All for One will do. Todoroki was standing hesitantly outside the door leading into the lab. He had decided that it was time to move forwards. He gently opened the door and saw a huge room filled with various machines and screens. Deku, he called out as he entered. No one answered, so Todoroki began searching the lab. He felt like he walked through a maze made of machines, none of which had a clear purpose. Eventually, Todoroki reached a spot without no machines except one, a big glass tube connected to pipes, tubes, and wires that went out to other machines around the lab. He couldn't see what was inside the tube because it was filled with a white liquid that almost looked like fog. Curiosity got the better of Todoroki and he reached out his hand to touch the tube. Get back, Deku yelled as he suddenly came and grabbed Todoroki's arm away from the tube. Don't touch it, Deku hissed and let go. All right, but what is it? Todoroki asked. Deku became silent for a while and looked at the tube with a longing look, making Todoroki even more curious. It's something important, something I want, something I need, something that was unjustly taken from me before, Izuku said with a saddened expression, before quickly turning around with a sterner expression, and something I don't want anyone interfering with. Now, what are you doing here? Ready to move on? Deku asked. Yes, Todoroki replied. Wonderful. Quickly, follow me. Progress has waited long enough, Deku exclaimed with glee and began quickly walking through the maze of machines with Todoroki following him. After walking down a few hallways, Deku and Todoroki entered a room with a computer and a chair that could hold someone in place. Sit down in that chair, please, Deku requested and pressed a few buttons on the computer. Todoroki complied silently and sat down. Do you know what your biggest hindrance is? Deku asked and began binding Todoroki to the chair. No, Todoroki replied. You refuse to use half your quirk and thereby half your potential, Deku explained. Todoroki was about to reply but was stopped by Deku. Of course, you think it is your father's quirk and therefore refuse to use it out of principle. Although, I have seen your quirk up close and it is completely unique from either of your parents' quirks. But if you won't believe me and still thinks you have your father's quirk, then why don't we just change it? He said, making Todoroki look at him with a confused look. Change it? He asked. Yes, one of my greatest achievements, Deku exclaimed. The ability to change a quirk, increasing its power far beyond what could ever be achieved by natural means, as well as reducing the drawback to almost nothing. I could also change the color of your fire, completely removing any trace of your father, Deku explained. What do you say? He asked. Do it, Todoroki replied. Great, Deku exclaimed and grabbed a few syringes. Although, this won't be comfortable, he added and inserted the needle into Todoroki's arm. After several hours of silence, Deku broke the silence. I'm almost done here. There's just one more thing, Deku said and looked over at Todoroki. What color do you want for the fire? he asked. I'm not sure, Todoroki replied. Let me see. Not red or orange. That is too similar to Endeavor. Dabi has blue and green, or pink doesn't quite fit you, Deku muttered. Oh, I know, he suddenly exclaimed and began working on the computer. What color is it? Todoroki asked. White, Deku replied. Just think about it. It will be roughly the same color as your eyes, so it will be slightly more difficult to see the difference between them. White fire is also hotter than orange or yellow fire, and it can be used to blind opponents, he explained and pressed a button. Then a machine began filling a syringe with a bright white color. Deku grabbed it and walked over to Todoroki and readied the syringe. Brace yourself. This will hurt, Deku warned and inserted the syringe. A lot, he added, and injected Todoroki with the substance. Todoroki instantly started to scream in pain. You just had to pass out on me, Deku complained as he lifted an unconscious Todoroki onto his bed. Good thing I have Kurogiri's quirk, because I would not have carried you around the facility, he added, before leaving the room and heading towards the lab. Although changing someone's quirk seems to be more painful than just transferring a quirk, maybe the body actively tries to fight the change, since it's still the same quirk but different. I should look into that properly, even if it's not important, Deku muttered as he walked through the facility and into the lab. He stopped for a moment as he passed the huge glass tube and gently placed his hand on the smooth surface. Soon, Mom. I promise, Izuku whispered before walking back from the tube. But for now, there is work to be done, Deku said and walked away. The next day, Deku was back in his former lab under the League of Villains bar. Should be just a few more minutes by my calculations, he muttered and checked his watch. Time to pay Kaken a little visit before it begins, he smirked and walked into the bar. Once he entered, he immediately drew everyone's attention to himself. Hi Kaken, sorry I couldn't talk with you earlier. I was busy, Deku said gleefully towards a scowling Bakugo. So, how's your convincing going, Shigaraki? Deku asked. He won't listen, Shigaraki complained. Of course I wouldn't fucking listen to you. I don't give a fuck about your ideas. You're even working with useless fucking Deku over there. Bakugo shouted. Kurogiri, compress, put him back to sleep, Shigaraki ordered. Mr. Compress started walking towards Bakugo, who was looking for an exit when a knock on the door took everyone's attention. Hello, this is Pizza La Camino Store, a voice said from behind the door. Who ordered pizza? Shigaraki asked right before All Might came crashing through the wall. We are here, he stated. Kurogiri, get us out. Shigaraki yelled in panic. However, Kamui Woods trapped everyone and Dabi and Kurogiri was knocked out before they could do anything. In less than a minute, the heroes had trapped the entire League of Villains. All of them had a look of defeat, except Deku, who laughing slowly. Oi, Deku, what are you laughing at? Bakugo asked and began walking towards Deku, but All Might stopped him. I'll handle this, he said and walked up to Deku, who stopped laughing and looked up at All Might. What did you do to young Todoroki? All Might asked. Nothing, Deku chuckled, except helping him, of course. Helping him see the truth and helping him fight his demons, he added. Where is he? All Might asked. Far away from you heroes. And yet so close. Don't worry, you'll see him soon. Very soon, Deku explained cryptically. By the way, Deku said before All Might could ask another question. Did you really think I wouldn't notice that little trick one of your students pulled? He asked, placing a tracker on my own creation and thinking I wouldn't see it. Deku chuckled. And if I noticed it? Well, he said and looked up at All Might with a crazy glee. All for one certainly did, Deku said in a dark tone. All Might's face turned into one of shock, and as if on cue, gray Nomas started appearing out of gray goo that appeared. The heroes were all suddenly busy with dozens of Nomas. Deku started laughing maniacally as the gray goo started enveloping the members of the League and Bakugo, much to All Might's horror as he failed to catch him. Go on, All Might. All for one is so close. Go and be the hero, Deku yelled as he laughed. All Might sent one last look of anger towards Deku before he jumped away. That is my cue, Deku muttered and started opening a portal above him. Gran Torino noticed this and moved in to stop Deku, but was forced back when a wall of white, hot fire came pouring out the portal. The fire lasted just a few seconds, but when it ended, Deku was nowhere to be seen. That can't be good, Gran Torino muttered, as he returned to fighting Nomus. You got to work on your fire control, Deku said as he trampled his burning cloak. You almost burned me, Deku added as the last embers faded. Maybe you shouldn't trust me with using a quirk. I have only had a few days, Todoroki retorted. You're right, although your control is better than I expected, Deku admitted and slumped down in a chair next to a computer. So, what do we do now? Todoroki asked. We wait. All Might and All for One are fighting, and only one will win. Depending on who it is and how they win, we either do something or nothing. But no matter what, we will gain something out of this whole ordeal, Deku explained. But first, there is one experiment I want to finish. Two actually, he said and walked up to a machine. What is it? Todoroki asked. Deku let out a dark chuckle and looked at Todoroki. Did I tell you about All Might's quirk? He asked. All Might looked over the unconscious body of his nemesis, All for One. It had taken him the last of his power, but he had won. All for One was no longer a threat. But All Might's moment of victory was cut short when a green portal opened in front of him, and in a split second, he was surrounded by a wall of white fire. All Might looked at the portal with a horrified expression as Deku and Todoroki walked out of it. "I told you that you would see him soon," Deku said. Young Todoroki, All Might whispered in disbelief. "It's still not too late," All Might continued. "You can come back to UA and become a hero. Do what is right," he said. "Stop it," Todoroki said. "If I become a hero, nothing would change. People would just keep suffering," he explained. "Deku is a villain. He kills people. How is that better?" All Might asked. "My father drove my mother mad and made my life a living hell. And you killed Deku's mother. Tell me, how are heroes any better?" Todoroki retorted. "See, All Might, I didn't lie. I only helped Todoroki see the truth. The rest is his own will," Deku said. "Now let's move on to why we are here," Deku said and pulled out 2 syringes, one empty and one filled with a dark green substance. "What do you want?" All Might asked. "To take out an opponent of mine," Deku replied, making All Might flinch and take a step back. "Not you. Not yet, at least. It is all for one I'm after," Deku said and crouched down next to the aforementioned villain. "He has expired his usefulness. He allowed me to do my research," he explained, and filled the empty syringe with All for One's blood. "And he has given me a great gift, second only to yours, All Might. He would only become a threat to my plans," Deku explained, and injected All for One with the dark green substance. "I win, All for One," Deku stated as he looked down on the now shaking body of All for One. "You killed him," All Might said in disbelief. "Yes," Deku chuckled. "What did you mean about my gift?" All Might asked. "Oh, that. You'll love this," Deku said in a dark tone and began slowly walking towards All Might. "My ability to transfer quirks gave me a lot of opportunities, but it was still limited to 1 quirk at a time. Then I found ways to manipulate quirks, but even that has its limits. Luckily, I got my hands on a tiny bit of All for One's DNA. Not enough to copy it, but just enough to examine it, which then gave me the key to have multiple quirks," Deku explained, and opened a portal with one hand and released an explosion with another to show his power. "But even that is tiny in comparison to what I got from you. A quirk without limits and endless potential. One for all," he said as a horrified expression grew on All Might's face. "Of course, the stockpiled energy didn't carry over, but I found a way around it," Deku said with a smirk. "Now tell me," Deku said as arches of green lightning suddenly appeared around his body. "Who did you give it to?" he shouted as he grabbed All Might by the neck and lifted him up. "I know you have passed it on. You're too weak to not have. Now tell me," Deku demanded. This time, All Might let out a shocked laughter. "I'll never tell you, but she'll rise and become a hero that will defeat you," he said defiantly. Deku let out a frustrated yell and threw All Might dangerously close to the wall of fire. "Come, Todoroki. We're leaving," Deku ordered as a portal opened. Once the portal closed, the wall of fire disappeared and a bunch of heroes came forth to fight any potential heroes, but found only a beat-up All Might and a dead All for One. "What happened here, Toshinori Gran Torino?" All Might slowly got up and whispered to Gran Torino. "Deku has won for all." "This isn't good," Nedzu said as he fell back in the couch after hearing All Might explain what happened at Kamino Ward. Not only did Deku just become a much greater threat, but Todoroki too. Losing such a talented student. Not only is it a great loss, but if the media finds out, they will slaughter us. I can already see the headlines. Top student at UA turned villain. And if they find out by themselves, it will be even worse, Nedzu said. On the bright side, Deku doesn't know who my successor is, and it annoys him, All Might commented. "Yes, that's good. By the way, how is she doing?" Nedzu asked, switching back to his positive attitude. "She's coping. First, she loses a close friend, and now one of the classmates she looked up to has become a villain. It has been though for her," All Might replied in a more saddened tone. The one at dorms were silent. Everyone was trying to process what they just heard. "Todoroki wouldn't do that. Deku must have done something," Yaoyorozu said. "There's no way he wouldn't have." She continued, unable to finish her sentences. "Just face it, Todoroki betrayed us. We trusted him and he threw it all aside," Anjiro stated. "No, it can't be. He can't have thrown it all aside. Maybe we can find him and convince him. Show him that there is still good in heroes. Show him what is right," Kaminari pleaded. "No, I saw it when he joined Deku. He won't come back. I just don't know what to do." "And what if he was convinced because Deku was right?" Tsuyu suggested. Suddenly, Bakugo got up and stormed out of the building. "Wait, Bakubro," Kirishima called out as he followed, leaving the rest of Class 1A. "It doesn't matter what happened and why it happened. Todoroki is with Deku now and we need to move on and find out what to do now," Uraka said as the others silently agreed with her. "Stupid Deku," Bakugo mumbled angrily as he walked around the UA campus without any real purpose. "Always having that smug look like he is above me," he exclaimed in an outburst. "And UA and the heroes are just a bunch of pusses who doesn't even try to find him. He made half and half a fucking villain. Why the fuck aren't they doing something?" Bakugo complained loudly. "Are you alright, Bakubro?" Kirishima asked, whose sudden appearance almost made Bakugo attack him. Don't fucking sneak up on me like that again, Bakugo threatened. Sorry, Kirishima chuckled. The fuck you doing here anyways? Weren't you with the other extras? Bakugo asked. I'm worried for you, and so are the others. You keep walking around the campus late and it looks like you constantly think about something else. We know that you have some sort of connection with Deku, but you refuse to talk about it, and it makes me kinda worried, Kirishima explained. Bakugo let out a long sigh and sat down next to a tree. If tell you about Deku, do you promise to not tell anyone? Bakugo asked. Of course, Kirishima replied and sat down next to Bakugo. Fine, Bakugo said and let out another sigh. Deku's real name is Izuku Midoriya. And we used friends in kindergarten, he began. You two were friends, Kirishima interrupted. Don't fucking interrupt me, Bakugo yelled. Sorry, I just didn't expect you to be friends, Kirishima apologized. As I said, we were friends, very close friends actually. Nicknames, sleepovers, adventures, we did everything together, Bakugo said with an almost fond smile. Then, I got my quirk and I knew I would become the greatest hero. Everyone told me so. Meanwhile, Deku didn't get any quirk, he was quirkless. At first not much changed, except me starting to call him Deku, meaning useless. Started off as a joke, but as time went on it became more of an insult. You see, he never stopped trying to become a hero, despite everyone telling him to give up. It annoyed me, always looking like he was thinking he was above me. Although in hindsight, maybe I just took it the wrong way, Bakugo explained. But it won't change what happened next, since I started treating him as an outcast. So did the other extras, and that was how it was for 10 years. The last time I saw him in person was last year during middle school. The next day, his mother, Inko, was involved in a hostage situation. All Might came, but I guess he didn't think the villain would remain conscious. Either way, Deku's mother was killed by the villain. Unfortunately, Deku was there and saw her die, Bakugo said with a saddened tone. I'm not sure what exactly happened next. You couldn't hear them on the news, but All Might tried to comfort Deku and I guess that was when he snapped. The bastard started laughing like a lunatic and yelled something at All Might before running away. 1 year later I meet him at the USJ, Bakugo said. Wow, that must be tough. Not to be rude, but I can kinda see why Deku became like he is, Kirishima said. That is why I'm scared, Bakugo said, surprising Kirishima. For what? He asked. I'm scared that Deku is right. That everything we believe in is wrong. That heroes only keep people like him as outcasts. Sometimes, I even wish quirks never existed. Me and Deku would have remained as friends and Inko wouldn't have died, Bakugo answered. Kirishima suddenly embraced Bakugo, making the explosive teen freeze up. The fuck you doing? He asked. You need a proper manly hug, Kirishima replied. Bakugo didn't reply, but relaxed instead. The following day Class 1 is sitting silently in their classroom when Aizawa came in. Class dismissed. Go back to the dorms and don't leave, he ordered. Why? What happened? Uraka asked. The League of Villain is attacking a nearby city with Nomus and the principal is taking precautions, Aizawa replied. Is Todoroki there? Yaoyorozu asked. We don't know, Aizawa replied. Deku sat in front of his computer, examining some results when his phone started ringing. He reached out his hand and the phone came flying into his hand. Hi Shigaraki, Deku greeted. Deku, where are you? How did you get away? Shigaraki hissed. I got away when the Nomus distracted the heroes. I then ran to a hideout I prepared just in case. I won't tell you where though. This is my hideout, Deku replied, holding back a snicker as he heard Shigaraki's growling. Fine then, keep your secrets. You know where Sensei's 4th warehouse is, right? Meet me there tomorrow night. Don't make me wait, Shigaraki said and hung up. Someone is angry, Deku muttered to himself. Shigaraki was sitting patiently on a box in an abandoned warehouse. The rest of the league was standing around. Who even is this Deku anyways? I've barely seen him since I joined, Mr. Compress asked. He's an annoying little brat who thinks he is above consequences. The only thing he is good at is making Nomus, Shigaraki replied. He made those. He's awesome. He's disgusting. Twice exclaimed. That amongst other things, Shigaraki grumbled mostly to himself. Before the league could continue their conversation, Deku came walking through the door. I know you don't like to wait, but I had some problems finding this place again. My apologies, he said as he entered. Now, what did you want to discuss? He asked. Deku, so nice of you to finally show up, Shigaraki said, his voice laced with sarcasm. When the heroes attacked Kirigiri's bar, I couldn't help but overhear the little conversation you and All Might had. He continued, you did something to Todoroki, didn't you? Shigaraki asked threateningly. You didn't really think you were the only one who wanted to make a UA student change sides? Yes, Todoroki is with me and unlike your failed attempt with Bakugo, he is on my side, Deku replied. How did you even find him? And when did you have the time to take him during the raid? I know he was there after we left and gone before backup came, Shigaraki asked. I have a few Nomus who are good that sort of work. As for how I found him, again, you aren't the only one who is interested in that class, Deku lied effortlessly. I have also seen that after All Might defeated Sensei, a wall of white fire suddenly appeared and when it disappeared, he was dead. You killed him, didn't you? Shigaraki asked, filled with anger. There was a tense moment of silence before Deku huffed. I have a feeling you won't accept either answer I could give. Either because I lie or because I tell the truth, he replied. You bastard! Shigaraki yelled and lunged towards Deku with his arms stretched out. Without missing a beat, green lightning spread across Deku's body, and in the blink of an eye he was holding Shigaraki up by the neck from behind. The other members of the league looked at their leader in shock as one of the hands covering Shigaraki's face fell off. You should consider your next actions very carefully, Shigaraki, Deku threatened, and let go of Shigaraki, who fell down on the floor. Why did you kill him? Shigaraki asked. When I got there, All For One was already dying. The injuries he sustained while fighting All Might was lethal. The government might have been able to keep him alive in some cell somewhere, but he would be virtually powerless. So instead of letting them get potential information from him, I killed him. I call that mercy, Deku explained. Shigaraki started slowly to pick up his dismembered hand and put it back on his face. Deku, he asked. Yes, Deku replied. How long would it take you to make enough nomus to cripple the heroes? Shigaraki asked. 1 or 2 months, give or take, Deku answered. Do it, Shigaraki said and stood up. And let us tear down this society together, he offered. That sounds good, Deku replied with a grin and gave a quick look to Dabi, communicating one simple sentence. This is it. Phoenix Journal, number 2, entry 38. This is it. The time is soon here. Tomorrow the League and I will attack Tokyo with the nomus I have made over the last month and a half. There will not be a better time. This will be as big the League will ever get, and Shigaraki is already at the verge of killing me. Tomorrow the League will die, and the revolution will begin. Everything is in position. There is just one thing annoys me, something that I can't get off my mind. Who did All Might give one for all to? Who? At first, I thought it would be someone similar to him, like that third-year Mirio Tagata. But then, at Kamino Ward, he said it was a Shiso, a girl. It has to be UA student. And the only female students I think he would even consider are those 1A. It narrows down the possibilities, but I need to be sure. So far, none of the girls have shown any signs of strength enhancement or amplification of their base quirk. I know One for All strengthens everything that is already there, including any potential quirks, so there should be a significant power increase. Unless they got it before UA, and what I am seeing is the amplified quirk. There is also another thing that I have noticed recently. I have had these strange dreams, not every night but most nights, and they are always the same. I find myself in this dark and black city where the buildings almost seems to be made of some black foggy substance that is blown it by a non-existing wind. Sometimes, I think I hear someone speaking in this place far away, but when I get close I just wake up. What does these dreams mean? 1 time is a fluke, 2 times is a coincidence, but this has happened 8 times and counting. Is it a side effect of my quirks and experiments? The League of Villains was standing on top of a building in Musutafu, waiting for the right time to start their attack. Is everything ready, Deku? I can't help but notice that we lack bot nomus and Todoroki, Shigaraki asked. Don't worry, the massive Nomu diversion in Tokyo should have gotten the full attention of all heroes in the entire region by now. The only risk for us is the UA teachers. As for the nomus, they'll come, Todoroki to Deku replied. Fine, then get the nomus over here now so we can start the attack, Shigaraki said. Your wish, Deku said, and pulled out a small remote and pressed a button. Suddenly, dozens of nomus started appearing out of gray goo in the air surrounding the League of Villains. That is, Kurogiri began. All for One's quirk. I know, Deku interrupted. I was allowed to make a copy of it before he took it himself, he explained. Enough talking, Shigaraki shouted. Let's crush this city, he said with an insane glee as the League of Villains spread out and started attacking Musutafu. Deku quickly snuck away from the other villains and opened up a portal that Todoroki came through. I still don't get it. Why let Shigaraki attack Musutafu first then kill him? He asked as the portal closed behind him. Bargaining power. I need that if I want the information I need, Deku answered. Information on All Might's successor. Todoroki wondered. Yes, Deku confirmed. But first there is a building I want to tear down, he said, and started heading through the streets, propelling himself forwards with One for All and explosions, with Todoroki following closely. In almost no time, Deku and Todoroki reached a building that didn't stand out at all. What is so special about this building? Todoroki asked. It was here All Might crushed my dreams, Deku replied. And I just want to tear it all down, he added through gritted teeth. Deku then activated One for All and jumped high into the air and used explosions to boost himself further up and above the building. He let out a yell of anger as fire erupted from his feet and accelerated him back down towards the building, blew himself through the building. In a few seconds, the entire building had completely collapsed. On top of the rubble stood Deku, letting out a slow laugh. Could someone powerless do that, All Might? He whispered to himself. Are you done now, or should I just wait for you at UA? Todoroki asked. You're right. Let's go, Deku said and walked down from the pile of rubble as he brushed off dust from his coat. By the way, what was that new quirk? Fire feet, Todoroki asked. A modified quirk from someone who could light their feet on fire. Couldn't increase the heat, but I could increase the force of the output significantly, Deku replied. I think that person is one of the Nomas attacking Tokyo right now. Should cause a proper mayhem, he chuckled. Now, let us pay Yue a little visit, Deku said as he and Todoroki headed towards Yue. When Deku and Todoroki reached the gates of Yue, they were greeted by Shigaraki and Kurogiri. I can see they have put the school in lockdown, Deku mentioned. Yes, and my quirk doesn't work on the gates anymore, Shigaraki grumbled. Todoroki, why don't you show Shigaraki here what you can do? Deku asked. Of course, Todoroki replied and aimed his left arm towards the tall metal gates. A flash of light appeared as a massive beam of white fire shot out from Todoroki and collided with the metal gates. In a few seconds, the surrounding area started turning red, the orange, then white as the metal came closer to its melting point. Todoroki then stopped the stream of fire, leaving a still standing, white-hot, metal gate. You failed, Shigaraki snickered. Not so fast, Deku shot back, battering ram. He called out, and a Nomu bigger than the one at the USJ came from behind a corner. Nomu, break that wall, Deku ordered and pointed at the wall. The Nomu immediately ran straight through the white-hot metal, blowing the entire gate open. The metal ended up covering the Nomu, burning it as it let out an inhuman screech before falling to the ground with an empty thud. Deku didn't wait for Shigaraki to process what had just happened and calmly walked up to the now wide-open gate with Todoroki. On the other side, he was faced with many of the UA teachers, ready to fight. Surrender now, Midoriya and Todoroki Eraserhead ordered. Deku slightly flinched at the mention of his name before replying. Good, you're here and ready to fight. If not, I would have made these for nothing, Deku calmly said as Nomus started appearing behind him out of gray goo. I wonder how many of your students could stand against a Nomu, or 2 or 3? He asked threateningly as he raised his right arm. Why don't we find out? Also, the names, Deku, he added before quickly lowering his arm as the Nomus charged forwards, heading towards the student dorms. Most of the heroes followed after the Nomus to protect their student. All except one, Eraserhead. Aren't you going to help your colleagues? Deku asked. I have faith in them. Besides, the hero replied as he readied his gray scarf. There is, you have a student of mine right beside you, he said, and charged towards Deku and Todoroki. Todoroki tried to make a nice wall, but his quirk was blocked. Eraserhead then tried to capture Deku with his scarf, but it was swallowed up by a purple portal that suddenly appeared. Hey, don't take all the fun from me. That one is mine, Deku, Shigaraki said as he and Kurogiri approached the hero. All yours, Deku said and stepped aside for Shigaraki. Shigaraki let out a grin and charged at Eraserhead, ready to finish what he started at the USJ. Come, Todoroki. We have a certain principle we need to talk to, Deku said as he and Todoroki walked right past the now busy Eraserhead and into the main UA building. Down here, Todoroki said as he led the way through the corridors of UA. Are you sure Nedzu knows about One for All? He asked. I'm almost certain. And if not, I'm even more certain that he will be with All Might. I will get my answers no matter what, Deku answered. By the way, have you had any unusual things happening to you since I modified your quirk? Weird outbursts, weird dreams, or anything like that? He asked. No, Todoroki replied as they walked around another corner. Have you? He asked. Not at all. Just wanted to make sure that nothing weird has happened, Deku replied. Todoroki didn't fully believe Deku, but let it go for now. More important things were ahead. Here it is. Nedzu's office, Todoroki said as they stopped in front of the principal's office. Good. Let's have a little meeting, Deku said and reached for the handle. This is bad. I shouldn't have used all of my power against All for One. I should have saved it so that I could help protect the students, All Might said as he nervously paced back and forth in Nedzu's office. Toshinori, you need to calm down. If you hadn't defeated All for One, we would all have much bigger issues, Nedzu reassured him. We had no idea that Deku and Shigaraki would use a 100 Nomus as a distraction. But I'm sure our colleagues can handle these at the campus. Besides, we have many competent students, not just in the hero course, Nedzu said. I know, All Might said as he looked out the window. It's just that. He trailed off as he saw something outside. Is that Bakugo? And he began, but was cut off when the door opened. Nedzu, All Might, I was hoping that I would find you here. If not, I would have done all of this for nothing, Deku said as he entered the office, with Todoroki following behind. Why don't we sit down and have a little chat? I'm sure there is a lot we can talk about, Deku offered and sat down on a couch. Nedzu and All Might begrudgingly complied and sat down on the couch opposite to Deku and Todoroki. Let us just skip all of the formalities and get to the point. I have a lot to do today, Deku said once All Might and Nedzu sat down. I have an offer to make, one that will give all of us something we want, he offered. Just say it, All Might said bluntly. It's quite simple. I'll end the entire attack immediately and I'll make sure that the League of Villains will never be a problem again. In return, all I ask for is one name. The name of All Might's successor to One for All, Deku explained. What makes you think we would tell you? All Might asked. Don't fool yourself, All Might. I will find out who this girl is eventually. I've already narrowed down the possible candidates a lot. So why not make it easier for yourself and tell me? Because I can promise you that things will get a lot worse if you don't comply, Deku answered. Maybe we would have considered agreeing to your offer if it hadn't been for one little detail, Nezu said. You're already planning on taking out the League of Villains, he said with a smirk as a frown spread across Deku's face. You've already killed All for One and you're using Kurogiri's quirk. You're already preparing to remove the League. This entire attack is just to give yourself more bargaining power, Nezu explained as Deku began growling. You don't know who All Might's successor is, nor will you. She is perfectly safe and will grow to defeat you, and you know that. You're scared, Nezu concluded. Shut up, Deku exclaimed as his calm demeanor disappeared. I will find out who she is, and nothing will stop me from making my vision come true. He yelled and suddenly grabbed Nezu by the throat, choking him. Let go of him. It's me you want, young Midoriya. All Might shouted as he stood up and faced Deku. Stop calling me that, Deku yelled and threw Nezu into a wall. My name is Deku. You killed Izuku Midoriya a long time ago, he shouted and activated One for All. Just as Deku was about to punch All Might, he was blown over when a massive stream of air came crashing through the wall. Deku flew across the room and crashed into the opposite wall. One for all, he muttered as he got up and went to the gaping hole in the wall to see who it was. His expression soured when he instead of one person saw three, Yaoyorozu, Uraka and Tsuyu. Which one of you did it? Which one of you did All Might give One for All to? Deku asked. None of the girls replied, and instead they got ready to fight. Fine, I guess me and Todoroki have to force it out of you, Deku said. He and Todoroki then started charging towards the three girls. However, before they reached them, Bakugo came from their side and blew Todoroki and Deku sideways through a wall and into the school canteen. I've got you now, Deku, Bakugo shouted as the other members of Class 1 blocked all the exits in groups. How many do you think you can handle? Deku whispered to Todoroki. 3, maybe 4 depending on who it is, Todoroki replied. Then I guess we'll have to move on to the next phase of the attack right now, Deku whispered before facing Bakugo. I guess you're right, Kaken, Deku said with a smirk. I don't have too many expendable nomas left to use against you, and me and Todoroki can't fight all of you at once. I'm afraid that we'll have to leave now, he continued and opened a portal. But worry not. I'll leave a little gift for you, Deku said and pulled out a bomb from under his coat. A few liters of nitroglycerine should do the trick, he said and carelessly threw the bomb into the air before he and Todoroki left through the portal. Goodbye, Kaken, Deku said before the portal closed. Get down, Bakugo yelled right before the bomb hit the floor and exploded. Deku and Todoroki emerged from the portal into an empty street somewhere in Musutafu. 2 other portals appeared which Dabi and Spinner came out of. Tell me that we're finally moving on to the next phase, Dabi said as his portal closed behind him. Yes, we are. It's time to kill off the League, Deku replied and pulled her out a small walkie-talkie. What was the villain said in that old sci-fi movie again? Oh, right, he said as he turned it on. Execute Order 66. Endeavor was busy fighting Nomu after Nomu in Tokyo when suddenly they all stopped. What's this? He asked. Suddenly all of the nomas turned around and started running in the same direction. Where are they going? One of Endeavor's sidekicks wondered. They're running off. Another one cheered. No, they're heading towards Musutafu, Endeavor said as he stared at the horde of nomas running away. Aizawa was getting worn down by his fight. Shigaraki and Kurogiri was a deadly combo. Kurogiri could use portals to block most of Aizawa's attacks and even managed to cut off pieces of it. At the same time, Shigaraki kept Aizawa from getting near Kurogiri and required him to constantly erase his quirk. Then, while Aizawa couldn't use his quirk, Shigaraki was about to touch him, just like what happened at the USJ. Then, out of nowhere, 2 nomas jumped over Aizawa and pinned Shigaraki to the ground. Another Nomu grabbed Kurogiri's metal collar with a force that made the metal creak. Hey, let go of me. What are you doing? Shigaraki yelled as he tried to get free. He stopped for a moment when a green portal appeared in front of him. Deku, Shigaraki hissed. You're doing this. I'll kill you for this. He yelled as both he and Kurogiri was dragged through the portal. Aizawa could only stare in surprise as the portal closed. He got even more shocked when all of the other nomas attacking UA came running right past him and off into the distance. Deku, what is the meaning of this? I'll kill you, Shigaraki yelled as he was dragged out of the portal and in front of Deku. Change, that is what is happening. Just look around you, Deku replied with a smirk. Shigaraki quickly looked around him and saw all the other members of the League being dragged out of portals by nomas yelling profanity, just like him. You missed too, Shigaraki chuckled. No, he didn't, Dabi said as he and Spinner stepped into view for Shigaraki. Traitors, Shigaraki grumbled. Nope, just spies, Deku retorted with a grin. Why? If it hadn't been for us, you'd be nothing, Shigaraki hissed. I know, Deku replied, and I'm forever grateful for that help, but times are changing. I would have been fine with letting the past die, but as things are, I'll have to kill it. There are games being played on so many levels that you can't even see, and that is why you lose. And why I win, Deku explained and took one more look at the rest of the League. Kill them, he ordered with an almost cheerful tone. Shigaraki could only stare in horror as he saw the Nomus smash in the heads of each member of the League of Villains, one by one. They started pleading for their lives, becoming more and more desperate. "Don't kill me. I'm too young to die," twice begged before his head too was smashed in. "Stop it, Deku. We'll join you. I'll do anything. Just stop," Shigaraki yelled as he desperately tried to break free from the Nomus grip. "I'm sorry," Tamura Kirigiri quietly said right before his metal collar was crunched together, killing him. Shigaraki was frantically trying to get free as Deku looked down on him and chuckled. "This is where we'll have to say goodbye, Shigaraki." "Kill him," Deku said with a small laughter. "No," Shigaraki yelled as he briefly managed to touch the arms of the two Nomus holding him, turning them into dust. He didn't hesitate for a moment as he started running away from Deku. "You'll pay one day, Deku. I'll kill you myself," he yelled as he ran off. "Nomus, go after him. Kill him by any means necessary," Deku ordered with a sneer, and 5 Nomus started chasing after Shigaraki. "Shouldn't we make sure he's dead?" Spinner asked. "We don't need to. He's already injured and traumatized. The Nomus will take care of him," Deku replied. "Now it's time to start the revolution. Get the camera," he ordered. Across all of Japan, TV screens started showing Deku standing in the middle of a street. "Citizens of Japan, rejoice," Deku exclaimed. "One of our greatest threats has been annihilated," he said, and stepped aside to reveal a pile made from the dead bodies of the members of the League of Villains. "The League of Villains is no more and will no longer threaten the people. But there is still one great enemy. One that very few people even realize is a threat," he continued before making a small pause in his speech. "Hero Society. For too long have this society that glorifies heroes as deities ignored the suffering of the weak, the helpless, the quirkless. Our government and leadership rely solely on heroes to keep the power. They have made a system that praises the strong and keep the weak blind. Those who are blessed with strong and flashy quirks are put on a path towards the very top, being praised for something they didn't earn. Meanwhile, those who they don't see any use in, the unfortunate, the weak, the quirkless, and everyone who doesn't fit the image of an ideal hero are ignored and left to themselves. They are bullied for something they had no control over and becomes outcasts. Then the outcasts, realizing that they have no other choice if they want to be noticed, lash out towards their oppressors. Hero Society then, in their unmatched ignorance, refuse to see why these people lash out and simply label them as villains instead. They never address the cause of the problem. It's an endless system that constantly makes villains for heroes to fight. The heroes are then praised, which creates more villains," Deku said with bitterness. "But no more," he said as white and blue fire came from outside the view of the camera and lit the remnants of the League of Villains on fire. "Because today, right now, the Phoenix Revolution has begun. And just like the League of Villains behind me, we will burn down the current order, the entire system and its leaders. It will all burn down to the ground, and from the ashes a new and better society will rise. One without discrimination. One without outdated titles like heroes or villains. It will be a new order. Heroes, you have been warned," Deku said triumphantly before the transmission cut to the image of a blazing phoenix spreading its wings. Later during the night, Deku found himself waking up in a familiar dream. A dark city where the buildings were covered in black fog that was blown by a non-existing wind. "Back here again," Deku mumbled as he began walking around in the dream landscape. Then, he heard voices, much closer than what he had ever heard before. He began running towards where the voices came from. "That isn't two people talking. It's a whole group of people," he said to himself as he could hear the voices more clearly than ever. Deku felt that he was getting closer, but at the same time the voices started fading. Why do they always have to disappear? He asked himself before running around a corner and realizing that he could no longer hear them. Deku stood there wondering what had just happened when he heard someone else. "Hello?" He heard a female voice call out from behind him. Deku quickly turned around and saw another person, covered in the same black fog as himself and the surrounding buildings, except for the eyes. "Hi," Deku shakily replied. Phoenix Journal, number 2. Entry 45. "This girl I keep meeting in my dreams remains a mystery. I am certain that she is real and that somehow we have been linked through our dream. At first, we didn't talk much, probably because we were both shocked over finding another person in this dream landscape. However, after a few nights we got over the shock and started talking, learning more about each other. Unfortunately, I can't find out as much as I would like about her without telling her who I am. And from what I do know, that wouldn't go very well. She was very clear in her distaste for the revolution. What I do know is that she is around my age, studies in Musutafu, and is very kind-hearted. Even when expressing her disapproval of the revolution, she still could see where me and my followers come from and wanted to fix the same problems. Although, she still can't see that my way is the only way that would work properly. Another weird development that has happened ever since I met this girl in my dreams is that the fog is gradually disappearing. At first, I didn't notice it, but lately it has been undeniable. The fog covering the buildings is slowly getting thinner and thinner, making the place a little brighter actually. And the fog covering our bodies is developing much in the same way. To begin with, we could only see each other's eyes, but then our hands became clear of the fog and now I can start to see the rough shape of her head behind the fog. If this continues, then maybe, just maybe, I'll find out who she is. I am certain that I have heard her voice somewhere before, I just can't place it. When Deku once more woke up in his dream landscape, he was met with the mysterious girl sitting next to him. "Oh, you're awake. Or should I say asleep? Did your job keep you up late again?" she asked jokingly. "Well, yes. I thought I was onto something, but it ended up being a dead end," Deku replied as he sat up himself. "What are you even researching at your job?" "I know it's about quirks, but what exactly?" she asked. "I work within quirk development and research, and right now specifically I work on how quirks carry over from one generation to the next," Deku explained, only telling half the truth. "Now, I've told you what I work with, so tell me what you are studying at this school of yours," he said. "Well, it's a bit embarrassing," the girl replied. "I study so that I can join the hero industry because they pay well," she explained. "So you're just after money?" Deku asked with a scoff. "It's not for me, it's for my parents. They have always struggled financially, and they always work so hard. So, I want to earn enough money so that they can relax," the girl elaborated. "I know it's a stupid reason, but she said, but was interrupted by Deku. "No, that is a good reason for doing what you do. It's important to help those who you love and care for. I hope it works out for you," he said. "By the way," Deku said and stood up and looked on the surroundings. "Have you noticed that the fog has gotten lighter? We can see each other's hands now and the silhouette of our hair is starting to show," he commented. "Yes, I have," the girl replied and walked up to a nearby building. "It's almost as if I could just wave the fog off these buildings," she said. She gently dragged her hand through the fog covering the building, which to her surprise, did blow away the fog for a short while. "Wait, I know this building," Deku said and ran up to the girl. He blew away more of the fog and revealed more of the surface beneath. "I know exactly which building this is. Maybe," he muttered before trailing off. "Follow me," Deku suddenly exclaimed and ran into the building's dark interior and up the stairs. Deku came running onto the top of the building with the girl following closely behind. He walked to the edge of the roof and watched over the dark city. "This is Musutafu," he said in realization. "You're right," the girl said excitedly as she walked up next to him and began looking around. "Which means that UA is that way," she said and pointed towards the hero school. "Yeah, and over there is," Deku said excitedly. "Before becoming more somber, that's where Mom used to live," Izuku said with a saddened tone before sitting down with his head low. The girl sat down next to Izuku and gave him an empathetic look. "You said that it's important to help those who love you. Was your mother one of them?" she carefully asked. "You don't have to answer if you don't want to," she quickly added. "No, it's fine, and yes, my mother was the only one who ever loved me and supported me. All everyone else saw was the poor quirkless kid. All those looks of sympathy when they found out, like I was disabled or something. It makes me sick. I guess that in some sense the only reason I keep going is because of her. Even if she isn't here anymore, I feel like she's still supporting me," somehow Izuku said with a saddened expression. "I understand, and I'm sure she would be proud of you, no matter what," the girl said. "By the way, why did you recognize this building?" the girl asked. "Oh, that. Well, you see, this is where my life changed," Izuku replied. "You see, when I was young, I had dreams of becoming a hero, even if I was quirkless. One time, I met a hero on this roof, and he told me to give up my dreams, that they were unrealistic. It broke me, but I got myself back together and found another purpose. Although, I think this building was destroyed in the Musutafu battle," he explained. "You know what I think? I think that whoever that hero is, they are an idiot. There are many heroes who barely uses their quirks. Anyone can become one with enough effort," the girl said. "Thank you," Izuku said with a fond look. He began before suddenly waking up from his dream and back into reality, breathing heavily. Izuku sat in his bed going over what had happened in the dream when he heard a knock on the door. "Come in," Deku said. The door opened to reveal Dabi standing on the other side. "This Yakuza brat contacted me. He wants to talk with you," Dabi said. "The Yakuza, they're nothing more than an old remnant of the old criminal world. They only want money and power," Deku said with a clear distaste. "But I'll hear what he has to say." "Who is he asked. "His name is Kai Chisaki, also known as Overhaul, the leader of the 8 Precepts of Death," Dabi answered. "I'll meet him. Just give me a moment," Deku said and reached for his cloak. When Deku had gotten ready, he made a portal and came to an empty warehouse where Overhaul was already waiting. "So you're the one everyone keeps talking about, killing the League of Villains and the leader of a revolution," Overhaul said. "Get to the point. I have other things I'd like to do," Deku said impatiently. "I understand, you're a busy kid. You see, I have sources telling me that you like doing experiments related to quirks," Overhaul said. "Yes, and," Deku said, "well, I have this subject who has a very interesting quirk. A quirk I think can be used to make a quirk-destroying drug. Sadly, I have gotten stuck in my progress and I could use another person who could help me," Overhaul explained. "So you want me to help you create a quirk-destroying drug? What do I get out of that?" Deku asked. "If you you'll get to use the product. I'm sure that someone like you could find use of a quirk-destroying drug, Overhaul offered. Fine, I'll give you a visit 2 days from now so that I can take a look at your research. Then I'll consider helping you. Deal, Deku said. Deal, Overhaul replied. Good, I'll see you then, Deku said and left through a portal. So what do you think of him? Dabi asked as Deku returned to the secret facility. He thinks he is tricking me, Deku said with a scoff. So he just wants to use you? Dabi asked. Yes, he wants me to help him with his project and then he'll distribute this quirk-destroying drug to me and other villains for us to use against heroes. However, he's a Yakuza. He wants to earn money and power, so he'll make an antidote and sell that to the heroes. He'll have a never-ending war where both sides will come to him for a product which he both controls supply and demand. I just want to get a closer look. I have no intentions of helping him. We'll destroy them eventually anyways, Deku explained. Actually, I don't think we need to bother to destroy them, from what I have gathered. There's a hero agency that is currently investigating them, Dabi said. More the reason to get a look as quickly as possible. Anyways, let's get back to recruiting, Deku said. Wouldn't it be easier to just make enough Nomus to topple the government? Dabi wondered. We could, but it wouldn't work in the long run. We would just been seen as conquerors without the support of the people. We want the new order to last. We need the support of the people, and that means having a revolution that succeeds because of them, not some mindless Nomus, Deku explained. The night before he was supposed to visit Overhaul, Deku once more woke up in his shared dream landscape. This time before the girl. I guess she's still awake, he mumbled to himself and stayed on the roof, waiting. After a short while she did appear next to him on the roof. Look who's finally is here, he remarked. I had a busy day today, so I had trouble sleeping. I guess the coffee didn't help either, the girl replied. I know that feeling, Deku said with a chuckle. Also, since we know that we are in Musutafu now, why not see how Yue looks? He suggested. All right, the girl agreed as they both started heading back down to the street. By the way, last time we had this dream, right before we woke up, what were you about to say? She asked. Just forget it. I don't even remember what it was anymore. Probably nothing, Deku replied and kept on going. Eventually, the girl and Deku reached the unmistakable shape of the UA campus, easily recognizable, even if it was covered in fog. It looks so much grimmer than usual, the girl commented. You've been here before? Deku asked. Well, I know someone who works here and they have showed me around before, she stuttered. Then I guess you wouldn't mind showing me around, Deku said and gestured for the girl to go ahead of him. Of course, she replied and began showing Deku around the campus. Despite of his resentment for the school, Deku couldn't help but enjoy his guided tour around the campus. The girl showed him around with such a bubbly happiness that he couldn't help enjoying it himself. After having been shown the main building and the dorms, the girl started showing him a more remote part of the campus, covered in trees. This is probably one of my favorite places at UA. My friend often walks around here with me when we talk, the girl said as she and Deku walked among the trees. It's also where he gave me something important, she added. And what did he give you? Deku asked. Hope, that is what the girl began, but suddenly stopped when both her and Deku felt a massive headache. Deku could barely breathe because of the intense pain in his head. Then, he saw images of someone else's life flashing through his head. Images of a brown-haired girl growing up in a poor household with her parents always working. A girl who wanted to help her parents and everyone else. A girl who joined UA's hero course in Class 1 and was at the USJ when the League of Villains and Deku attacked. A girl who afterwards was approached by All Might, who saw the sign of a true hero in her. A girl who trained hard so that she could receive one for all. A girl who right before going with her class to a training camp received one for all from All Might. Once the last image of All Might holding out a strand of hair to a brown-haired girl and exclaiming, "Eat this," passed through Deku's mind. The headache stopped. He slowly looked around and noticed that he no longer was covered in fog. He then looked at the girl who he had just seen the life of, now also without fog covering her body. Deku, she hissed as angry tears started falling down her cheeks. Uraka, Deku said in disbelief, right before dodging said girl's fist. So you're the one All Might chooses as his successor. Deku pondered as he dodged another strike from Uraka. You killed Ada, she yelled as her fist connected with Deku's chest. So that's why I didn't see the pads you had on your fingers before, Deku mumbled as he tried to regain his breath. Are you ignoring me? Uraka shouted, ready to lash out again. Of course not. I just know that if All Might made you his successor, then there is no use in trying to change your mind on matters you've already decided on, Deku retorted. And regarding Ada, it was Stain who killed him, he added. You let Stain kill him, Uraka protested. Yes, but what reason did I have to stop him? Look at it from my point of view. I'm trying to change the world and I have two enemies, useless criminals and the government, which the heroes protect. I had no reason to save him then, I would have no reason now. Besides, Ida got himself into that mess and would have died regardless, Deku explained. You're still just a villain, Uraka said. If trying to fix the world is considered being a villain, then yes, I am a villain, Deku replied. You're not trying to fix anything. You're just killing innocent people and making their lives miserable. Uraka yelled. Didn't you just see my memories like I saw yours? Or do you just decide to turn your back on all the suffering that has happened to me? The suffering countless people are going through right now. Deku shouted back. Of course I know about it, but becoming a villain isn't the right way. There are other ways to help people, Uraka replied. What other way? Becoming a hero. I was never given the chance. Besides, the entire system is already rotten to its core. Even if there are good heroes, they won't make enough of a difference to fix anything. Or maybe you thought about becoming a politician. Don't make me laugh. There are barely any relevant quirkless politicians, and even fewer of them who aren't in the pockets of the hero industry. Now tell me, what other option is there? Deku complained. We aren't getting anywhere like this, Uraka sighed. I guess you're right, Deku reluctantly agreed. Neither of us want these dreams to continue. So, for when we are in these dreams, we have a truce so that we may find a way to stop having them, Deku said and offered his hand. All right, but only in these dreams, Uraka said and reluctantly shook Deku's hand. Great, Deku exclaimed. Now we've been here for some time now, so I don't think we have much time left here for tonight, so we need things to work on until next time. This is clearly linked to One for All, so we should get as much information as possible, Deku muttered, making Uraka even more uncomfortable. Oh, I know. You tell All Might about this and see if he knows anything. Meanwhile, I'll look into the samples I have of the quirk and see if I can find anything, Deku said. If we get more time we could. He began, but couldn't finish before suddenly waking up in his bed. Some time later, Deku was talking with Dabi and Todoroki about their plan for the meeting with Overhaul when Spinner entered the room. Deku, the Nomus that chased Shigaraki is back, he reported. Did they bring the body? Deku asked. Yes, although 2 of them hasn't returned and another one seems to have lost an arm, Spinner replied. Of course, Deku huffed. Presume that the 2 missing Nomus are dead. Dispose of the injured one and put the remaining 2 on storage. Meanwhile, I want to see the body, he ordered. Right away, Deku. Spinner responded and started doing what he was told to. Deku entered the room where Shigaraki's body was. The body was laid out on one of Deku's many operating tables. See, Shigaraki. There is no escape from the revolution. Dread it, run from it. Destiny arrives all the same, Deku said with a smirk as he looked down on the dead body. The revolution will claim it all and burn it down. First was you and everything you tried to build. Those who are beyond repair because of this broken system, Deku narrated as he picked up the dismembered hand covering Shigaraki's face. Then we'll remove the heroes, ruin their reputation and the entire corrupt industry they have built, he said, and put the dismembered hand to the side. And lastly, we'll take all the power away from the government, burning it all down. Only then will the new order arise from the ashes, he narrated as he filled a syringe with Shigaraki's blood. I could probably use this in a Nomu, he mumbled to himself and put the syringe away and picked up the dismembered hand again. As for this, Deku began, I think I'll keep it as a trophy, he said with a glee. Goodbye, Shigaraki, Deku chuckled before he left the room. Do everyone remember the plan now? Deku asked as he and Todoroki got ready to visit the Yakuza base. I think we got it after the second time you repeated the entire thing. But of course, Spinner had to forget one small part, Dabi replied. It was just one small detail. How important could this visit even be? You don't even want to accept Overhaul's offer anyways, Spinner wondered. Overhaul has a test subject with a quirk that can potentially destroy someone's quirk permanently. I need to know who this is, what their quirk is, and if we need them. That is why this is important, Deku replied. Anyways, Overhaul is probably waiting already. Let's go and meet him, Todoroki, he said, and opened a portal that he and Todoroki walked through. Once Deku and Todoroki emerged on the other side of the portal, they were greeted by Overhaul. Good, you're here, Deku. I was starting to worry. I can also see you brought. Overhaul began, but was cut off by Deku. Cut to the chase, Overhaul. I'm only here to observe your research to find out if I want to help you or not. I have other things to do as well, he said. Fine then, come this way, Overhaul said and began leading Deku and Todoroki into the Yakuza base and through the underground corridors. Eventually, Overhaul brought Deku and Todoroki into a room with research equipment and an operating table. On the operating table sat a white-haired girl with a horn on her head, dressed in a hospital gown. Deku quickly noticed the bandages wrapped around her arms and the fearful look she gave Overhaul. Is this the subject? What is her quirk? Deku asked. Yes, her name is Eri and her quirk allows her to rewind objects, Overhaul replied. Let me get a look, Deku said and approached Eri while giving Todoroki a signal behind his back. Deku began examining Eri to see if she had been injured elsewhere besides her arms. Meanwhile, Todoroki began talking to Overhaul, distracting the Yakuza leader. Please don't hurt me, Eri quietly pleaded. Don't worry, I won't. You just need to hold out a little bit longer, Deku whispered back. If you do as I say, you will be safe. All you need to do is, he began as he whispered instruction to her. Are you finished, Deku? Overhaul asked, making Deku slowly back away from Eri. I think it would be better to look over what I've done so far while Eri isn't here, Overhaul said. Yeah, I think so too, Deku replied. Get back to your room, Eri, and don't try running off again. We wouldn't want a repeat of yesterday, do we? Overhaul ordered. Yuri silently complied and left the room with the same terrified expression. There, now show me your research, Deku said. Right over here, Overhaul replied and walked over to a row of filing cabinets. Just after a few moments of Overhaul showing Deku his research notes, Deku stepped back. You're sick, you know that? Deku asked. Overhaul just gave him a questioning look. Experimenting on a little girl and taking pride in it, Deku said. I thought you were the guy that would reach his goals with whatever means necessary. Overhaul calmly asked and became slightly more defensive. Almost anything. Some lines you simply don't cross. I hope you lose everything when the heroes raid this place, Deku answered and opened a portal behind him. But for now, I'm content with having Yuri safe, he said as Overhaul realized what had happened. You won't get away, Overhaul threatened and took of his gloves and charged towards Deku and Todoroki. Suddenly, a Nomu came from behind Deku. Once Overhaul touched the Nomu, it exploded into tiny pieces, showing that Deku and Todoroki had already left through the portal. Bastards, Overhaul growled. When Deku and Todoroki returned to their facility, they were greeted by the sound of Dabi and Spinner trying to calm down Yuri. Hey kid, we're just trying to help, Dabi said as he tried to approach Yuri. Stay back. You're not the nice person, Yuri yelled back with a terrified voice. Dabi, Spinner, stay back. You're scaring her, Deku ordered. Once Yuri heard Deku, she ran to him and grabbed his leg. I'm scared, she whispered. Deku carefully lifted her up and looked at her. Yuri, no one here will ever hurt you. Just breathe, Deku calmly told her. Yuri started slowing her breath down and began calming down. She then clung onto Deku around his neck. There you go. Now, let us find a nice room for you to sleep in, and in the meantime my colleagues can prepare a nice meal for you, Deku said and watched as Todoroki went to make food. How does that sound? Deku asked. Yes, please. Thank you, Yuri replied. Deku slowly backed out of Yuri's room and gently closed the door, careful not to wake her up. You seem to have grown attached to her, Todoroki stated. Perhaps, after seeing all those scars Overhaul has given her, both physically and mentally. I just want to protect her, make her feel safe and happy, Deku confessed. That will be difficult considering the things we do, Todoroki remarked. Yes, but I don't feel it's safe to let anyone else take care of her, Deku replied. By the way, you and Dabi seems to be getting closer, he commented. What can I say? He's my brother and we have a lot of catching up to do. He ran away when I was 6 after all, Todoroki replied. Good on you. Maybe your other siblings will eventually join us as well. Deku wondered. Anyways, it's getting late. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, he said and walked into his room. Deku laid down on his bed and drifted off to sleep, back into a familiar dream landscape. When Uraka woke up in the familiar dream landscape, she was met with the sound of Deku's silent grumbling. Someone is angry, she commented. Oh, you're here, Deku said with the same attitude. Can you tell me what it is, or is it a secret? Uraka asked. Well, I met this Yakuza leader called Overhaul. Deku began. Overhaul? Don't tell me you're working with him, Uraka interrupted. Of course not. It's the Yakuza, I despise them, Deku replied. The reason I was there was because he claimed that with some help from me, he could make a quirk-destroying drug. I agreed to look at it and considered. Of course, all I wanted at the time was to see who the test subject was and if I could use them myself. Deku explained before he was cut off by Uraka. What did you do to Yuri? She asked. Oh, you know about her, Deku said, slightly surprised. Well, to make a long story short, I saved her. Right now she's sleeping in a room close to my own. Well fed and her wounds taken care of, Deku explained with a fond smile. You kidnapped her, Uraka said accusingly. I saved her from the sick bastard who ran experiments on her, Deku hissed back. You experiment on people too, turning them into nomus, Uraka retorted. Do you even know who I experiment on? Because I'll tell you. Rapists, murderers, sex offenders, abusers and corrupt officials, that is who I experiment on. Never innocents and never children, Deku explained. So if you and that hero agency that is investigating Overhaul could kill that bastard as quickly as possible, I'd be very pleased, he said. You know what? I think that for once we can both agree on something, Uraka responded. By the way, we should probably start talking about what we are supposed, Uraka suggested. Yeah, we probably should. Neither of us wants this to continue, Deku said and began walking out of UA. Where are you going? Uraka asked. A place that we can use to organize what we know about these dreams, Deku answered. Sometime later, Deku walked into a back alley and stopped next to a wall and began waving away the thin fog that still remained. What are you looking for? Uraka asked. The opening mechanism. You see, I have several bunkers spread around Japan that I made in case me and some of my followers needed to go into hiding, Deku explained as he pulled out a loose brick. They have everything you could need to either run the revolution or reboot it. He continued and pressed a button hidden behind the loose brick, making a door open in the wall. None of them contains secret information and I have enough of them to afford losing one. So I don't care if you tell the heroes about this one, Deku said before walking in. Uraka stood slightly stunned before following after Deku. Here it is, Deku said as he and Uraka entered a room with several computers and one screen covering one of the walls. The planning room, he stated with pride and began turning on all the equipment. You really like to prepare, Uraka commented. It's always wise to have a backup plan. That's why I have several, Deku said. How many? Uraka asked. Enough, Deku replied. Now tell me, what did All Might know about these dreams? Deku asked and sat down in a chair next to a computer. Well, he wasn't very happy when he found out that you knew that I was his successor, Uraka began. Good, Deku smirked. But he agreed to help us ending these dreams, Uraka said, ignoring Deku's remark. So, what did he know? Deku asked. He didn't know much. He said he knew that things like this have happened with One for All before. However, that tended to be just seeing visions of the previous holders. Although, he was going to ask someone about his predecessor's experience with the One for All remnants. So I might know some more next time, Uraka explained. Great, and I found nothing new when looking over the quirk. So I guess Deku said before becoming silent. Previous holders, he muttered. Uraka, while we were alone in these dreams, did you hear voices? Deku asked. Yes, sometimes, like a group of people speaking. Although, they would always disappear before I could find them, she answered. Great, then that means something did carry over during the transfer, Deku said and began putting up notes on the wall-sized screen. Transfer, what do you mean? Uraka asked. You see, when I first tried to give myself One for All from All Might's DNA, the energy wouldn't transfer with the quirk. It seemed like the quirk only transferred the function of the quirk and not the accumulated energy when I did it. I worked around the energy problem later and just presumed that nothing else carried over. But it seems like it did, Deku explained. Let me guess, you have to look over it again. Uraka asked. Yes, but now I know what to look for, Deku replied. You know, maybe it would just be easier if you... Uraka began, but was cut off when she woke up. No, it's just silly. He would never give it up, she mumbled to herself as she groggily started to get ready for the day. Phoenix Journal, number 2. Entry 87. I can't understand these results. I have looked over One for All for the umpteenth time and still makes just as much sense as the first time. The information All Might has given Uraka hasn't been useful either, just that the previous holders leave remnants of themselves in the quirk that display some sort of consciousness. Although, that does add up with what I have seen in the quirk's DNA. There are parts of DNA that is neither from the quirk nor its holder. I can't remove them since its way to integrate it into the quirk and would make it useless if I did. But it still shouldn't make me and Uraka connected. It would make more sense if it connected my dreams with All Might's, since I gave myself a version without All Might's remnants, while Uraka probably has a remnant of him somewhere in her DNA. Maybe Uraka can help me make sense of this the next time we have dreams. Speaking of our dreams, it isn't as weird anymore. We have more or less stopped arguing like we did almost every dream before. It does happen, just very rarely. It really helps considering we have to work together to fix this problem. She also seems to have gotten over the fact that I'm taking care of Iri. She doesn't approve, of course, but she acknowledges that that is simply how things are now. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Revolution is moving forwards. Our numbers are growing, but we still need many more followers if we want to make the desired impact. I estimate that if nothing else happens, the revolution can begin at full force 1 year from now. Things are looking good. However, there is one slight thing that bothers me besides my shared dreams. I have analyzed Shigaraki's DNA and there is something off about it. I can't quite place it, but something isn't right. The instruments tell me that the body's DNA is Shigaraki's, but I can't help but feel that I'm missing something. It's probably nothing, I'm just a bit paranoid. A few nights later, Deku and Uraka were back in their dream landscape looking over all the things they had gathered so far about One for All. Are you sure there isn't something you've missed while analyzing the quirk? Uraka asked. Of course I'm sure, Deku replied. I've checked so many times that I've lost count. I've done countless experiments with One for All and I'm still not getting closer to why we keep having these dreams, he complained and slumped down in a chair with a huff. And All Might has told me everything he knows about One for All and the past successors, Uraka said and sat down in another. Maybe if you hadn't killed All for One, then maybe he could have told us something, she suggested. Do you really think that it would be wise to have All for One alive? If he knew what I did to Shigaraki, I would be dead before the next sunrise. After that he would kill All Might. Then Deku responded, although you're probably right about him knowing something, he admitted. Maybe we should just give up, Uraka pondered. Give up? We won't get anywhere if we do that, Deku complained. Does that matter anymore? We've gathered all we know about One for All and how it works, and we have learned nothing. Why waste so much of our time in these dreams and outside of them to try and stop them? I think we should just get used to having to see each other in these dreams and move on, even if it is quite awkward, she explained. No, there has to be a connection somewhere in this mess. We just need to find it, Deku said and looked at the screen displaying all that they knew. But yes, until we somehow discover that connection, we'll just have to get used to this, he concluded. The two sat silent for a while until Uraka broke the silence. Deku, could you do something for me? She asked. What makes you think I would help a hero? Deku retorted with a scoff. It's about Overhaul, Uraka said, gaining Deku's interest. I'm listening, he said. Well, tomorrow we are attacking his base. It's meant to be a rescue operation, but I know that you already have Eri, so they'll probably end up taking Overhaul. I wondered if you could, actually punish him for what he did. Uraka asked. But don't kill him, she quickly added. You don't even need to ask me that. I'll make that bastard pay any day, Deku said as an evil grin appeared on his face. And don't worry about me killing him, he quickly added. Good, Uraka said with a sigh of relief. He'll just wish I did, Deku said as his grin became a crazy smile. That's even worse, Uraka exclaimed, immediately regretting her actions. Perhaps, but admitted. You want that bastard to suffer just as much as... Deku began, but was cut off when he woke up. Can't these dreams not end in the middle of a sentence for once? It's getting tiresome, he complained to himself. Overhaul was not pleased in the slightest. Everything he had built up had gotten destroyed in one swoop because of the heroes. Not to mention that he failed to develop his quirk-destroying drug because of Deku taking Eri from him. He didn't really think that it could get worse as he muffled the back of an armored truck on the way to some prison. But of course, it got worse when the entire armored truck he was transported in was hit by an explosion and started tumbling around. The truck then suddenly stopped tumbling as if something had blocked it. A few seconds later, frost started spreading around the door at the back of the truck right before a fist smashed it open like it was made of brittle glass. Well, look who it is, Deku said in a dark tone as he walked into the back of the armored truck. The child-abusing bastard, he spat out as he walked up to the trapped Overhaul. But I have good news for you, Deku said as he let out a low chuckle. You can make amends for all of your sins with this one very simple act, he said, and opened a portal that slowly approached Overhaul. You just need to become my newest test subject, Deku said as he began letting out a slow laughter. Then, you'll finally feel the pain that you put Eri through, he said with a crazy glee just as the portal consumed Overhaul. So how is my favorite test subject doing today? Deku asked playfully as he opened the door to the room where he kept Overhaul. Please. No more, Overhaul pleaded. Did you stop when Eri said the same thing? Deku asked in a darker tone. Besides, I'm not even close to finished with you and your quirk, he stated as he pulled out several empty syringes. I could do so much with your quirk at my control, Deku said as he began filling the syringes with Overhaul's blood, one by one. And with you as my subject, I can modify it as much as I like. Just imagine all the possibilities, Deku chuckled as he finished extracting blood. Anyways, time for your eternal punishment, he said and laid out torturing equipment. I think we can start with the teeth this time, Deku said with a lowly laughter and grabbed a plier. He slowly walked over to a terrified Overhaul with a crazy grin while letting out an equally crazy laughter. Open wide, he said quietly right before the room was filled with the screams of Overhaul. Later that night, Deku and Uraka met once more in their dream landscape. Found anything new? Uraka asked bluntly. No, Deku replied. But there is something I want to ask you about. Well, it's more of a favor than a question, he said. What is it then? Uraka asked. It's about Eri. Yuseshi, Deku began, but was cut off when he suddenly disappeared, leaving Uraka confused. Did he wake up? She wondered. A few seconds later, Deku reappeared in front of her, visibly more tired. That is the thing I sort of need your help with. Even though Eri has physically recovered from her experiments, and the fact that Overhaul is too injured to ever hurt her again, she still suffers mentally. I'm not a psychologist, but I'm pretty sure she suffers from PTSD. She regularly wakes me up because of her nightmares, like what just happened. I had to redecorate the entire facility because it reminded her of Overhaul's base, and we constantly need someone to look over her to make sure she doesn't have another episode, Deku explained. To put it simply, I need your help so that I can help her, he said. What do you want me to do? Uraka asked skeptically. All I need is for you to say yes to my request, Deku replied. Would you allow me to bring Eri to the UA Culture Festival so that she could have a nice experience for once? He asked. What? Uraka exclaimed. You heard me right. For the sake of Eri's mental health, I want to bring her to the UA Culture Festival to help her leave Overhaul in the past, Deku confirmed. Have you gotten even crazier since the last time I saw you? Even if I said yes, you would get caught. You would need an invisibility quirk. Everyone in Japan knows who you are. Uraka said loudly. Firstly, no. I can assure you that I'm in no way more crazy than last time we met. Secondly, you'd be surprised how easy it is to go unnoticed among the public, even without a quirk. Which leads me to, Deku explained before being interrupted by Uraka. Don't tell me you've gotten an invisibility quirk, she said. Well, kind of. It isn't an invisibility quirk in the traditional way. It allows me to emit a psychic field around myself and the ones I choose that makes others ignore me. I'll essentially be like a figure in your peripheral vision, someone your mind doesn't consciously pay attention to. Of course it has its limits. If there are few people around me or if I make sudden sounds, stuff like that will draw more attention towards me and the quirk won't be as effective. Intelligence quirks users also seem to be able to look through the psychic field, which is probably something I should look into, Deku explained, slowly going into a muttering spree. Okay, I got it, Uraka said, pulling Deku out of his muttering spree. Oh, I was muttering again. Sorry, he apologized with a nervous chuckle. Don't worry about it, Uraka assured him. So anyways, what is your answer? Is it fine for you to know that I'm at the culture festival with Eri? Deku asked. Uraka was silent for a moment, considering the choice. Fine, I'll allow it, she eventually replied. Thank you, Deku exclaimed and without thinking embraced Uraka. After a few seconds, Deku seemed to realize what he was doing and quickly let go of a slightly blushing Uraka, while letting out an awkward cho. As I was saying, Uraka began. Breaking the awkward silence, I will allow it. But only you and Eri, and don't even try to do anything, she said sternly. Of course, what makes you think I would do anything? Deku asked jokingly. I don't know, maybe because you're a villain, Uraka replied, playing along with Deku's joke. Me, a villain? Never, Deku said. Uraka failed to hold back her laughter any longer, and very soon both of them were laughing. That was until they woke up and the dream ended. Well, it didn't end in the middle of a sentence this time, Deku said to himself as he woke up with a fond smile on his face. That's a lot of people, Eri commented and tightened her grip around Deku's hand as she and Deku approached the entrance of UA. Don't worry about it, Eri. I'm here for you, Deku said and pulled his black hoodie over his head. We need to hurry up. The first performance is beginning soon, he said and quickly lifted Eri up on his shoulder and picked up his pace while Eri gave a small laughter. It didn't take long until Eri and Deku both were on the UA campus. Deku couldn't help but smirk every time he saw one of the teachers unconsciously avert their gaze away from him. Although, he still had to make sure he didn't encounter Nezu since he didn't know for sure if the intelligence quirk user could see him clearly or not. Come, Eri, we wouldn't want to miss the first show, Deku said and began walking once he made sure Nezu was nowhere to be seen. Yes, and can I get something to eat afterwards? Eri asked as she looked at all the booths around them. Of course, Eri. How about a candy apple? Deku suggested. What's a candy apple? Eri wondered. You don't know. Well, I guess you have something to look forwards to. But first, Class 1A's performance, Deku said as the duo joined the crowd in front of the stage. After a few moments, the crowd fell silent as the stage curtain was pulled aside, revealing Class 1A ready to perform. So it's musical number, Deku thought to himself right before the music blasted out from the stage. Deku didn't really care about the performance. He was interested in Eri's reaction. He looked up at Eri sitting on his shoulders and smiled as he saw her overjoyed by the performance. Deku almost felt like he could see Overhaul's influence being blown away by the music. He then looked back at 1A's performance with slightly more interest. Didn't know Kaken played drums, he thought, and he's not bad at it, he mentally added. Deku then noticed Uraka and a fond smile spread across his face. Thank you, Uraka, he said quietly, inaudible to everyone else due to the music. That was awesome. Eri cheered once the performance was over. So you liked it? Deku asked. I loved it. I even saw the nice lady, Eri replied joyfully, making Deku curious. The nice lady? He asked. Yes, the girl with brown hair that was dancing. She tried to protect me from him, but I couldn't let him hurt her, Eri replied, becoming more nervous. But everything turned out fine, didn't it? Deku said and put Eri back down on the ground, giving his shoulders some rest. Now, I promised you candy apples, didn't I? So let us go get some, he said with a smile to Eri and began walking her towards one of the numerous booths. Deku had never seen someone devour a candy apple as fast as Eri did, but she loved them and he was unable to deny her request for more. So he grabbed several of them and decided to take a walk with Eri somewhere less busy. It didn't take long until Deku and Eri were walking through the forest which Deku had gotten familiar with via his shared dreams. Deku had expected a nice calm walk without the noise of the crowds or the constant fear of Nezu seeing him. But things changed when Eri saw Uraka also walking in the forest. You're the nice lady, Eri exclaimed and began running towards Uraka, instantly blowing away the cover of the quirk Deku was using. Huh, Eri, Uraka said with a confused look. That must mean that, she said as Eri hugged her legs. Uraka started looking around for Deku, with difficulty due to the quirk he used. Right here, Deku said, turning off the quirk. Eri looked at the two heroes in her life with a slightly curious expression. Deku, do you know the nice lady? She asked. Well, Deku began, but was cut off by Uraka. Yes, we know each other, she said rather coldly. My name is Uraka, by the way, she added with a warmer tone. Uraka, Eri slowly spelled before looking up at Uraka with a smile. You don't have to save me anymore. Deku saved me from the bad man, Eri said. That's good to hear. Does Deku take good care of you then? Uraka asked. Yes, he gives me food and toys and he and all his friends play with me, Eri answered with a constant smile. Hey Eri, why don't you go a bit ahead so that I and Uraka can talk about some other stuff? Deku suggested to her. Okay, Deku, Eri replied and walked further down the road, still visible to Deku. Once Eri was out of earshot, Deku and Uraka became more serious. You didn't lie about that quirk. I didn't even acknowledge that you stood right in front of me, Uraka said. Well, given the circumstances you would have seen through it after a few more seconds anyways. By the way, good performance, Deku replied. Thank you. I had to fight a villain that called himself the gentle criminal on my way to the performance. Though he could ruin the entire culture festival, Uraka complained. Oh, if he had done that, I would have made him regret it, Deku said with a sinister voice. I hope you haven't done anything, Uraka said, ignoring Deku's comment. Well, I did steal like a dozen candy apples to satiate Uri's hunger for sweets. But other than that, nothing, Deku answered. Good. Now, you should probably return to Uri. She seems eager to move on, Uraka said and looked over to an impatient Uri. Yes, of course, Deku said and began walking away. Oh, Uraka, he called out. Yes, she asked. Thank you. Thank you for letting me give Uri this. She really needed it, Deku said sincerely. You're welcome. Goodbye, Deku, Uraka replied. Goodbye, Uraka, Deku said and walked away with Uri, activating the disguise quirk. Although, I think I needed this as well, Deku mumbled inaudibly to himself. As the day went on, Uri became more and more tired. Eventually, Deku had to carry her back home as she almost fell asleep. As Deku left the UA campus while carrying Uri in his arms, she snuggled closer to his chest. I had so much fun. Thank you, Dad, she said tiredly right before falling asleep in the arms of a shocked Deku. He stood there for a long while, processing what Uri just called him. Dad, he said carefully, trying to get a sense for the word. He then looked at the sleeping Uri as a fond smile grew on his face. I'll gladly be your dad, Uri, he said and carefully kissed her head before opening a portal back to his facility. Phoenix Journal, Number 2, Entry 91. Going to the Culture Festival really has been the right move. Uri's mental health has improved drastically since before the Culture Festival. She is more comfortable around the others. She rarely seems worried about losing us now and her nightmares are practically gone. At the same time, I guess I have become her dad, and I don't know why, but that makes me feel happy. I'll do everything I can to make sure Uri stays safe and happy. Although, that might pose some challenges, considering that she has started wondering if she could meet Uraka again. I mean, accidentally bumping into each other at the Culture Festival is one thing. But agreeing to meet each other, maybe regularly, even if it is for Uri, it is a bit much. I'll have to mention it during our next dream. Entry 93. So I mentioned Uri's request during mine and Uraka's dream last night, and we have come to some sort of arrangement, for Uri's sake. First, we agree on a time. Then I drop Uri in an apartment I've bought, and once I leave, Uraka comes and spends time with Uri until I come back to pick her up. We both have minimal real-world contact and Uri remains happy. The only fear I have is that Uri will get too attached so that when the time comes for me to kill Uraka, no, I'm sure it will be alright. Entry 135. I've discovered something that is a bit disturbing. I've already had my suspicions that something has been off with Shigaraki's body, but now I found out exactly what was wrong. Someone, before he died, took samples from his body and tried to cover their tracks afterwards. Meaning, someone needed parts of Shigaraki's body and managed to capture him before my Nomus. I have to say, it was almost perfect, but you can't hide something like that forever, not from me. But why? Why would someone go to the effort of kidnapping Shigaraki, take samples from him, cover it up and then just throw his body out to my Nomus? Whoever did it must be up to something dangerous. I've already sent several followers to find out more, but so far, nothing. Phoenix Journal, Number 3, Entry 15. 2 years have passed since I began my journey down this path. 2 years have passed since All Might betrayed my trust and killed Mom. 2 years has passed since I began my plan to save this country from heroes and lies. Now, things are almost ready. Our numbers have grown considerably since the attack on Musutafu. Sadly, my knowledge on quirks hasn't grown as much. There is only one big mystery left, and that is the dreams caused by One for All. Although, I think I'll never figure that one out. Me and Uraka has officially given up on that. Now we just explore the dream landscape. So far it just seems to be a one-to-one replica of Japan. Except it's always night and yet there are no stars and the land is always lit up by an unknown light source. It's surprisingly nice actually. Just the other day we walked by a beautiful lake. Maybe when I'm done with all of this, I'll settle down there, build a cabin and live peacefully. But first, there is a job to be done. Entry 24. Christmas happened. It was good. I'm happy. Entry 37. The revolution has to wait a bit more, it seems. The Meta Liberation Army has decided that this is the right time to start waging war against me. I thought they died along with Destro, but it seems they just followed a new leader, Redestro. Very creative. It doesn't matter. Nothing will stop the Phoenix Revolution, not now when we are so close to really start changing society. Whoever this Redestro is, he will feel my wrath, no matter how long it takes. Phoenix Journal, Number 4, Entry 56. Our agents have found the Meta Liberation Army's hideout. Deku City is the next target for the revolution. It took me 3 years, but once this battle is over, the Hero Society will be set alight and will burn down to the ground. Deku made sure he locked the door behind him as he entered his room. He then walked to the door connecting his and Uri's room and made sure that door was locked as well. Deku took a look around the room, making sure there was no one observing him. He walked up to a wall and placed his palm against it. The wall beneath his palm glowed in a blue light before a secret panel opened next to him, revealing safe with a keypad and a retina scanner. Deku entered a long string of numbers into the keypad before holding his eye in front of the retina scanner. After a few seconds, the door of the safe opened with a click, revealing 3 journals stacked upon each other. Deku grabbed the top one before closing the safe and the secret panel. He walked over to his desk and laid the journal open on it. He grabbed a pen and began writing a new entry in his journal. Entry 24. Christmas happened, Deku quietly said as he wrote. It was, he said before stopping and leaning back in his chair, letting out a deep sigh. How was it really? Deku asked himself as he began looking back on the day so far. The day started as most others, with Deku waking up as his alarm played whatever Christmas song was on the radio. He got himself dressed and got ready to wake up Eri. Instead, Eri herself opened the door to his room and ran straight into Deku, almost knocking him back onto his bed. Dad, it's Christmas, she said excitedly as she hugged Deku. I know, sweetie. There's no need to crush your dad over it, he said jokingly. Sorry, Eri said and let go with a bright smile. Deku couldn't help but chuckle as he ruffled his daughter's hair. Why don't we go and get you some breakfast? He suggested and picked Eri up. Yes, she cheered in agreement. After Deku and Eri had eaten breakfast with the others, they prepared to go out for a little walk. Where are you two going, and what's the deal with the present? Todoroki asked and pointed towards the gift Eri was holding. Oh, we're just going for a little walk. Maybe we'll get some hot chocolate. The present is for a friend of Eri, Deku explained. So you've got a friend, Eri. Is she nice? Todoroki wondered. Yes, she's super nice. Why else would I give her a gift? Eri replied. You're right, Todoroki said with a chuckle. You two go and have fun. Me and Dabi will take care of the dinner, he said. We will. See you around, Deku replied as he and Eri walked through a portal. Deku and Eri walked out of the portal and into a small apartment. Eri immediately sat down on the couch in front of the TV and put on Home Alone. Don't forget to place your present under the tree, Deku said and motioned towards the Christmas tree standing in the corner of the living room. Oh, right, Eri said. She walked over to the tree and carefully placed a small gift-wrapped box under it. You think she'll like it? Eri asked. I think she'll love it, Deku answered with a smile. Now watch the movie while I prepare the snacks and some hot chocolate, he ordered. Once Eri had turned her attention towards the TV again, Deku grabbed something from his pocket. A small gift-wrapped box, slightly bigger than Eri's gift. He took a long, thoughtful look at it as he traced his fingers along the edges. No, not now, he mumbled to himself before he put the gift back in his pocket. Afterwards, Deku finished the hot chocolate and found the snacks. He brought tea out into the living room and sat down next to Eri. The father and daughter then had a great time watching as 2 bandits were cruelly tortured by a kid. When the movie finished, Deku stood up and prepared to leave. Dad, why can't you and your Uraka be with me together? Eri asked, stopping Deku. Eri, trust me, I wish it could be so simple. But I've told you many times why. Your Uraka is a hero and I'm a villain. Even this agreement is pushing the boundaries, Deku replied as he walked to the door. Don't worry, your Uraka will be here soon and you'll watch Home Alone 2 together and have fun. Then I'll come pick you up once she has left. And when we get back home, you can have as many candy apples as you want, he said. Okay, Dad. See you later, Eri said, slightly saddened. See you later too, Deku said before walking out of the apartment, picking up a paper bag standing next to the door before closing it. Outside of the apartment, Deku grabbed a thick envelope from the bag and put it down in front of the door. He then opened a portal and walked through. Deku exited the portal on top of a building looking over the apartment complex he just left. He waited for a few minutes until he saw Uraka walk up the stairs of the apartment complex. She stopped in front of the apartment Eri was in and picked up the envelope Deku left before entering. I think she'll appreciate it, Deku muttered to himself. He then prepared to open a portal, but stopped himself. I can walk. It's not that far, he reasoned, and began walking down the building he had teleported on. After walking a fair distance, Deku reached the edge of a cemetery. Deku stopped for a moment, taking a deep breath before walking into the cemetery. Eventually, Izuku reached a relatively unused part of the cemetery with few graves and a few snow-covered trees. He walked up to one of the tombstones and sat down on his knees in front of it. The grave had 2 names. One name had missing chunks of stone and was covered in scorch marks as well as snow, making it unreadable. The other name was only covered in snow, which Izuku brushed aside, revealing the name in Midoriya. Izuku reached into his paper bag and grabbed a bouquet of flowers as well as a candle. He put down the flowers, lit the candle and placed it down as well. Hi Mom, Izuku said with saddened tone. Bakugo was in a bit of a hurry. His class had decided to have a party to celebrate the holidays. Not that he really cared. He only decided to participate because Kirishima convinced him. But first he had one important thing to do. Bakugo quickly walked through the cemetery, paying no mind to all the graves around him. He began slowing down when he approached a more remote part of the cemetery. As he got closer to the grave he was planning to visit, he noticed that someone was sitting in front of it. He couldn't make out who it was since their face was facing away and their hair was covered by a cap. How didn't I notice him earlier? Bakugo wondered to himself as he got closer. As he got closer, he could hear that the person was speaking quietly to the tombstone, quietly crying actually. Who the fuck is visiting in Ko's grave? The only other living person who would is, Bakugo thought as a bang of realization hit him. Deku. He called out carefully. The person suddenly jumped back, revealing the person face. Call Kaken. Izuku stuttered in surprise as he tried to wipe away his tears. What are you doing here, Deku? Bakugo asked. Izuku didn't answer and began opening a portal, preparing to leave. Deku, wait, I just want to. Bakugo yelled. But Izuku went through the portal and closed it before he could finish. Talk, Bakugo said quietly as his hand reached for the empty air where Deku had just stood. Meanwhile, not far from where Bakugo stood, Izuku had emerged from his portal and observed as Bakugo looked around. Why is Kaken here? Why would he even bother visiting Mom's grave after all he did to me? Izuku wondered. Is he feeling regret? He asked himself. No, he never regrets anything. His mom is probably forcing him, Deku reasoned and turned the other way. Uraka should be done with Iri by now, he said, and walked into a portal. After Deku had picked up Iri and brought her back home, the celebrations continued as expected. They had dinner with Todoroki, Dabi and Spinner, played Christmas music and opened their gifts. All in all, it was a good ending to the day. Deku looked back on the entry he needed to finish. After thinking about the events of the day, he knew what he wanted to write. But just as he was about to finish the entry, his phone started ringing. Deku reached into one of his pouches and grabbed the ringing phone. It was one of his secure, non-traceable phones, specifically the one that goes to Uraka. He pressed the call button and began talking. Uraka, what makes you call me at this time? Deku asked. I was wondering if we could meet up and take a walk together. You know, like in our dreams, Uraka replied. Is this a bad attempt at capturing me or something? Deku asked suspiciously. No, I just need some fresh air and someone to talk with, and you're the only one I could think of at the moment, Uraka said. Fine, our first dream encounter 30 minutes from now. See you there, Deku said and hung up. He got up from his chair and walked over to his closet. Seems like the day is still not over, he muttered as he put on his winter clothes. He then opened a portal and walked into it. Uraka stood on a street corner, in the snow, waiting for Deku. This was the same place in Musutafu that they had met each other in their dream world. Where is he? Uraka asked herself as she rubbed her hands together, trying to keep the warmth. Right here, Deku said from behind Uraka, making her jump in surprise. Where did you come from? Oh right, quirk that makes you unnoticeable, she said. Yep, just needed to make sure that there were no one else here, Deku explained. So you don't trust me after a year with shared dreams? Uraka asked. I do when it comes to these things. I just like to be careful. And you suddenly asking for a walk at this time of day was a bit suspicious, Deku replied. I guess it is. Now, shall we go or what? Uraka said, and the duo began walking through the almost empty streets. So, is there any reason for suddenly wanting to take a walk with me of all people? Deku asked. Did something go wrong at the Christmas party maybe? He added. No, not at all. We had fun. Even Aizawa seemed somewhat happy. Although Bakugo behaved a bit strange, Uraka replied. Strange, you say? Deku inquired. Yes, he was quiet, like he was in deep thought. Not even Kirishima could get any information from him, Uraka explained. He finally returned his normal self when someone decided to play All I Want for Christmas Is You, and he nearly blew up the speakers and almost killed Kaminari, she said with a little chuckle. That sounds like Kaken. He always hated that song. As for why he was behaving strange, I might have an idea, Deku said. And that is? Uraka wondered. I think it'll be better if I show you, Deku replied and suddenly began walking in a different direction. After a relatively short walk in silence, Deku and Uraka arrived at a cemetery. A cemetery? What does that have to do with Bakugo? Uraka asked. You'll see, Deku replied as he kept heading towards a more remote part of the cemetery, eventually arriving at a certain grave. Whose grave is this? Uraka asked. Read the bottom name, Deku replied. Uraka complied and crouched down. The top name was unreadable, but the bottom name was only covered in light snow. She gently brushed the snow away and read the name. Your mother? Uraka asked. Yes, my mom, Izuku replied. I come here every now and again. Even if I have a different place I can talk with her, he said, and sat down. That big tube I saw in your memories. Uraka wondered. That one, yes. Usually I talk to her there, but sometimes I like coming here, and today is a special occasion. But as I sat here, Kaken came up behind me to pay his respect as well, I guess. That's probably why he seemed strange, Izuku explained. I see, Uraka said. After a moment of silence, Uraka turned her attention towards the top name. Who's this? She asked as she traced her fingers across the charred stone. You've seen my memories. I think you can guess who, Deku replied. Your father. Uraka wondered. That man isn't my father. He the coward who left my mother and forgot his son's name, Deku said with anger in his voice. Uraka chose not to push the subject further, and they continued to sit in silence. After a while, Deku and Uraka left the cemetery, slightly more somber than when they entered. Eventually, Uraka decided to break the silence. "Yuri's gift was cute," she said with a smile. "What did she give you?" "She refused to tell me," Deku asked. "This bracelet," Uraka replied and showed a bracelet on her right arm made from the same colors as her hero suit. "She gave the same to me as well," Deku said with a little chuckle and showed a bracelet with greens, blacks, and grays. "That's super cute," Uraka said with a small squeal. "By the way, Deku," Uraka said quietly. "What?" Deku asked. "Thank you," she replied. "For what?" he wondered. "The money, you idiot," Uraka said. "What money?" Deku asked, pretending to not know what she was talking about. "Don't act stupid. I know you left the envelope in front of the apartment we have for Eri," Uraka said, pouting. "Thank you. My parents won't need to worry about their debts anymore," she added with a genuine smile. "No problem," Deku said. "What made you decide to give me that money?" Uraka asked. "Simple. Your parents don't deserve the hardships they are being put through. As someone who has grown up under other people's boots, I know what it feels like. That's why I try to help when I can," Deku explained. "Speaking of gifts," Deku said and pulled out a small gift from his pocket. "I forgot to place this under the Christmas tree earlier today," he said and handed the gift to Uraka. She took the gift and gently opened it. Her eyes lit up as she saw the gift. "You're kidding me," she whispered. "Don't worry, it didn't cost me anything. Just some clever usage of Quirk," Deku said reassuringly. "No, it's not that," Uraka said as she examined the necklace Deku had given her. A golden necklace with a small, pink gemstone which had UAS motto made out of white marble around the edge. "It's just that I got you something similar," Uraka said and pulled out a small gift from her pocket and gave it to Deku. "Is this why you wanted to take a walk with me?" he asked as he looked at the box. Uraka gave a short nod in response. Deku quickly opened it and examined the gift. It was a golden necklace, similar to the one he gave Uraka. Only this one had a small green gemstone which had a fire pattern on it. Izuku looked at the gemstone in silence, making Uraka worried. "Do you like it?" she asked carefully. "Like it? I love it. It's beautiful," Izuku replied. "How did you even get this? Did Yaorazu make it for you?" he asked. "No, I used some of the money you gave me to buy it," Uraka replied. "I see," Izuku said and put the necklace back in its box. He then suddenly embraced Uraka. "Thank you," Izuku said softly with a smile. "You're welcome," Uraka said and returned the favor. After standing silent for a while and just embracing each other, they eventually let go. "It's getting late. We should probably get back," Izuku said. "I guess you're right," Uraka agreed. "I could open a portal for you if you want," Izuku offered. "No thanks. I can get back on my own," Uraka replied. "All right," Izuku said and opened a portal. "Merry Christmas, Izuku," Uraka said. Izuku turned around and gave Uraka a smile. "Merry Christmas, Ochako," he said before turning back and entering the portal. Izuku emerged from his portal and into his room. He immediately sat down next to his desk with a fond smile and placed the gift from Uraka on the desk before finishing the entry in his journal. Phoenix Journal, number 3. Entry 24. Christmas happened. It was good. I'm happy. Izuku closed the journal and quickly placed it back in its safe. He then picked up the necklace Uraka gave him and put it on. "Thank you," he quietly whispered before going to bed, smiling after a good Christmas. Deku stood on top of a hill, looking down on Deku City, waiting for the attack groups to get into position. He couldn't wait to destroy this city, the heart of the Metal Liberation Army. They had suddenly begun making moves against his revolution a year prior, just when they were ready to fully attack Hero Society. "You really thought you could stop the future? I can't wait to see everything you fought for collapse in front of you," Redestro, Deku said to himself. He then suddenly heard someone in his earpiece. "All groups in position, Deku. We'll attack on your command," the voice of Dabi reported. "Great, commence the attack. Show them that nothing will stand in the way of the Phoenix Revolution," Deku ordered. "Oh, we will," Dabi replied. Within seconds, Deku could start to see signs of battle all around the outskirts of the city. Flashes of fire, debris being blown up and the yelling of the opposing forces. Deku stood silent for a moment, taking in the sight. "What do you say, High-End?" Deku asked and looked at something standing behind him. A creature that had lost almost all traces of the humanity it once had and sounded like it was in constant pain. A vaguely humanoid figure with nearly black skin that had cracks with a thick black mist rolling out of them, shrouding most of the creature in the mist. The only clear features of the creature were 2 white glowing eyes and a dark brown bird mask that had been sewed to the face. "Let's give this city an overhaul," Deku smirked as he looked at his creation. The high-end Nomu snapped its attention towards Deku before looking towards the city. "Will follow, Master," the creature said through its pain as it slowly began walking towards the city. It then stopped for a moment and the mask opened up, oozing out black mist. The Nomu then let out a chilling, inhuman screech that could be heard across the entire city, before it ran straight into the city at immense speed. "Well, don't want to miss out on all the fun," Deku said to himself as he too began walking into the city. For the most part, things were quiet as Deku walked towards the city center. He could see and hear his followers fighting in the distance. A tower of ice, flashes of blue and white fire, and the general sound of fighting. But if everything worked out as Deku had hoped, his followers would clear out a direct and unobstructed path all the way to the central tower. Of course, not everything could go according to plan, and Deku suddenly noticed two groups charging against him from both left and right. This didn't faze him, however, and instead he gave an unsettling smirk that made a few of the attackers falter. Deku quickly placed a palm down on the ground. Then, in the blink of an eye, the ground under one of the attacking groups was deconstructed, then reconstructed into spikes, impaling almost all of the attackers. Deku then looked towards the remaining group with a sinister smile. "You still think you've got a chance?" he asked in a dark tone. Several of the attackers were now slowly backing away, which Deku noticed. "The cowards die first," he declared as green lighting spread across his body. He then launched himself past the front of the attacking group into the back. He punched the first person into a building, killing them. Deku then released an explosion toward 3 more people, killing them too. A larger group of people then tried charging Deku, who jumped above them before fire erupted from his feet, burning the attackers to death. After just a minute, Deku had killed everyone who had tried to attack him and was once more heading towards the central tower, where Redestro was. "They really thought they could kill me," Deku chuckled. "Even if I lost, I would just come back stronger," he said with confidence as he kept walking through the streets. He could clearly see the signs of battle getting worse as he approached the central tower. Even entire buildings turned into pebbles. "The high end has been busy," Deku chuckled. Eventually Deku reached Central Tower and found it surrounded by Redestro's followers. Amongst them, a man stood on top of a van, giving out orders. The man then noticed Deku approaching the tower and ordered the followers to attack Deku. Deku stopped moving as he saw the massive horde charged against him, significantly faster than what he expected. Some voice-activated booster quirk maybe. He wondered as he calmly placed his palm on the ground. Cracks formed from Deku's palm and towards the surrounding buildings, and suddenly, the supporting beams was deconstructed. The building slowly tipped over before collapsing onto the attacking horde of people, crushing them. However, after a few seconds, more people came running over the collapsed building and some of the previous attacker managed to climb out of the debris. Deku was unfazed by this and instead reared his fist back as lightning covered his body. As the attackers came closer, the green lightning became darker and darker, as well as growing more powerful, making cracks in the ground as it struck. Just as the first attacker came into striking distance, Deku punched him. The attacker was blown apart by the force and a massive shockwave erupted, pushing all the attacker, as well as the debris from the building all the way back towards the tower at immense speeds. Koku Hanabata was laying among the wreckage now surrounding the central tower. One moment he was sending over 100 people to attack Deku, the leader of the Phoenix Revolution. Then, the next moment, they were all blown back with a single blow without even touching Deku. How? Hanabata asked himself as he propped himself up and looked over his dead comrades. How can someone be so powerful? He wondered. It's quite simple really, a cold voice replied from Hanabata's side. He looked towards the source and saw the person behind all the carnage. I wasn't given power, so I learned how to take it, Deku said with a sinister smile that filled Hanabata with dread. Deku stopped next to Hanabata and looked down at the man. You're the one they call Trumpet, right? Deku asked. Such a waste, he added, not waiting for a response. Deku then opened a portal behind Hanabata. Although, your quirk is not yet wasted, he said. He then grabbed the man's head and began dragging him towards the portal. Quirks aren't wasted on people, Deku monologued as he slowly lifted Hanabata up and took in the fear in the man's face. It's the people that are wasted on quirks, Deku said with a dark smile. He then threw the man through the portal and closed it. Rikiya Yatsubashi looked over the battle-torn city through his windows with a conflicted face. He hadn't thought that this Deku, a little kid, could cause so much damage. After all, he had just worked with the insignificant League of Villains before. However, when Yatsubashi realized that Deku was gaining a following, he began making measures to stop the kid's little rebellion. For the last year, the two adversaries had been locked in a fight in the underground society, trying to end the other. Now, in the matter of minutes, Deku and his revolution had destroyed most of Deka City and killed many of Yatsubashi's allies. He wouldn't let this go unpunished. Then the elevator to his office opened. The CEO of Detonarat. So you're Redestro, Deku stated as he exited the elevator. And you're the ungrateful child they call Deku, Yatsubashi retorted as he turned around and faced Deku. Call me whatever you like. But the fact is that I'm winning this conflict, Deku said. Just look at all your dead soldiers. Your dead allies, he continued with a smirk as a frown spread across Yatsubashi's face. Everything you've tried to achieve will be burned down. Then I'll do the same to the Hero Society, Deku said. I think you're mistaken, Deku. This is only a minor setback. We have agents across the country. We can easily rebuild, Yatsubashi said through gritted teeth. Once you're dead, he added. Before Deku managed to react, Yatsubashi's arm turned dark and grew in size before it punched him. Deku barely managed to use a force field quirk to protect himself, but was still launched into a wall. Yatsubashi didn't wait and launched himself towards Deku, who narrowly managed to step aside. But his arm was still hit, breaking it. Deku activated One for All and jumped over Yatsubashi and delivered a kick to his back. He then turned around to release an explosion, but was instead punched through the window. Deku began shooting fire from his feet to keep himself in the air. Full power, he said as the fire increased in strength, and launched himself back towards Yatsubashi. He quickly grabbed the man and began ascending through the roof. "I'll show you full power," Yatsubashi said as they ascended higher. Deku then noticed that Yatsubashi's body grew larger and darker, increasing in weight. "Fine, this will do," he said, and dropped Yatsubashi back towards the tower they had fought in. Deku then ascended a bit further before turning around and began accelerating towards Yatsubashi. Deku turned up One for All as much as he could right before his fist made contact. The two adversaries kept accelerating down, then right before hitting the tower, Deku punched Yatsubashi downwards and released the biggest explosion he could. Yatsubashi was disappeared into the tower as the ground exploded. Deku carefully landed in the massive crater that had been made. Several blocks had been leveled with the ground, and in the middle laid the wreckage from the tower. "He was more powerful than I thought," Deku commented as he checked the arm that had been broken to make sure the healing quirk had done its job. He was interrupted, however, when he heard some rubble moving around. Deku snapped his attention back to the remains of the tower. Just as massive black figure emerged from the debris. "Stress is really not good for my hairline, and you're really stressing me out," Redestro said. Deku didn't have time to think before Redestro was using his fingers to hold up Deku by his arms. "You've done nothing more than stealing other people's abilities," Redestro said with disdain. Deku then felt both of his hands crushed under Redestro's hold, making him scream in pain. "True power is earned," Redestro said. Deku desperately tried to get out of Redestro's grip, but even using as much of One for All he could handle didn't help, so he decided to go past his limit. The lightning surrounding his body grew darker and fiercer, making Redestro cautious. Deku screamed as every cell in his body felt like it was burning up. Suddenly, tentacles made of a black substance shot out from Deku and grabbed Redestro. Redestro jumped back in surprise, becoming very cautious. "You don't think I've earned my power?" Deku asked as began laughing. The black tentacles flailing wildly around his arms then grabbed a massive boulder. "I went through hell to get here," Deku yelled as he laughed like a maniac and threw the boulder towards Redestro at immense speed. Now Redestro was the one who had to dodge attacks. "Stand still so that I can tear you apart," Deku yelled as more tentacles pierced the ground where Redestro had stood moments prior. Deku stopped for a moment when he saw drones appearing that attached themselves to Redestro's body. The drones started spreading across his body, covering him in a mechanized armor. 150% stress, Redestro shouted. Deku threw another boulder towards Redestro, but this time he caught it and crushed it. "So that is how it is," Deku said in a dark voice as the black tentacles dissipated. Redestro was about to attack Deku, but then he noticed something. An emerald green fire started spreading across Deku's body. First a very weak fire, but it quickly increased in strength and brightness, making it difficult for Redestro to look. "This will be fun." Deku laughed and launched himself towards Redestro and punched him. A massive hole was blown in Redestro's armor and he was flung backwards. He hit the edge of the crater with immense force. Before Redestro had time to get up, a massive stream of green fire hit him. The heat overloaded his armor's cooling mechanism, slowly boiling him inside the armor. He quickly jumped out of the suit and away from the fire. But when he landed, he saw a figure made from the green fire come towards him from above, and for a moment, right before it hit him, it looked like a phoenix. Then, everything went black. "Where am I?" Deku thought as he woke in an unknown place. He looked around the landscape around him and realized it was similar to the dreams he shared with Uraka, except there were no buildings, just a vast empty dark space. He then looked at himself and found himself covered in the fog that used to cover him and Uraka when they began dreaming. The fog covered everything except his eyes and hands, as well as preventing him from talking. "Well, look at that. The thief did show up," a male voice said from behind Deku. Deku quickly turned around and saw a large, muscular and bald man standing in front of him. "You caused us a lot of confusion when you decided to steal One for All, you know," the man said accusingly. "Do you have any idea it is to have the remnants of your conscience split between two people?" he asked. "Number 8 was the only one who got lucky and was just with the girl," he complained. "Although, I guess that allowed him to make these dreams for the rest of us so that we could remain sane," the man mumbled. Deku looked at the man with a confused look, trying to figure out who it was. "You probably have a lot of questions," the man said with a smirk. "Well, too bad. I'm not giving any more information to you, villain," he said. "You stole a power that has been carefully passed down from generation to generation so that it can defeat people like you. The only reason I'm even bothering talking to you is because number 1 forced me," the man said accusingly. You'll never win, someone will stop you, no matter how long it takes. All the while, me and the others will do everything we can to stop your progress, he stated. Now go back to whatever you were doing. I've said enough, the man said. The dark fog suddenly flared up and covered Deku, making everything go black. Deku slowly returned conscience as he opened his eyes. Deku, are you alright? Todoroki said from somewhere besides Deku. Yeah, I'm alright. Just a bit tired, Deku responded as he slowly stood up. You sure? You've been out for quite a while, Todoroki asked. Yes, I'm sure. Anyways, what happened here? Deku asked as he looked around the scorched crater they stood in. You tell me, Todoroki replied. The operation was going well, and we were rounding up the leaders as you planned. Then there's suddenly a bright green light coming from here, followed by an explosion. Once the light disappeared, I went here and found you like this, as well as him over there, Todoroki explained and looked over to where an unconscious Redestro laid, next to a pile of molten metal. Well, Todoroki, Deku said with a dark laughter. It seems like we won, he continued and began walking towards Redestro. Redestro's pathetic little, Deku said, but stopped when he suddenly felt a flash of extreme pain coming from his stomach. His legs buckled under him and he fell on his knees. He covered his mouth with his hand as he began a violent coughing fit. Are you sure you didn't get hurt during the fight? Todoroki asked worriedly. I'm fine. It's nothing that my healing quirk shouldn't be able to fix, Deku replied, not mentioning the drops of blood that was now on his hand. I need to check something back at the lab. Round up the leaders and bring them in for processing, Deku ordered. He then opened a portal through gritted teeth as the pain flared up again. Kill the rest, and make sure the public won't forget what happens when you get in my way, Deku said before walking through the portal. What the hell is wrong with me now? Deku said through gritted teeth as he stumbled through his lab. The pain in his body wouldn't stop and he struggled to focus as the edges of his vision turned darker. Deku slumped down in a chair and grabbed a syringe next to him. He injected the substance into his arm and let out a sigh of relief as the pain dissipated. What the hell was that? He asked himself as he began filling an empty syringe with his blood. Phoenix Journal, Number 4. Entry 57. The attack on Deku City was successful. All of the Liberation Army's leaders are either captured or dead. Redestro will soon become yet another of my assets. The remaining Liberation Army cells will quickly collapse and disappear now that their leadership is gone. Although, something weird happened in my fight with Redestro. Some sort of power awoke within me. First some kind of black tendrils that I could control. Then I erupted in some powerful green fire, I think. My memory is still fuzzy at best. Afterwards I awoke in something similar to my and Uraka's dream landscape. The only difference being that it was empty and there was a bald man there. My best guess is that he has something to do with One for All. Maybe a former holder. I'll see if Uraka knows anything. There is also another problem that has surfaced with my quirk after the fight. It seems that I, like many quirkless people, have a dormant quirk. Quirks that are locked away, often incomplete, insignificant, unstable, or unusable. I knew that extreme trauma could forcefully activate these quirks, but I didn't think this would happen to me. Now, my natural quirk has been unlocked and seems like it borrows power straight from One for All. Oh, how powerful it is. Great blazing controllable green flames. They could probably have rivaled All for One in his prime. However, it is so unstable. It was never supposed to activate, but my other quirks seem to have caused unforeseen mutation that unlocked this power. It is like a glass cannon. It could kill me. Even when not used, it causes damage to me. My body is unable to use it. I'll have to use a combination of chemicals to suppress it, so that it won't end up killing me. It's not ideal, but I don't need my natural quirk to succeed. After all, I have so many more. Just as Deku finished writing in his journal, someone knocked on the door. Deku, there is something we need to talk about, Dabi said before he opened the door and walked into the lab. You're back already. Thought it would take longer, Deku commented. It has been 9 hours since the attack. It's night outside, Dabi explained. Oh, I guess I got slightly caught up in some work, Deku mumbled. Shoto told me you weren't too well when you left Deku. Did you get hurt or? Dabi asked. No need to worry. My healing quirk had just reached its limit and couldn't heal an injury, Deku said dismissively. Now, what did you need to talk about? Deku asked. I met Hawks again. He asked to meet you. Again? You know, I'm getting tired of making up excuses, Dabi replied with a slightly irritated voice. Really, I have to say, he is determined. It's just that we can't be sure if he is serious or not, Deku said. I mean, the number 2 hero wanting to join a revolution that wants to destroy heroes. It is quite suspicious, Deku said with a slight laughter. However, if he is sincere, the impact on the public would be massive, he added and began pacing back and forth, muttering under his breath. All right, I'll amuse him. Early tomorrow, you know where. Tell him that if I see anything suspicious, I'll kill him, Deku ordered. Will do, Dabi replied. Let me guess, it's not a coincidence we're having a meeting while Deku's talking with Hawks. Spinner wondered as he sat in a planning room with Dabi and Todoroki. No, it isn't, Dabi confirmed. We can't let Deku know about what we will talk about here. If either two of you tells him, I'll make sure you regret it. Understood, Dabi said seriously, receiving nods from the other two. Good, let's get to business, shall we? Dabi began. I don't know how much you two have noticed, but there is something different about Deku nowadays, something he doesn't want us to know. He has changed since I first met him, Dabi explained. Changed? In what way? Todoroki asked. Haven't you noticed? Ever since he fully adopted Eri. No, scratch that. Ever since we attacked Musutafu. It's like something is constantly on his mind, and I don't mean the regular thoughts of revolution and experiments. There is something else he is keeping secret from us. Not only that, but his behavior has also changed. He is calmer mentally now than what he used to be. Maybe it is because of Eri, but I just have a hunch there is something else, Dabi explained. Alright, so Deku behaves differently. Doesn't mean there is anything behind it. Spinner said a lot that has happened since Musutafu. He became a father. The revolution has grown considerably, not to mention the pain in the ass that has been the Liberation Army. People change. He has simply matured. Besides, him keeping secrets isn't something new. None of us know for sure about his life before he became a villain. Hell, we don't even know his real name. Spinner argued. Izuku Midoriya. That is his real name. And for the record, me and Dabi both know his story, Todoroki interjected. Am I the only one who doesn't know? Spinner asked. Yes, even Stain knows, Dabi replied, making Spinner grumble angrily to himself. Anyways, all of this isn't just some hunch I have. I have one piece of evidence, Dabi said. He pressed a button and a hologram of a picture came to life above the planning table. The picture was looking at Deku through a slightly ajar door. He was sitting at his desk, writing in a journal. Only a small portion of the text was visible. A press-ud TV. Alright, so he has a diary. A weird diary with letters I won't try to pronounce. But not the weirdest thing I've seen, Spinner said. That's not the weird thing about this picture. The weird thing has to do with when I took. Because when I took it, Deku was supposed to be out on one of his trips with Eri. This is half an hour after he supposedly left and an hour before he came back, Dabi explained. So unless he has suddenly become a very neglectful parent, which I doubt, then Eri is visiting someone else. And Deku is trying to keep that someone a secret from us. So we need to find out who this person is, Dabi said. How? Deku is very careful about what he reveals, and to who, Todoroki asked. I don't know, Dabi admitted. Even this picture I got of him was just dumb luck. We'll just have to do our best at investigating him without waking suspicion, he said. And what about the revolution? Do we just continue following him knowing he keeps this secret from us? Spinner asked. Yes, we have no chance of achieving anything without him. None of us can compete either mentally or physically. Not to mention that the revolution is practically built around him. That's why we need to be extra careful. One misstep and, Dabi said, but stopped when he heard someone approaching. He quickly turned off the picture before the door opened, revealing Deku. Good, you're all here already. We need to make some plans, he said with a smirk. It's still a while until Hawks will be there. You don't have to go yet, Dabi said to Deku. Before I showed up late to meetings with other villains to show I wouldn't follow their rules. This is the number 2 hero who allegedly wants to join the revolution. This time, I'm the one in power. If he wants to join, he has to accept that I am in charge. He is the one that will come to me, Deku explained as he opened a portal. Don't blow anything up while I'm away, he said jokingly before walking through the portal. It's usually you who blow stuff up, Dabi remarked to himself. Sorry that we're late. Couldn't raise too much suspicion, Deku said as came out of a portal with Eri. I don't mind waiting, Uraka replied. Acha, Eri exclaimed as she tackled the older girl with a hug, making Deku chuckle to himself. Well, have fun you two, Deku said and opened a portal. And Uraka, he called out. Yes, Uraka replied. When I get back, we need to discuss something, Deku said in a serious tone before leaving through the portal. Deku paced back and forth in an empty warehouse, muttering to himself while waiting for Hawks. Why would a hero like him want to join the revolution? All he has ever said is that he just wants so little work for heroes that he can relax. Did something change when we appeared, or? Deku muttered when he heard someone entering the building. Before he knew it, he was face to face with Hawks. Well, if it isn't the number 2 hero, Deku said to the hero. Though, Lemillion might take that place soon. Unless Endeavor kicks the bucket, Deku added with a sinister grin. Just get to the point. I've been asking for a while now, so I think I deserve answer. Will you accept my offer? Hawks asked. Straight to the point, I see. Well, I'm afraid I'll need a bit more than that, Takami. Why would you, the number 2 hero, want to join my revolution? What makes you want to destroy the current order of things? Because if I remember correctly, you want a world where heroes don't need to work, Deku questioned. It's quite simple, you see. It's true that I hope for a world where heroes don't need to work as much. A world without villains and crime. You made me realize that heroes and the society they control is the source of most villains. No heroes, no villains, a new society. Sounds good to me, Hawks explained in a casual tone, while Deku looked at him with a skeptical look. You don't believe me, do you? Hawks asked. I don't think you're lying. But I don't know if you're telling the truth either, Deku replied. Although, I think I'll let you join. But first, you'll have to prove your dedication, he added. And what would I have to do for that to happen? Hawks asked. Not much, Deku said and pulled out a phone. You just need to do what I say when I call you, he explained before tossing the phone over to Hawks, and if you don't, well, let's just say you don't want to get on my bad side, Deku threatened and opened a portal behind him. You'll kill me, Hawks suggested. Kill you, Deku said with chuckle. That would be such a waste. No, my punishments can be so much worse, he said with a sinister grin as he walked into the portal. See you around, he said right before the portal closed. Izuku exited his portal and entered into a room that only he knew of, hidden deep within his facility. The room was dimly lit with cables and pipes covering most of the floor. In the center of the room was a big glass tube filled with a luminescent white substance, obscuring what was inside the tube. Less than a year left now, Mom, Izuku said and placed his palm on the cold, smooth glass surface. Less than a year until you're with us again, he said, small smile, and leaned his back on the glass tube. I hope you'll be proud of all the things we have achieved, Izuku added as he slowly slid down into a sitting position. I don't know how much longer I can take this, Izuku said quietly as he pulled his knees towards his body. Not the entire revolution thing, of course. I've never been so sure of anything else in my life. It's Ochako I'm talking about, he explained. Our dreams are both a curse and a blessing, Izuku grumbled. I feel so happy when we have these dreams. It's just me and her. We can talk about so much while we're walking through beautiful nature without thinking about our own problems, he said with a smile. But then I wake up back in the real world where me and Ochako are enemies, he said with sadness. And I know she will never join my side, just like I won't become a hero. We've seen each other's memories. We both know and understand the other's reasons for doing what we do. She knows perfectly well of the problems I see in society, and yet she... Izuku monologued before trailing off. Izuku slowly pulled out the necklace Ochako gave him and looked at the small green gemstone. A fond smile spread across his face. She is just so kind and caring and optimistic. She knows that not everything is good in the world, and yet she still tries to change it, no matter how little the change is, he said with a smile. There's no wonder Eri likes her so much. I became Eri's father, but Ochako is practically her mother, Izuku said as he tucked the necklace back under his shirt. I need your help, Mom, Izuku stated as his eyes started to get wet. I know where this is going. Where it has always been going, he continued as tears started to run down his face. I know what I will have to do, but I'm afraid, because I don't want to do it. I don't have the strength to do it, Izuku said, his voice hitching as he started sobbing. I don't want to kill the one I love, he shouted before his voice was drowned out by his crying. Why did I have to fall in love with a hero? It's not fair. I don't want to kill Ochako. I love her, Izuku mumbled between sobs. After a while, he stopped mumbling and just sat crouched together next to the glass tube, crying, alone in the dimly lit room. After almost half an hour of crying, Deku managed to pull himself together and stood back up. Guess I'll have to pick up Eri, as well as talking with Uraka regarding One for All, he said nonchalantly as he opened a portal to the apartment. Before going through, Deku took one more look back at the glass tube. Love you, Mom, he said before turning around and walking through the portal. When Deku entered the apartment, he saw Eri and Uraka sitting on the couch chatting. Eri, it's time to get home, Deku said, interrupting the ongoing conversation. I don't want to go now, Eri complained. I'm sorry, but we don't have all the time in the world. Go back to your room now and maybe I'll get you something nice later, Deku ordered and opened a portal behind him. All right, Dad, Eri said and began walking to the portal. Aren't you coming? She asked, noticing Deku not moving. Uraka and I have some things we need to talk about. Won't be long, he replied. Okay, Eri said and began walking through the portal by Mom. She quickly added and waved towards Uraka before disappearing into the portal, leaving behind a shocked Deku. Mom, Deku asked in a shocked voice. Once the portal had closed, she wanted to call me Mom, and I couldn't just say no to her, Uraka replied sheepishly. Deku let out an exhausted sigh as he sat down next to Uraka. I've already had enough on my mind today and I'm pretty sure we will have a dream tonight. We can talk about that then, he said. All right, so what did you want to talk about? Uraka asked. Let me show you, Deku replied as he stretched out his arm and focused. Black tendrils quickly shot out from his arm and grabbed an empty soda can on the table before taking it back to Deku's grasp. Seem familiar? He asked a shocked Uraka. When did you? Uraka asked. You have heard of what happened in Deku City yesterday, right? Deku asked. Yes, though burning an entire city isn't much like you, Uraka replied in a disapproving tone. If you want to know why I did that, I can tell you tonight. All you need to know for now is that I faced against a leader of another group. He was really powerful and put me between a rock and a hard place. I kept pushing One for All in an attempt to get free, and before I knew it, I could produce these black tendrils, Deku explained. Black Whip. The quirk is called Black Whip, Uraka interjected. All right, Black Whip. So anyways, I ended up winning the fight. Then I passed out and something interesting happened, Deku said. You met Lariat, Uraka guessed. If you're thinking about the big bald dude, then yes. Although, he was quite hostile towards me, but also informative, Deku replied. What did he say? Uraka asked. Besides calling me a thief amongst other things, he might have told me why we have our dreams, Deku explained. Wait, so you know how to end the dreams now? Uraka asked. Unfortunately, no. What seems to have happened is that the past holder's consciousnesses got split between you and me after I got one for all. All but one, All Might. Seems like his entire consciousness is within your mind due to him naturally giving you one for all. The remnant of All Might within you is the one who is making these dreams so that the other holders don't go mad. Nothing I can do to change that, Deku explained. We're stuck with these dreams until one of us either passes down the quirk or dies, he concluded. I see, Uraka said after a moment of contemplation. Anyways, how long have you had Black Whip? Deku asked. Well, it appeared at the end of my first year. Some other quirks have also appeared, Uraka explained. So soon? Why didn't you tell me? Deku exclaimed. I don't hear you talking about every single quirk you get your hands on. Uraka retorted. Fair point, Deku admitted as he calmed down. Will you at least tell me how many has appeared? Deku asked. More than one, less than 5, Uraka answered. You really won't give me more than that? Deku asked. Nope, Uraka replied casually. Alright then, keep your secrets, Deku said as he got up from the couch. See you later, he said and opened a portal. We don't have much of choice either way, Uraka commented. That's right, Deku replied before walking through the portal. Once Deku got back to the facility, he quickly went to the planning room and opened the door. Good, you're all here already. We need to make some plans, he said with a smirk as he looked at the others in the room. How did the talk with Hawks go? Dabi asked. As well as you could expect. He says he wants to join us, but there is no way to tell if he is telling the truth or not, Deku replied. So what are we going to do about him? Todoroki asked. We're going to take a little gamble and assume he wants to join us, Deku answered. What kind of gamble are you thinking of? Dabi wondered. We will assume he believes in the cause and use that to upset the entirety of the Hero Society. Because we're going to turn Hawks into the new symbol of peace, Deku explained and walked over to the planning table. Make him the symbol of peace? Are you insane? How would we even do that? Spinner exclaimed. For your first question, yes. As for how we would do that, Deku replied and pulled up a holographic picture of two familiar people. We're going to kill the number 1 and number 3 hero, Endeavor and Lemillion, he said with a sadistic grin. Now you've officially lost it, Spinner deadpanned as Deku looked on the pictures of Endeavor and Lemillion with a grin. I have to agree with the lizard on this one, Deku. I'm all for killing the old man and all that, but there is a reason he is still number 1. Not to mention taking on Lemillion at the same time, Todoroki said. Deku just chuckled at their concerns. Don't worry, we won't take them out at the same time, just quickly after each other, Deku said and started pulling up files on the holographic display. Let's go through them one by one, shall we? Endeavor is by all accounts not only powerful, but also skilled and smart, Deku said as videos of said hero fighting was shown across the holographic display. But he is getting old. There is a significant decrease in his speed compared to 10 years ago. Everyone already knows that he is just one bad fight away from losing the number 1 spot. It's a miracle he has managed to keep it since All Might retired, Deku explained. Still, we can't afford to underestimate him, even if we have 2 fire quirks that are more powerful than his, so we will have to use every trick we have. Make Hawks take Endeavor somewhere advantageous to us, as well as allowing the public to watch his execution, Deku added. Any questions? He asked. Yes. Where the hell do you intend to attack him? Dabi wondered. Currently, I'm thinking Kyoto. Endeavor has hardly ever patrolled there, making it an unfamiliar battleground for him. It's also one of the few big cities that doesn't have the HQ of a top 10 hero. We just need to make Hawks take a few more patrols there over a month and then he'll invite Endeavor over to a restaurant for a pleasant talk, Deku explained. Now, Lemillion is a different beast entirely. A hero not yet in his prime and he's still the youngest top 10 hero ever. He's also the fastest rising hero since All Might, not to mention his quirk which has made him near untouchable. There hardly exists such a thing as a weakness in him, Deku explained. Don't you have that drug that can deactivate someone's quirk? Like you did to me, Todoroki asked. I can make drugs that can deactivate someone's quirk. The downside is that I need a sample of their DNA first and then we just run into the same problem. Luckily, there is still a way, Deku answered and put a small box on the table. Overhaul never had the chance to complete his work, but that doesn't mean it was without results, he said and opened the box, revealing 4 small darts filled with a clear liquid. So we just hit him with one of these and kill him? Spinner asked. We won't kill him right away. Each dart lasts at least 12 hours. If we ration them, we can keep Lemillion imprisoned for 48 hours before we kill him. Just think of all the experiments I could run on him. All the things we could use his quirk for, Deku replied with a grin. So let me see if I got this right, Dabi said. We assume Hawks fully supports us. He will help us kill the Mr. Burning Garbage. Then Birdman helps us capture and eventually kill Lemillion. And at some point down the road he will publicly join us. Is that right? Dabi asked. Pretty much, Deku replied. And that's not even half of what we will be able to do now the Liberation Army is out of the picture. We can really start making mayhem, stoke the fire, do what All for One lacked the conviction to do, Deku explained energetically. And what is that? Todoroki wondered, getting an evil smirk from Deku. Start the fire, burn down the established order and set the world on fire, he answered. That is all, Deku said and left the room. Once Deku had left the planning room, he walked through the long corridors of the facility until he arrived in front of a prison cell. He then walked into a room that looked like anything but a cell. The room was properly furnished with pictures on the wall, sofas, comfy chairs, a dining table, a separate bathroom and bedroom, and calm music was playing from several hidden speakers. In one of the chairs sat a man Deku had defeated not so long ago. I must admit, imprisoning me in an environment where I can't get stressed enough to use my quirk was awfully clever on your part, Redestro said while sitting in his chair. Well, I can't have you running around just yet. Be glad that you aren't strapped down to a table and about to become a Nomu, Deku said as he sat down in a sofa facing Redestro. Like what you're doing to my followers, Redestro said accusingly. Don't be so quick with your conclusions. None of the ones we captured from Deku is under any threat, Deku explained. Well, as long as you want to keep it that way, he added. Don't think you can use my followers to extort me, Redestro said as he leaned forward. Extort you? I'm not extorting you. I'm giving you an offer, Deku replied as he too leaned forwards. And what is this offer? Redestro asked. Well, you see, my revolution is getting quite large and we could use another general as there is only 3 at the moment, not including me. We could also use more manpower in the coming months, Deku explained. If you plan on having me join your pathetic excuse for a revolution, then you can just leave now, Redestro interrupted. Leave now? I'm sorry to tell you, but you're not really any position to bargain here. Your remaining forces, no matter how disorganized they are still there, hidden around Japan. Imagine what we could achieve if your forces join mine, Deku said with vigor. I'm not joining someone whose ideology is the complete opposite of mine, Redestro said. Oh, but we aren't so different, you and I. Deep down we both see the same problem with society. We just have different ideas for how to fix it, Deku explained. We can well both agree that the way the government handles quirks is just pathetic. He asked. Yes, and you just want to make it worse. Completely controlling the abilities people were born with, never allowing their full potential to shown. Just so that the ungifted can live a little better, Redestro replied. Let me be clear, Rikiya Yatsubashi. When I'm talking about improving quirkless people's lives, I'm talking about just giving them a decent life that is denied because of the casual harassment, bullying, hidden segregation, increased poverty, increased suicide rates, record high unemployment, and the fact that quirklessness is treated like a disability, Deku said, struggling to remain calm. Yes, your ideology is great for everyone with high potential quirks, but let me tell you how I view the world. Any set of rules by which a society is run is like a chain. It doesn't matter how strong some of the links are, because in the end, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. We both know this society is weak, but I want you to look at your ideals and ask yourself this. What is the weakest link in your plan? Deku said. I know what mine is, do you? Deku asked. You raise an interesting argument, Deku, but I stand by my principles. I will not join a person who couldn't accept his place in the world and had to rely on other people's powers to gain a presence, Redestro replied. Fine, Deku said and stood up. I'll let you think and come back another time. You will turn around, he said before leaving the cell. Later that night, Deku woke up in the now familiar dreams. Hi, Deku, Uraka greeted before Deku had time to look around. Hi, Uraka. It's been a while, Deku responded as he looked around in the forest they had walked into during the last dream. Yeah, 3 days. That isn't often, Uraka commented. The two then started walking together on the same path they had walked during their last dream. So, why did you burn down Deku? You promised to tell me, Uraka questioned. Quite simple. The entire city served as the HQ of the Meta Liberation Army, Deku replied. The Liberation Army? I thought they died with Destro. Uraka asked. So thought I until they showed themselves last year. Apparently they reorganized under Redestro, or as you know him, Rikiya Yatsubashi. They went into hiding and gathered their strength, infiltrating every level of the system. Heroes, police, the media, and government. The Liberation Army had a presence within all of them. Deku was more or less only inhabited by them, Deku explained. And killing them all was the right answer. Uraka objected. They attacked us first and you might not have seen them fight, but they are suicidal. Their strategy seemed to be composed of overwhelm my forces with number, something that backfired, Deku replied. But yes, we killed everyone who wasn't one of the leaders. We don't have the capacity to imprison that many people. And I got busy with something else, he admitted. Something else? Uraka questioned. It's complicated and I haven't fully figured it out yet. But let's just say that One for All wasn't the only quirk with surprises in my fight against Redestro, Deku answered cryptically. All right, your turn. Why did Eri, my daughter, call you Mom? Deku asked. I was just making some hot chocolate for her when she suddenly called me Mom, Uraka explained. I almost burnt my hands, she added. And what did you tell her? Deku wondered. Well, she seemed so happy, and you know that you can't say no to that smile, Uraka replied sheepishly. You're not wrong, Deku admitted. But this might become a problem, he mumbled. Come on, she is just calling me mom, Uraka said. She is growing too attached to you, Deku retorted. I don't know if you have noticed, but you're a hero and I'm not. At some point we will, he exclaimed before trailing off. The point is that in one way or another, she will no longer be able to be with you. And I can't tell what that will do to the fragile balance she currently has, Deku explained as he calmed down. I know, Uraka agreed. But I'm more worried about how she will react to you being imprisoned, she said. Imprisoned? Me? Deku asked. And the next he knew, he was awake in his bed. Yeah, like I'll ever be captured by heroes, he scoffed. Are you sure he will take the bait? Todoroki asked Deku as the two waited on a rooftop. It's been an hour now. 6 known revolution members, 12 nomus, 7 heroes dead, and he is the closest top 10 hero. Your father won't risk losing his fragile image this way, Deku replied as he glanced across the street towards Endeavor's agency. And almost as if planned, Endeavor came charging out of his agency, propelling himself with his flames with several sidekicks following behind him. Speak of the devil, Todoroki began. And he shall appear, Deku finished. Or leave in this case. Quickly, we don't have time to lose, he quickly added and jumped down the building. Once Deku and Todoroki had landed in an alleyway to the side of the building, Deku activated One for All and removed a manhole cover. The duo jumped down the open shaft and into a narrow and dark tunnel filled with wires. Todoroki made a small white flame in his left hand, illuminating the tunnel as he and Deku made their way ahead. After a short while, Deku stopped and placed his palm against the side of the wall and focused. Suddenly, the entire tunnel blew open into a massive cavern with massive concrete pillars. The schematics were correct. Destroy these and the entire agency will crumble down, Deku huffed, slightly exhausted from exerting himself. Are you all right? Todoroki asked. Yeah, but using Overhaul like that takes a lot, Deku replied. Now hurry up. We need to tear down this place before our companions are captured, he said. Todoroki gave a quick nod before sending out ice across the room, covering every pillar. Loud cracks could be heard across the room as the pillars weakened. I would recommend getting out of here. Once the pillars are gone, the entire room will, Deku said. I know, Todoroki interrupted and boosted himself up to the small tunnel they had walked through. All right, Endeavor. Let's see how you like to see your achievements tumble down, Deku said as black whips shot out of his body, grabbed every pillar. He then propelled himself out of the cavern with One for All, ripping apart the brittle pillars. Within the seconds, the cavern collapsed on itself. Deku and Todoroki quickly got back to the streets and got a front seat look as Endeavor's skyscraper of an agency started collapsing. It started off slow as one side started sinking into the ground, meters at the time. Screams started to fill the surrounding area as people ran away from the collapsing building. The side that had been sinking quicker then suddenly collapsed entirely, exposing the inside of the remains of the building. Deku could see all the remaining psychics scrambling to evacuate the other employees of the agency. Not long after, the remains of the building came crashing down as well, killing the remaining people or trapping them beneath the rubble. This will ruin his reputation, Deku said with a smirk. Let's extract the distraction team before the heroes overwhelm them, he said and opened a portal. Deku and Todoroki started walking into the portal, but stopped when they heard an explosion coming from the rubble. Go ahead. I'll keep a portal open, Deku ordered. All right, I'll notify you when everyone is safe, Todoroki replied and walked through the portal. Deku turned his attention back to the rubble just as another explosion blew away pieces of it and a familiar figure launched up from it. Deku kept a close eye on the person as he charged up One for All. I can see why he wanted you, Kaken, Deku shouted, drawing Bakugo's attention. Deku, Bakugo yelled as he launched himself towards Deku like a projectile. Deku barely dodged the attack, slightly surprised by the speed. I mean, without Todoroki he had to settle for second best, he taunted with a grin. 2 years of hiding and you do this? Do you know how many people you just murdered? Bakugo yelled, ignoring Deku's quip. You mean Endeavor's employees? I never liked those who supported the system anyways, Deku replied nonchalantly. Same goes for you, he added in a cold voice before charging towards Bakugo. AP shot, Bakugo called out as he released a highly focused explosion towards Deku. Deku released a massive explosion himself in retaliation. However, Bakugo's attack shot through and blew Deku back into a building. He's gotten stronger, Deku remarked as Bakugo came charging towards him. I'm not letting you get away this time, Deku, Bakugo yelled. Me neither, Deku replied as jumped to the side. Bakugo quickly fired another explosion towards Deku. Deku briefly touched the ground and made it reconstruct into a massive wall, barely blocking the attack. Before Deku had time to recover, Bakugo boosted himself over the wall and flew down and pinned Deku to the ground. One wrong move and I'll blow your head off, Bakugo threatened. That doesn't sound much like a hero, Deku chuckled. I underestimated you before. I won't do it again, Bakugo said. So you admit that I am better than you? Deku questioned. You're just stronger, Bakugo replied. While you hoarded quirks, I honed my skills until I reached a level where you can't compete, he bragged. I see, Deku replied. He then received a message from Todoroki in his earpiece and smirked. Well, I'm sorry, Kaken, but as you said, I'm stronger, Deku said as black whips shot out from his hand and grabbed Bakugo before pushing him up into the air. Deku quickly got up and grabbed Bakugo with the black whips and slammed him back into the ground. What the? Bakugo muttered before Deku placed his foot on his head. What? Was something familiar? Deku asked teasingly. What did you fucking do to Roundface? Bakugo yelled. Achako, don't worry, I haven't done anything to her, Deku replied. You think I'm stupid or something? That was her fucking quirk, Bakugo shouted back. Oh, Kaken, you have no idea, Deku chuckled. I've just waited for the right time to kill you. And now, killing you to lower Endeavor's reputation even further before we kill him. I'll take it, Deku explained with a smile. You know, I hate you, Kaken, Deku said as his voice suddenly became dark and cold, making Bakugo uncomfortable. Bullying me every day, and for what reason? Deku asked with anger growing in his voice. Because I was quirkless. Because I wanted to become a hero, he yelled. Well, thanks to you. Thanks to All Might. Thanks to everyone around me, I found out. It is the system. You've all been indoctrinated into believing that people like me are worthless, not even worth your time, Deku explained. It's not your fault, Kaken. Don't hate the players, hate the game. Isn't that what they say? He said and removed his foot from Bakugo's head. But again, the players are the ones keeping the game alive, Deku said and suddenly moved to punch Bakugo's head with one for all. So die, he yelled with a crazy laugher. Right before Deku's fist was about to crush Bakugo's head, Deku felt a strong kick from the side that sent him flying. Before Deku had even landed, the attacker had caught up and delivered a drop kick, launching Deku into a building. You ain't killing anyone on my watch, Maruko declared with a confident grin. You heroes just keep getting in the way, Deku grumbled as he climbed out of the building. You bet, Maruko exclaimed before leaping towards Deku. Deku quickly boosted himself away with his fire feet, only to be struck from behind by Bakugo. We're not done, Deku, Bakugo yelled. Me neither, Deku replied as he charged towards Bakugo. Before he reached Bakugo, he was stopped by another attack from Maruko. Deku barely dodged the incoming roundhouse kick, but Bakugo managed to grab his arm and flip him over and into the ground with an explosion. Deku slowly got up, with cuts and bruises covering his body. Standing in front of him was Bakugo and Maruko ready to fight. The number 5 hero in UAS second best. How's that a fair, Deku? But suddenly stopped when he began violently coughing into his hand. He gave a quick look at the drops of blood in his hand before looking back at his opponents. As I said, an unfair fight, Deku said and quickly deconstructed the ground under them and turned it into blocking spikes. So I'll take my leave, he said and quickly flew away and into a portal before Bakugo or Maruko had time to catch up. Damn it, Maruko mumbled before she looked at a shocked Bakugo. You're not a half-bad fighter, she said. Yeah, Bakugo replied nonchalantly while looking towards where Deku had escaped. Anyways, we should start helping the survivors, Maruko said and turned her attention towards the rubble of Endeavor's agency. If there are any, she quietly added before jumping towards the rubble. Bakugo just stood silent for a while, not knowing what to think. Why does he have the same quirk as Roundface? And why did he call her Achako? He thought to himself. But after a while, he too started to search through the rubble for survivors. Later that day, a confused and exhausted Bakugo made his way to the UA dorms. Still going through the events earlier that day, he only realized he had reached the dorm when a distressed Kirishima started talking. Are you alright, Bakubro? We all saw what happened, and we heard about Deku, Kirishima asked worriedly, pulling Bakugo out of his haze. I'm fine, alright. Just leave me alone, Bakugo replied. Kirishima silently obliged and took a step back. Bakugo quickly looked around the dorm, trying to find Uraka among all the worried expressions. He quickly saw her and walked up to her. We need to have a talk about your Deku and your quirk, Bakugo said quietly, making sure no one else heard him. He then promptly started walking to his room. What did he tell you? Ashido asked Uraka. None of your fucking business. That's what, Bakugo yelled, sending Ashido a killing glare before walking out of the common room. Once Bakugo reached his floor, he heard Aizawa from behind him. Bakugo, do you need to talk? Aizawa asked. About fucking what? I'm fine, Bakugo replied and hastily began walking towards his room. Before he reached the door, however, he was stopped by Aizawa's scarf wrapping around his arm. Firstly, I'm currently on Deku's case, so it's partially a police interview, Aizawa said strictly. He then let go of Bakugo. Secondly, you've been my student for nearly 3 years now. I can see that something happened that have you confused, Aizawa said more calmly. Fine, Bakugo grumbled and began following Aizawa. So, what happened? Aizawa asked once he and Bakugo sat in his office. What do you want to know? I fought the bastard. Maruko came. We both fought Deku. He ran away, Bakugo replied. That is already in the police report, except that you forgot to mention Deku saying he wants to kill Endeavor and that he nearly killed you, Aizawa stated. Bakugo didn't reply. Bakugo, I know that Deku is a sensitive topic for you, but I won't see one of my students bottling up their worries, especially not with just a few months left until graduation, Aizawa said with a calm voice. So once more, what happened to make you act the way you are now? He asked. Bakugo let out a long sigh before giving a response. I don't even know what happened myself, he replied. One moment I have him pinned down to the ground. The next moment he slams me into the ground with round faces Black Whip Quirk and calls her by her first name, Bakugo said. Aizawa became visibly surprised by the information. I think you'll get more information by asking her honestly, Bakugo added. Then we'll do just that, Aizawa said and stood up. I'll go get her now. Uraka was sitting in her room slightly afraid of what Bakugo wanted to talk about. Both she and All Might knew that there was only a matter of time before someone would see the connections between All Might and her. But now she was afraid that Bakugo has somehow seen a connection between her and Deku. Her thoughts were interrupted when someone knocked on the door. Uraka, would you come to my office? Aizawa asked. I'm coming, Uraka replied and opened the door. Follow me, Aizawa said and began walking down the corridor. Is it about what happened today? Uraka asked. Yes, Aizawa replied and kept walking. Uraka quickly followed behind. After passing the curious looks of the rest of the class and sitting down in Aizawa's office, Aizawa faced Uraka. Do you have any idea why you're here? Aizawa asked. Since Bakugo is here, I guess it's about what he wanted to talk about, Uraka replied, briefly glancing at Bakugo. Aizawa nodded before facing Bakugo. Bakugo, why don't you tell her what you saw, he said. All right. Do you know why Deku has your Black Whip Quirk? Bakugo asked. Uraka stammered. Cause there is no fucking way he got hand of a completely identical quirk. Not to mention that you two both have very similar strength-enhancing quirks, Bakugo continued. Enough, Bakugo. Let her talk, and there is no reason to curse, Aizawa said before looking towards Uraka as she stared into the floor, speechless. Uraka, I've been an underground hero for a long time. I know how to read expressions. You knew something about this, Aizawa stated. Yes, Uraka replied. Then would you shed light on why you had information on a villain and didn't tell me or any other heroes? Cause right now it seems like you've been conspiring with Deku, Aizawa asked. It's complicated, Uraka stuttered. I should probably get All Might, Uraka said and stood up and began walking towards the door. Achako, Uraka. If you step out of this room before I say so, you will be expelled on the spot and I will not hesitate to arrest you for conspiring with a villain, Aizawa said loudly, making Uraka stop in her place. Then can you get All Might to come here? I left my phone in my room, Uraka asked. I fail to see how this has anything to do with him, Aizawa replied. Bakugo then had a look of realization. He gave you his quirk, didn't he? Bakugo stated, drawing the attention of both Aizawa and Uraka. How did you find out? Uraka asked. I've been suspecting it for a while. First Deku manages to transfer quirks. Then the guy All Might fought at Kamino could take and transfer quirks. And all of a sudden, you can use super strength. Not to mention the other quirks that has popped up. It becomes pretty fucking obvious after a while, Bakugo explained. Is that true, Uraka? Aizawa asked. Yes, Uraka replied. Alright then, I'll call All Might, Aizawa sighed. Toshinori knew Aizawa didn't make a call without a good reason. So when he called and said it was about Uraka's quirk, he got worried. He then arrived to an annoyed Aizawa, grumbling Bakugo and ashamed Uraka. Good, you're here. Could you please give me a good explanation for why my student and a villain both have your quirk, Aizawa said, clearly fed up with everything. And don't try to weasel your way out of this, he warned. So let me see if I got this right, Aizawa sighed. You have a quirk that stockpiles power and can be passed down. And you decided to give this quirk to one of my students without informing me? He asked skeptically. Well, Nedzu approved of it, Toshinori said meekly. Nedzu's approval has as much worth to me as your concern over student safety, Aizawa retorted harshly. Anyways, Deku also manages to get his hands on your quirk. And you still don't tell any others except for a chosen few when this information could have been vital to taking Deku down, Aizawa said. Tsukachi works on the investigation, Toshinori mentioned. One person can't see every possibility, Yagi. That is why we have teams of investigators on this case. You should know better, Aizawa said, making Toshinori shrink into his chair. And if that wasn't enough, this One for All also stores the quirks of the users which now both Uraka and Deku have access to. And to top it all off, Uraka and Deku have been sharing dreams for roughly 2 years now due an unknown reason, Aizawa finished. Is there anything I missed? Aizawa asked. Actually, me and Deku, or just him actually. He found out why the dreams happen, Uraka replied, surprising everyone in the room. When did that happen? Toshinori asked. Just a few days ago. He found out from a former One for All holder. Essentially, the predecessor's consciousness ends up split between me and Deku, and it almost drove them insane. But the remnants of you All Might remained whole within me, and your remnants connected me and Deku via the dreams so that the predecessors could be whole from time to time and gather their thoughts. Unfortunately, there is no way for us to fix that, and to be honest, we gave up long ago. Nowadays we just talk, Uraka explained. You talk regularly with a villain? About what exactly? Aizawa asked. Well, about life in general, things we can agree on and the nature we walk through. I'm sorry, but a lot of it is private, between me and him. We sort of, Uraka said before Bakugo cut her off. How is he? He asked. What? Uraka wondered. How fucking is he? I've knew him for a long time. He might act all high and powerful, but I can see it in him. He is hurting. I saw it when he visited, Bakugo said before trailing off. His mother's grave, Uraka suggested, making Toshinori slightly flinch. Did he tell you? Bakugo asked. Yes. He seemed very dismissive of that, Uraka replied. As for how he is mentally, it's difficult. Sometimes he can seem like two completely different people. Not exactly split personality, but more like two different mindsets he switches between. One is Deku, the unhinged maniac who you fought today, Bakugo. But he can also be calm, cold and calculative, plotting how to best destroy society. Then, sometimes, he becomes Izuku. He still believes in his revolution, but at the same time he becomes the smart, caring, happy and motivated kid he was before his mother died. He usually becomes like that when he thinks about his mother or takes care of Uri, Uraka explained. Wait, Uri, the kid we tried to save from Overhaul? Aizawa asked. Yeah, Deku tricked Overhaul and saved Uri from him, Uraka replied. Define saved, Aizawa said. Don't worry, she's doing fine. She is smiling and Deku has kind of become her adoptive father, Uraka said with a smile. Aizawa had a look of suspicions for a moment, but it quickly disappeared, and he leaned back into his chair. All right, I think it's best if we just gather our thoughts and discuss this further tomorrow, Aizawa said. And I think it goes without saying that not a word of this leaves this room, he added. Of course, Toshinori said and began leaving the room with Bakugo and Uraka. Actually, Uraka, Aizawa called out. Yes, Uraka replied. There is just something else I need to discuss with you, Aizawa explained. Okay, Uraka said and sat back down. Once Toshinori and Bakugo had left the room, Aizawa leaned forwards and his face became very serious. Uraka, there is one thing you haven't explained to me, and that is why you have needed to leave the campus 3 times a week, for Aizawa said and began shuffling through a few papers. Personal reasons. Because I can't make sense of what that could be, in addition to you being the only student regularly using that reason. And considering how you described Eri, I would almost believe that you have met her since Deku rescued her, Aizawa said. If I say that I meet Deku 3 times a week outside our dreams, would you tell anyone else? Uraka asked. That depends, but if you're afraid that I'll tell All Might and Bakugo, then don't worry. They are too personally involved with him as it is. As long as you tell the truth, I won't punish you, Aizawa replied. Fine, Uraka sighed. I guess it started when I let Deku and Eri visit the culture festival during my first year. He had some quirk that makes you not focus on him, so nobody noticed him, she said. That would explain why Hound Dog acted so weird, Aizawa mentioned. Weird? Uraka asked. He kept walking around gaining the scent of someone, then losing focus. He was just making growls at the end of it, Aizawa explained. So, besides allowing a villain onto the UA campus, what else happened? He asked. Well, I ended up running into them when Eri remembered me and grabbed my attention, making me notice Deku. We talked a bit and then just continued with our day, Uraka explained. Uraka then sighed before continuing her explanation. Then Eri wanted to see me again. So me and Deku, or mostly Deku, bought an apartment and arranged for me and Eri to spend some time together. The troubles began when she wanted to see me again and again. And as I soon came to learn, it is difficult to say no to her, she explained. I swear, that smile of hers is infectious, Uraka chuckled. So, just like a cat? Aizawa asked. Cat? Uraka wondered. Yeah, they just keep on nagging you until you give them what they want. Usually food or head scratches, Aizawa explained with a hint of fondness. I guess so. Anyways, after just a few months I was spending time with her regularly. Deku isn't there. He just brings her to the apartment and comes and picks her up once we're done. Although, sometimes we end up talking a bit afterwards, Uraka explained. We don't share information or anything. She quickly added. After a moment of tense silence, Aizawa finally said something. I see. So you've grown attached to them, he stated. What? No, he's a villain. These meetings are just for Eri's sake, Uraka exclaimed. I thought I told you not to lie to me, Aizawa retorted, making Uraka look down in shame. Uraka, there is no need to be ashamed. Many years ago, before I worked at UA, I too got attached to someone I shouldn't have, Aizawa said, grabbing Uraka's attention. It was supposed to just be a regular undercover job. I'll skip the details since they are classified, but in the end, a month-long mission turned into 8 months. During that time, I came to know a villain who was working for the people I was investigating. He was trying to help his family and had turned to villainy after he lost his job in a hero fight. He was a nice man who tried to do the right thing for those he loved. But he killed innocents to achieve that goal. When the hammer finally fell down on the place, me and Present Mike had to fight him. Due to my attachments, I hesitated and Present Mike got hurt. Only then did I manage to capture the villain, Aizawa explained, leaving Uraka slightly shocked. The point I'm trying to make is that these sorts of things happen, and I won't judge you for it, Aizawa said softly. Thank you, Uraka said quietly. On one condition, Aizawa added with a much stricter tone. What is that? Uraka asked. You will report any piece of information you get from Deku directly to me. Don't actively question him. He has shown that he's smart, he will catch on. But if you learn something from him, and I mean anything, even if it is when he eats breakfast, I want you to write it down and give it to me. I'll use the information in the investigation, but you'll remain anonymous, and you'll be allowed to continue your meetings with Uri, Aizawa explained. I can't do that, Aizawa. Me and Deku promised not to reveal information to those around us, and he has kept his end of that promise, Uraka protested. Uraka, I told you it is all right that you got attached to a villain, but remember that he still is a villain. Just today, he is responsible for 139 confirmed deaths so far, not to mention everything else he has done. Not telling me about any information you have on him is withholding evidence from an active criminal investigation, which are not only grounds for expulsion, but also criminal charges, Aizawa said sternly. Am I making myself clear, Ochako Uraka? He asked. Yes, Uraka replied in defeat. Good. I expect you to start writing down the information and giving it to me as quickly as possible. Of course, don't let it get in the way of your education or internship with Lemillion. That takes higher priority, Aizawa explained. That is all. You can go back to your classmates, he said, and opened the door. Okay, I'll go and write down what I know so far, Uraka said, and walked out. Once Aizawa had closed the door, he pulled out his phone and made a call. Shota, my man. The energetic voice of Present Mike replied from the other end. Hizashi, I'm going to need you to follow and monitor Uraka the next time she leaves campus. Don't let her see you, Aizawa replied. Why? She's one of your strongest students. I'm sure she can take care of herself, Present Mike asked. She's taken a mirage, Aizawa answered. You know I don't like it when your students ends up like you, but this is on another level of copying, you stupid. I mean, I still have the scar that guy got me, Present Mike more seriously. This is a lot worse, Hizashi. She's taken a mirage, with Deku, Aizawa stated. Oh, my, Present Mike said, that can't end well. Uraka, are you all right? Deku asked as he and Uraka sat in the apartment. What? She asked. You spaced out again, Deku replied. Is something bothering you? He asked. No, just a lot of schoolwork. It's just a couple months until graduation after all, Uraka replied. Kaken figured out about our connection, didn't he? Deku stated. It's that obvious. Uraka asked. Sometimes you're like an open book. This was more of a video played on loudspeakers, Deku replied. Plus, I know Kaken, he is anything but dumb. I revealed too much in the belief I had him, Deku said. He was right there, his head just beneath my feet, he said as his frustration rose. I was this close to kill him. But then that damned bunny appeared, Deku said through gritted teeth. Deku, Uraka said in a scolding tone. Oh, sorry. I got a bit caught up, Deku replied as he quickly calmed down. You do know that it is inevitable that someone in your class gets hurt or worse, right? You're all a bunch of overachievers, joining internships under high-ranking heroes. Kaken under Endeavor, Takoyami under Hawks, you under Lemillion, and so on, Deku asked. Maybe that is right. Or perhaps you could do something else than demolishing skyscrapers, Uraka suggested. You know I can't stop until I've made Japan a better place, Deku said. By killing innocents, Uraka asked. Uraka, I know that what I'm doing is wrong by itself. I've done horrible things and killed so many civilians. But I do that to achieve a better world. Maybe my actions will cost many lives. But how many lives will it save? The countless people's lives which are cut short due to society not allowing them any chance to do their quirk or lack thereof, Deku explained. Call me naive, but I still think there is good in society. There are other ways than violence, Uraka countered. You're not wrong. There is at least one good person in this hero-infested society, Izuku said with small smile. Who? Uraka asked. You, Izuku replied with a bright smile, making Uraka slightly flustered. Don't take it too seriously. You're just the only hero who understands why I do the things I do, Izuku said with a small laughter as he stood up and opened a portal. All right, meet you again on Friday, or the dreams, whichever comes first, I guess, Uraka said. Of course. Bye, Uraka, Izuku replied and walked into the portal. Bye, Izuku, Uraka replied with a small smile as the portal closed. She then grabbed her stuff and walked out of the apartment and locked the door. Meanwhile, outside the apartment, a very concerned Present Mid had observed Deku's and Uraka's conversation, and was now keeping an eye on Uraka. This is much worse that you and Mirage Shota, he whispered to himself. We can't let this continue, he mumbled, and began heading towards Yue, making sure Uraka didn't see him. Once Present Mike reached Yue, he quickly found Aizawa going through paperwork in his office. Shota, I'm worried about Uraka. I know you can't tell me why or how her and Deku got in touch, but they are much closer than you and Mirage were present, Mike said with worry. How much closer? Aizawa asked. I don't know, to be honest. They are definitely not a couple, but at the same they are closer than most friends. They also seem to have an understanding for the other's actions. I'm not sure. A lot of it flew right over me, present Mike. I see. That means I got the wrong impression from Uraka, Aizawa said. Shota, shouldn't we stop this? I mean, with how close they are, this could backfire immensely. Much worse than what Mirage did, present Mike asked. Maybe. But this is the only big clue currently in Deku's investigation. For over 2 years he has remained completely hidden from the police. Nobody knows how many is in his revolution, and nobody knows how deep his infiltration goes. If we lose this source, we might never catch him. Unless he does something stupid, which I highly doubt, Aizawa explained. I know that, Shota, but we both know how it turns out when you get too close to villain. I just don't want her to lose someone like we lost Shirakumo, present Mike said with a hint of remorse in his voice. After a long silence, Aizawa finally spoke. Hazashi, this will not turn out like that. Like you said yourself, Uraka is very capable and can take of herself. We just need enough time to locate Deku. And unlike what I did back then, she isn't undercover. We can easily keep her away once we locate Deku's base of operations, Aizawa explained. I've learned my mistakes. I won't let what happened to Shirakumo happen to anyone else. And especially not because of me, he added. I hope you're right about this, Aizawa, present Mike said. Just as present Mike opened the door, he saw Midnight running through the hall, alarmingly fast. Nedzu just put the school in lockdown. We need to get the students to their dorms, she yelled. What happened? Present Mike asked as both he and Aizawa quickly started running through the hallways as well. Deku's forces just launched a massive attack near Fukuoka, Midnight replied. Is Deku there? Aizawa asked. He hasn't been seen yet. However, both Endeavor and Hawks are present, Midnight replied. Endeavor stood in between the ruins of what used to be city blocks. He stood above the foe he had just spent a long time fighting. The Nomu had come out of nowhere while Hawks was having a conversation with him. Endeavor immediately that there was something different about this Nomu. He had encountered Deku's creations many times before, but this was different. This Nomu spoke, taunted him, and acted with an intelligence which he hadn't seen before. The entire look of this Nomu was also different. It was shrouded in a dark mist which seemed to appear out of cracks which would form along the Nomu's skin. The only two clear features were the white glowing eyes and the leather beak sewn to the creature's face. Not to mention, it was a lot stronger. As Endeavor looked down on the unusual Nomu, he could suddenly hear energetic clapping coming from the dust clouds around him. I'm almost impressed, Endeavor, an all-too-familiar voice said, as the clapping started to slow down. I expected it to lose, but not by this much, Deku said as he stepped into view. Endeavor readied himself for another fight, when the Nomu suddenly started twitching. Careful now. I would conserve my strength if I were you. Trust me, you'll need it, Deku threatened. The Nomu suddenly sprung up and ran towards Deku. I did ... as commanded. Master, the Nomu said in a deep, unnatural voice. Filled with pain. Yes, you did. And you've served me well, Deku replied as he placed his palm against the Nomu's head. You've served you sentence, Overhaul, Deku said with a smirk, and the Nomu almost seemed relieved. You're free, Deku said in a cold voice just before the creature seemingly exploded, its blood being splattered everywhere. Is that what you wanted? To test your sick abominations on me? Endeavor asked. A test on someone of your skill level? Of course not. As I said, he has served his sentence. And it was getting outdated anyways, Deku replied dismissively. So you just wanted to rough me up so that you could kill me yourself? Endeavor asked as he readied a fireball in his hand. Oh, you thought I was the one who killed you? Deku said with a mocking laughter. No, of course not. I'm just the distraction, he said as his voice got more sinister. They are the ones who will kill you, he said and glanced to his right. Endeavor followed Deku's gaze and saw white fire hurtling towards him. He barely managed to raise a wall of fire, which protected him from the intense blast. Once the flames dissipated, Todoroki came walking out of the smoke. Hi, Dad, he said in a cold, nonchalant voice. Shoto, Endeavor said as guilt spread across his face. I know that what I did to you and the others is unforgivable. I'm not asking for forgiveness. But you don't have to do this. Trust me, killing me won't help you, Endeavor pleaded. Todoroki's expression remained unchanged. Good, because you won't get my forgiveness. But if you want to live, you should come with a better excuse. And that goes for the both of us, Todoroki said as Dabi walked up next to Todoroki. I don't know what I did to you, but I've changed, Endeavor said. You really cared so little for me. Dabi chuckled. I know my appearance might have changed over the years, but I still got your stupid eyes. And the scars never really left either, he said and slowly traced a finger alongside the scarred skin under his light blue eye. Endeavor looked closer at Dabi and suddenly his face turned into one of shock and sorrow. Talia, I should have been better. I should have been the father you deserved, Endeavor said. Huh, now you realize your mistakes, Dabi laughed sarcastically. Just before your last breath, he said with a sinister smile just before he and Todoroki both launched a powerful tornado of blue and white fire against their father. Endeavor boosted himself away from the tornado of fire, barely dodging it. I'm sorry, but I still have to protect the innocent, Endeavor said and charged towards Todoroki. Weren't we innocent? Dabi asked and sent a wave of fire towards Endeavor. The hero quickly changed focus and opened up a path to Dabi with his own fire. Todoroki tried to blast fire at Endeavor at close range, but Endeavor grabbed Todoroki's arm and redirected the attack towards Dabi, who was blasted back. Meanwhile, Deku looked at the battle with slight dismay at Endeavor's initial success. Despite going up against 2 fire quirks superior to his own, he still manages to go on the offensive, Deku muttered to himself as he analyzed the fight. But Overhaul did push him to his limit. It won't be long until he has reached the absolute limit of his quirk. He'll either collapse from overheating or be burned by Dabi and Todoroki, Deku noted as puffs of smoke could be seen coming from Endeavor's mouth with every breath. The only problem that could come now, as Deku said as he heard someone cutting through the air behind him. Maruko, he smirked as he turned around to see the heroine aiming straight for him. But just as her kick was about to land, a large and dark creature came out of nowhere and blocked it. Come on and fight me yourself, coward, Maruko called out as she carefully observed the new foe. I'm not stupid. I've learned my lesson from our last encounter. I would also recommend focusing on rescuing civilians. The Nomu won't kill you, but it won't let you past either, Deku said with confident smirk. Like hell will pass down a challenge, Maruko exclaimed and jumped towards the Nomu. She tried to kick it in its side, but Nomu grabbed her leg and threw her towards a nearby building. The Nomu then charged after Maruko, leaving Deku to continue to witness the fight. Both Todoroki and Dabi had been damaged from the fight with their father. Todoroki's clothes had multiple pieces burned away, and small amounts of steam was coming from his left side. Dabi was much in the same condition, in addition to having lost several of the staples that held down his scarred skin. However, Endeavor was by far in the worst state. He could no longer maintain the iconic fire he used to produce around him. His costume was severely damaged, showing burnt skin beneath, and his left arm was hanging limp to his side, covered in third-degree burns. Come on, old man. Just die, Todoroki huffed and sent a wave of white fire against Endeavor, noticeably weaker than the earlier attacks. The hero tried to defend himself with an attack of his own, but only a weak stream of fire came out, which was easily overpowered. The intense heat and power pushed Endeavor into the ground with another set of burns under his already tattered costume. Finally, Dabi smirked as he and Todoroki walked up to their father. Endeavor slowly got up, but was too weak to attempt any form of attack. Kill me if you want, I deserve it. But you don't have to follow Deku and kill innocent people, Endeavor pleaded. Innocent? How many heroes knew what you did to us and did nothing? Todoroki asked. I'm talking about the people trying to have a normal day who have done nothing wrong, Endeavor exclaimed. You mean the masses who follow heroes blindly? The ones who vote for the same corrupt politicians every election? Those who can see all the problems of the system yet decide to ignore it, because it is easier to look the other way, Dabi retorted. Besides, isn't it better to go through a short turbulent transition to achieve a better world rather than continue in a world where the weak silently suffer? Todoroki argued. Deku is a madman, Endeavor said through gritted teeth and cast a glance at the green-haired boy who was silently observing him. What will happen if you win? Will you decide it is best to rule with an iron fist? Suppress anyone who critiques the way you think is right? Turn Japan back into a dictatorship? Endeavor asked. If that is what it takes, Dabi replied coldly. Then, Dabi and Todoroki raised their left arm, ready to kill their father. Endeavor stood unmoving as he slowly raised his right fist towards the sky. Goodbye, old man, Todoroki said as he and Dabi sent a stream of blue and white fire towards Endeavor. The intense fire quickly engulfed the hero, but the only sound that could be heard was the roaring flames. Eventually, the flames ceased, revealing charred ground and pile of dust where the number 1 hero had stood. Great job. 1 down, 1 to go, Deku said with a glee as he walked towards Dabi and Todoroki. We should probably get going, Dabi said. Yeah, wouldn't want any heroes to, Deku said, but was interrupted as he heard something being smashed against the ground. He turned around and with a shocked face saw that Maruko had somehow ripped the Nomu's head off and smashed it against the ground. And now, she was heading straight for them with a killing intent. Todoroki, Deku exclaimed. Don't worry, Todoroki replied as a massive wall of ice sprung up between them and Maruko, giving them just enough time to escape through a portal. Maruko landed at the other side of the ice wall with no small amount of frustration at seeing that Deku and his accomplices had escaped. Shortly after, Hawks landed beside her with the small amount of feather he had left. Where the hell were you? Maruko asked. I started rescuing civilians once he had beaten the Nomu. I didn't know Deku came, Hawks explained. Not like I can do much fighting with so few feathers anyways, he added. Well, you'll be number 1 now. You better start catching up some slack, Maruko said as she looked at the pile of dust on the ground with a solemn look. Yeah, guess I'll have a lot of work ahead of me, Hawks replied nonchalantly. Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.